Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with River Brown, Angie Velez, and John Tortorelli. And this is episode 278. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Bucks firing Mike Budenholzer, Joel Embiid winning MVP over Nikola Jokic, debate who's a better number one option between Jayson Tatum and Devin Booker, if Dillon Brooks is being scapegoated, and give our top 10 NFL teams and more. Shout out to everybody watching right now, listening in the live or after the live.
Only sort of kind of late.
Yeah, we were like an hour late.
Still early.
Waiting on Riv. He got his Jamaican food he had to eat before the podcast. Then we stayed here talking for a little bit before we started.
I was coming from the gym. It was mad traffic. So.
Excuses. You know where I was coming from?
I was in Paramus, though. I was at
in
LA
Fairlawn.
Fitness.
Thank you.
No excuse then. Well, no, I'm straight down.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Now, right now, Dehls is not here because he is currently in Florida.
This isn't Joel. The fuck? How did this happen?
This is the Flipper Junior.
That's scared too.
This is John Tortorelli.
What's going on? How you doing, boys?
What's up, John? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for the son's funeral today, actually. I got a son's shirt. It's all black, so I'm feeling pretty good.
I've missed you, John. I can say it back.
Thanks, you too.
You know, it is very interesting how, despite Chris Paul being out, which is unfortunate, he's probably going to be out for the next 3 games.
5, right?
I don't feel any different about what the outcome of the game would have been. I don't.
Interesting.
Had Chris Paul been playing, had he not been playing like he is not playing, I still have these Suns tonight in Game 3.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Do you still feel confident in that? I feel better about Suns in 6 than Nuggets in 6.
No, I feel better about Nuggets in 6.
Okay.
I do think that Chris Paul doesn't change this series much, in my opinion. He really doesn't.
Okay.
I don't think he does.
A lot of pressure on Payne to make some plays.
It's a lot of pressure on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker.
Facts.
And
DeAndre Ayton.
I was watching a video from Thinking Basketball, and he explained why the Suns can't attack Nikola Jokic defensively. And it's basically because they're a mid-range reliant team. They don't take many threes. And also because neither D-Book, KD, or Chris Paul can make skip passes because the Nuggets are leaving the corner open.
Wide open.
And they're basically just camping. They're basically packing the paint, leaving the corners open.
But I can't see.
Devin Booker and KD have not been able to make those passes, but D-Book did show the ability to make those passes later in Game 2. And I think that's going to translate to Game 3. I think he plays point guard today. I think he does.
To be fair to D-Book, he's got Josh Okogie in the corner. So I would not make that skip pass either.
You got to try him once.
And Craig, if you're the Nuggets, it's one of those, yes, he can catch fire, he can make some shots, but you live with that shot.
I think the good news for the Suns is that Monty Williams said T.J. Warren and Terrence Ross will play this game.
Well, fucking
for
finally.
more offense. I think it makes sense, and I think it's something that is long overdue.
Well, I think at this point, T.J. Warren just might not be in the right shape. That might be the bigger issue. That's why he hasn't played at all.
What was wrong with him?
I don't know.
Just not in basketball condition.
He hasn't played in, what, 2.5, 3 years?
Stay ready.
No,
that's
I'm saying, did he get hurt?
No, he
That's
played
why
on
he's
the
at the
Nets.
Stress
rotation.
fracture with his
He
foot.
played on the
so
Nets.
It may just be like,
He played on the Nets this
exactly,
season.
and it may have flared up.
Oh,
Or
that's why I was saying, like, what
not in the
happened
right
prior?
type of physical shape. 'Cause the season's long, man.
And why is T. Ross not getting minutes? Is he hurt also? Monty said, fuck that.
I just think he's just not playing him.
All right, Monty.
It makes no sense why Landry Shamit's getting minutes. Did you know that?
Landry Shamet minutes is crazy.
And my girl told me this because she's a Suns fan. So she gives me all the tea on what Suns Twitter and what Suns fans are saying. They don't like Monty Williams as a coach. Suns fans themselves. Now, when Monty Williams was doing an exit interview, I believe it was last year after they lost to the Mavericks, when he was raving about the Suns' young core, he was like, listen, we have Devin Booker still, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson. He didn't mention DeAndre Ayton. The other guy he mentioned, he was like, and Landry Shamet, we have a young core moving forward that we believe in. He didn't mention Ayton, but he mentioned Landry Shamet.
Do blame
That is disrespectful.
So I think
Shamet over Aiden is crazy.
That's crazy. They also paid Shaman over in. I would hate playing a DA, and you can kind of see it. They don't want to. It's like the Rudy Gobert effect. They don't even want to get the ball in the post when he's got his man sealed. I mean, when you have a center that doesn't play hard, can't pass, takes the same mid-range jumpers again, that's the worst type of big to play with. Worst type of big. Every single day of the week. I hate it. Absolutely hate it.
Bless you.
Thank
Reading
you.
these super chats before we get on to the show. RJ the God. Will Jal approve of this 4-team trade for your team? RJ Barrett to the Lakers. D'Angelo Russell to the Warriors. Part 2. Jordan Poole to the Celtics. And Marcus Smart to the Knicks.
He dead ass. I
People,
will never send Jordan Poole to Boston. I'm not bringing D'Lo back, bro. I'm good.
and I be getting RJ.
I just watched him take 50 middies the other day,
I love
and
RJ.
none of them shits winning, bro. I'm not vibing to D'Lo.
He had a rough game. He had a rough game for
Shocker.
sure.
Actually,
Dude,
not a
why
shocker.
was he fading so much?
He thinks
last
he's
night,
Kobe.
bro?
Yeah, the LA,
He shot so much more than Anthony Davis. I was floored.
He didn't want the ball.
He didn't.
This is from Pick a Side Meme Santos.
Go.
Warriors in 6.
Yeah, surprise.
Coden Finch, $20 donation. Thank you to Caden Finch. My apologies. Drew, love you, man. But do not disrespect the top 10 player in Stephen Curry like that on Twitter again.
Oh my god.
Should have gotten on your guy AD
Fun. I was having some fun.
for that terrible game last night. Third best center in the league.
You
Let's
didn't say
go,
a word
Riv.
about AD.
I did.
Warriors
I said,
in
please,
6.
AD.
No, I'm talking about
Cook up.
Twitter. Talk about Twitter. Did you
I
tweet
said,
about
please,
AD?
AD.
Talk about after the game.
Cook up.
Did you give him
I
any
said we're on to
criticism?
game 3.
Oh, okay.
No, because this is what AD does, bro. He has an unbelievable game. He'll show you that, hey, when he wants to be, he's
Best
the best
big
in the
league, he
game.
said.
There it is. He's the best big in the league. And then another
11
game.
points.
You know what, bro? We stole home court advantage. We weren't that good game 2. We were, Lakers fan, a majority of them, although I wasn't one of them, accepted the fact that we already were going to lose game 2. So the Lakers clearly showed that. We're on to game 3. I'm ready.
Pick a side meme. The John meme is fire.
It is fire. I'd like to laugh.
John Tortilla.
Tortilla?
John Tortilla.
How would you describe it?
John Tortilla, bro.
Tortilla.
That's what it is. That's
Yeah.
what it's called?
Tortilla.
Okay.
Yeah, I showed my girlfriend the meme, and she was like, you know what? We should make an Italian version. It's like John
Right.
Tortellini.
Right.
And like have like pizzas on it and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be
Are
good.
you Italian actually?
I was just about to ask that.
What do you think?
Yeah,
I
come on,
think you
it's
are.
Tortorelli.
Yeah.
That's just signed and
Tortorelli.
sealed.
He's
Italian.
Tortellini.
I am Italian.
Tortellini. Zay Savage. I need apologies for Westbrook name being ran.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, apologize.
I think Russell Westbrook redeemed himself this postseason.
Tyus
by
Jones
having
or,
his best run in a while.
Russell Westbrook?
I'm cooked on
Talk
that
to
one.
me. Talk to me.
I'm cooked.
Yeah, you
Well, it
should.
depends. I'm cooked. Probably Westbrook. I mean, I don't know.
What team is going to be on next year?
Westbrook?
Maybe the
Probably the
Clippers.
Clippers.
I don't know. I
They
think he's
can't. They bring him
outpriced
back.
himself, man.
Why?
Oh,
You're right, because they signed to the...
Just teams over the luxury cap threshold.
Oh, that
tax
starts next
threshold.
year?
Yeah. They can't really spend much money.
Interesting.
Batum could
Maybe
retire.
the Hornets?
Batum.
Batum could retire.
Robert Covington trade.
You ever heard of that song? And it was like it's some shit like why the fuck Batum subbed in?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hysterical.
it's been going around a lot. It's very funny.
Okay.
I gotta
Alright.
play it. I just can't. I can't think of the song.
Let me ask you, do you want
It's the fourth. Why the fuck Batum? Man?
do you want Russ anywhere near your teams that are bad right
All
now?
my 10 teams.
The Bulls.
Would you take him? If Lonzo's not ready,
Listen, stop talking to me about Lonzo.
stop it.
Oh,
You gotta
till
hold
he-
out hope
Hope for what?
that he comes back and he's
Bro, His knee
okay.
is fucked.
I'm praying to the good Lord that he's all right.
Westbrook and DeMar is nasty. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
This from
I'll try it.
Sean Joe
Cares at
Burris.
this point.
Is James Harden a top 5 shooting guard of all time?
Yes.
Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Dwayne Wade, and Klay
I
Thompson.
said Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson over James,
James
Harden.
Harden's way better.
Yo,
He's
I
gonna
don't
say
want to laugh.
rings.
I don't want to laugh because
Nah,
Clay might get
Harden-
offended at us.
Harden-
bro.
Harden clears.
No disrespect. Yeah.
Harden
James
clears.
Harden.
Would.
James Harden.
Only one's a champion, though.
He'd call us bums. That's what Clay would do. He'd say,
It's 4-time
"Fucking bums."
champion.
Yeah.
Q
And he
Bogavelli.
dropped 8 threes on us last
Monty
night.
be getting schooled and he don't play TJ and T. Ross because of defense.
Yeah, it's not like Leandro Shamit's a
It's the
stout
Suns
defender.
overmatched right now. You have KD, you have Book. That's the
Wasn't he
optimism
playing
there.
Ishmael
That's it.
Wainwright?
ish.
Yeah, he played Ish Wainwright over them. This from Pasky.
He's not serious.
Who
Afraid
is the
not.
better playoff performer, KD or Kawhi?
Kawhi, I'd say.
Peak for peak Kawhi.
Oh my God.
Well, peak for peak's actually harder for me.
What is peak for peak Kawhi? One playoff run? in
Nah,
Toronto?
2017 Spurs. Was that 2017? I believe.
Yo, he
2017.
got hurt. I would say 2019 Kawhi was peak, and that was
They
him.
both,
Well,
they
I
both
look at
threw
peak is
they both
like-
blew 3-1 leads.
All right, let me say prime. I'm sorry. Peak is the wrong word.
Yeah,
I'll say
against the
prime.
Nuggets.
Oh my god, I forgot.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, he
the
did.
Nuggets usually just do that regularly, so I kind of
Kawhi was amazing though.
And
Except
until,
game 6, fourth quarter, game 7, fourth quarter.
That was
Game
his
7,
worst
he was
series
not good. Game
ever.
6,
And he-
Game 6, he cooked. Oh, you're right. Until the 4th,
And then that series,
only
the
bad
one
series.
I'll say prime. Peak is the wrong word. Prime.
I would go Kevin Durant. I would go
There's
Kevin
no
Durant.
wrong
but it's
answer
close.
in my opinion.
It's
I like
close.
Kevin Durant,
I would go
too.
Kevin.
Pick a side meme. Whoever wins the Warriors and Lakers series is going to win the finals. Drew, just know I love you, and the memes is just memes.
Santos been messaging me. I told him it's all love. I know that he's coming from a place of great spirit, so it doesn't bother me. I know it's all good fun.
Somebody said, be honest, Siakam's still better than Randall.
just a backhanded slap to the Nuggets, man.
Who? Me?
Yeah, Santos.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
he
used to
completely
that,
ignored
but-
the Nuggets.
I'll tell you what.
Denver's a team that's coming out the West.
Okay. Okay.
Well, let
your
them take
belief?
Their,
Wait, what did he say?
He said that Denver's coming out.
Oh, now
the
it's
West.
Denver.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
It
was
John,
Phoenix.
it's always been Phoenix and Denver. That's all I said.
I hope they fucking do.
And then they played each other.
Yeah, and then they play
I
each
can't
other.
be wrong here.
Yeah, shit. I can't do it.
No, but I'll say this.
But my pick to make the finals out the West was Denver
It was Phoenix
for
first.
the entire year.
No, you
Until
dropped-
the Suns
yeah.
got
when
KD.
Kevin Durant. Yeah, you said Phoenix.
Then the Suns got KD, and I was like, you know what? They're the
Lakers
one.
are a better matchup for the Nuggets as opposed to the Warriors. If they played the Nuggets, I probably would lean the Nuggets, and that's no slight to the Warriors. I just think that Jokic would absolutely torch them. And with the
Isn't AD supposed to torch us?
and he did.
So if
Game
we
one.
beat you guys, would we not be?
Oh no, then maybe I have to have a different. You're right. I appreciate that perspective.
I kind of view the Nuggets and Lakers matchup differently now because the Nuggets have better defenders, point of attack.
Nuggets got some dogs
And-
out there.
Better defenders than who?
They have better perimeter defenders than the Lakers. They do.
Huh?
They do. They do.
Huh?
They do.
Please don't say nothing about Reeves. He's already gassed.
KCP.
chasing Klay Thompson.
That's not fair.
KCP,
Yeah,
Aaron
get
Gordon,
better.
Bruce Brown, Christian Brown.
Okay.
You said AG, right?
Mhm.
AG, yeah.
Jared
AG locking.
Vanderbilt. Shout out to my
Oh,
brother
wow.
Dennis Schroeder. Austin Reeves. I am gonna throw his name into that mix.
KCP over Austin Reeves.
No, I would take KCP.
He just said
As the
30.
defender?
I said I would take KCP.
Okay. All right.
He's getting emotions about
Come on,
Reeves.
I thought
stop
he
it.
said
I miss
Austin
him.
Reeves.
I miss KCP. I miss him terribly.
Klay just had 30.
I
He's
think
a
Aaron
goat.
Gordon and Vando is very close. It can lean either way.
Vando struggles in pick and rolls if you haven't noticed.
But
Yeah,
Aaron
yeah.
Gordon's more playable, so
He is
it's
playable.
ultimately
His
more
His
playable
screen
on the floor.
navigation is not that good.
I think Denver, what they're going to do against the Lakers is that they're not going to guard the three, and they're going to pack the paint against AD, and they're going to force you guys to hit threes.
That's what every team has
Like what-
done against
Aaron
us.
Gordon's also
Literally
bigger
every team's done
than
that
good.
against us.
You know what I mean?
Grizzlies did that against us.
But that AD Joker
Grizzlies
matchup,
don't have the offense that the
interesting.
Nuggets do.
Say one more
that
time?
AD Joker matchup is interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna get me.
'Cause AD you can leave him on
Riled
an
up.
island out there. So,
Yeah, good luck.
No, I'm saying like to defend the Joker.
Oh, yo,
You can-
facts,
you can leave
facts,
AD on an island.
facts.
If he's locked in.
Listen,
That's why that
Anthony
matchup's
Davis
great.
is amazing.
Yep.
He's elite.
Yes, yes.
I take Jokic in that matchup.
It's
I
tough.
do.
AD gives him fits.
It's all right,
He's one of
don't
the few
hate.
guys that
Hold
gives him
on to that.
fits.
Oh, of course, AD's going to give him
I'm praying
fits.
that it happens. I'm praying that it happens. I want to get.
But,
Denver
but
guys
I
are
do
UCF
think
really
I do
bad.
think that instead of Jokic being on AD defensive, they're going to have Jokic sag off,
Yeah.
be a roamer, and
Or
Aaron
be
Gordon
on
will be
Vando.
on AD.
Probably guarding Vando.
Yeah.
But then wait, who's guarding LeBron? KCP?
food,
Small.
and then who's guarding D'Lo?
LeBron, have you
Stop.
not noticed LeBron these
Respect it.
playoffs?
D'Lo has
Stop.
been very good.
Fucking stop.
One bad game again. You're off.
If
him?
Steph can guard him, Jamal Murray can
Riv,
guard
I
him.
want to.
cannot
Riv, I
guard
want
him.
to.
Just
I
guard
want to
him.
read
How many
you this
fouls
stat.
did he have?
Let's be serious.
Riv, I want to read you this stat. This is from NBA University.
Cool. Talk to me.
LeBron is averaging 6 drives per
Yeah,
game. in
this
the
guy's
half-court
really
these
reading this
playoffs.
on the
I seen it, yeah.
podcast.
The exact same amount of drives as Klay Thompson.
Yeah,
This
you
guy's
think
really
it's
reading this on the
injury?
podcast.
Like he's still dealing with that foot?
I
Or
think
Father
it's
time?
yeah, for sure.
it fucking finally. It's
It's
been
the foot.
20,000
It's the
years.
foot.
I
The
know
foot's really bad.
KCP is a smaller
He
matchup
is
for
small.
LeBron. I seen David Roddy
But he-
hold his own
But David Roddy,
against
come on,
LeBron.
Jamal. David Roddy,
Defensively.
he's a little stocky
but
though. like-
KCP is also
no,
you
KCP
know,
is a good defender.
I do wonder what's the post up percentage though, because that's really how LeBron's been getting his way into the paint. So we'll see.
You could put MPJ on LeBron too.
And for context, I'm sorry
Why
if
was
you
it-
read this,
yeah.
interrupt me. In 2018, the number for LeBron drives was 19 per game. So it's 3 times more than what it is this year.
I interrupted you.
No,
I didn't even talk.
I wasn't sure if Joel said that, so I said if you did say that, interrupt me. So I'm not.
I don't remember you. I don't remember him
Oh.
interrupting you though.
No, he said if I did, if
Oh.
he did say that,
Yeah, that
then
should call me a
interrupt
guard.
me. No, I thought the same shit. I
I
was
was
like,
like-
oh my god.
I know all these lower seeds are advancing right now. I do think that Denver's a legit top seed though. I don't know. I just trust Denver. A
Denver's the
lot.
best team in the West.
Yeah, I do.
Nobody's disputing that. It's just we coming.
This from Salo
We.
Marti Teodoro.
One of us.
Cook up trade packages for Cat or Gobert, please.
Let's
Oh,
do it.
God.
Carl Anthony Towns trade ideas. Okay.
Go ahead, do it because I'm.
Emmanuel quickly.
Rudy Gobert, 2 first round.
You want him in
picks.
New York? Cat?
Would the Raptors be interested
People
in
have
Cat?
been rumoring that around.
Would the Raptors be interested in Cat for OG and Obi. OG's only got 1 year left in his contract. Cat's locked up for like 4 or 5 years.
Need more money.
They desperately need shooting. The T-Wolves. Imagine a trio of OG, Ant, and Jaden McDaniels.
Buddy, you need more money.
With Rudy Gobert. What are you talking about?
OG for Cat, you need more money. Cat's making like 35, 40 mil.
Yeah.
OG's like 18.
That doesn't kick in until
Sign and
next
trade
year, 2025.
Vanderbilt.
No, but he's still getting in the 30s right now.
Sign and trade Van Vliet. Van Vliet and
With
OG.
Gary
Would you
Trent.
do that? Gary Trent's going to be off the team probably.
Well, he can.
You know, he's an
He has a
expired.
player option.
That's
So
facts.
if he accepts it,
Well, I mean,
Now, I appreciate the donation,
what's
Salo.
what's his number? Right?
One day when we have more brain power, we will cook up these trade packages for sure.
Facts.
That will be its own segment in its own
Man, I
right.
told you to
But we
show
have a
me Cat.
jam-packed show today.
That's basically
the
Cat.
payroll.
That's
No,
basically.
I'm saying so. OG, probably somebody else like Gary Trent.
This
it's
is
very
probably
possible.
this shouldn't be a hot
Chris
take,
Boucher salary. Toss it
but the Timberwolves.
Nobody wants Chris Boucher.
I don't believe the Timberwolves are trading Cat or Gobert this offseason. I think they're going to give it one full
I think
year.
I think
That's
the
the wrong
cat.
decision.
I think the Cat injury
what?
gives him a
I was
leeway.
going to say miss 50 games.
Yeah, it
It's
gives him a
nonsense.
leeway.
I mean, this year is a step back in many ways. You have to move one of them. I mean, the future of this
You know
team,
you have
it's
a
not
real
as
hate.
bad.
Mr. Reactionary guy
If
over
this
here.
There's a real hate towards us.
This
He's been
still wins
tweeting
the
about
league.
this for a lot.
We know what they have to do to maximize Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. It's the same thing the Celtics they do with Kemba Walker. You need to move on from Karl Anthony Towns and get pieces to actually support Ant.
So wait,
Because
who's the
this
guy
team-
you want to move?
I would move Cat
Because you
because
think they have
value's
two
higher.
Kemba Walkers?
Rudy Gobert should be better next year, assuming he doesn't play in the Olympics and get hurt again. Rudy just here's the issue. In the NBA, it's a lot easier to win with a center with no offensive game than a center with no defensive ability.
I agree.
Because Cat can't protect the rim. So then you have him go around the perimeter. He's one of the worst perimeter defenders in the league as well at that position.
He's also making $40 million.
And he's also injury prone too. And he's also a guy that when you take away his drive game is pretty limited offensively.
So you would
he
move
doesn't
Cat.
have that bag getting down low, getting to his spots. And I feel like in that Aaron Gordon matchup, he struggled and someone was able to kind of stonewall him on those drives.
So what would you move Cat for? Like another guard? A point guard?
For as many draft picks or young assets as I can to open up cap space, but then as notably open up that room in the roster for Ant and Jaden to get those reps. The faster they develop, the better this team will be. And then the worse that trade for Gobert.
I was watching Woj, and he said it's going to be hard for teams to keep 3 stars on the
Right.
teams. And Ant, Jaden, to do for some money, you still got that Rudy contract on it.
Yeah,
It's going to be
Cat's gonna have
very,
to
very
go.
tough.
Yeah, Mike Conley decision coming up too.
What?
Question though.
What decision?
Respect. Mike Conley was one.
extended.
He was a great
Well, he's
player
getting
for
paid
them.
a lot. I think you.
He's on an expiring deal
Yeah,
next
you,
year.
you cut, you
Non-guaranteed
cut
as
that
well.
money in half.
I think
Same to the Lakers.
that is reactionary. Give me let me answer me this question. What's the rush?
I want to develop these 2 young wings as fast as I possibly can. And Karl
Develop
Anthony
Edwards,
Towns,
who just played at an all-star level.
It's mostly Jaden McDaniels. Like, you know that's what he means.
This
But
is a
Jaden
value
McDaniels is going to do
proposition,
his
my
thing
friend.
regardless.
You
He
want
is,
to
but I
maximize Cat's trade value, and
That's
this might be the
facts.
highest it will be given. His contract doesn't start next year. His contract starts in 2025.
That's
Kind of injury
200.
prone.
That's
Kind
over
of.
$200 million.
That's wrong.
What's wrong?
Well, listen.
I'm
For
wondering.
one, I don't think there's any rush to make a move right now.
Okay.
You haven't seen this core play
That's
a
fair.
full season yet. Anthony Edwards is 21 years old. I don't think there's a rush. He's not in his prime right now. There's no rush to make a move so fast. I don't think this is the highest Cat's value is going to be. Cat just missed 53 games.
Fair.
If Cat, which, listen, just last year he played most of the season. If Cat plays most of the season and has an all-NBA caliber season once again, and the Wolves make the playoffs as a top 6 seed, now
what?
that will be the highest Cat's value will be.
How is he
Top
going to
what?
make an All-NBA team playing the power forward position where he's just limited at multiple levels on both ends of the floor? He's best playing the center position, and you're not going to stagger the minutes of
Why are
two
we acting
$200
like-
million
why are we
Power
acting like-
forward position's able to be.
Julius Randle's about to make
Giannis
it.
is
I
there.
was going
That's
to say
a forward.
Jaron Jackson.
Julius Randle's a much different player than what
No,
the
but it's 2
Cat's
forwards.
better than Julius
Timberwolves
Randle.
Make it as 2
It's not what
forwards.
it comes down to.
Giannis,
Karl
maybe not
Anthony
Giannis.
Towns is a
No,
center,
he's
not a
all
power forward.
league. Giannis, Tatum.
He can average
LeBron's
23 and
still
10.
alive.
But that's not where he's at his best on
Why
either ends of the
he's-
floor.
uh,
He's held
the young
back
boys
on
is coming
offense
up.
if
Also
he has to play the
65
4
games.
against power forwards. We just
I'd
saw
say,
that in the
yeah.
playoffs.
Am I crazy for thinking Cat can make an all-star game next year?
No.
All NBA,
If
though,
he's
he's not
healthy?
making next
All
year.
NBA is tough.
Okay, all-NBA.
Is he going to play 65 games?
There's no rules now.
And it's also positionless.
He can. Well, 65
yeah.
games is tough. 65
Positionless,
games
he's
is tough.
fucked.
Cat can be an all-star next year once again. He can. His
He
stock,
could be an all-star.
His stock right now is at its lowest.
I think that's facts.
I
John.
think it might get
But I
lower
think
if he
with
gets
now
hurt
it being
again.
positionless, it's really going to be hard for him to make NBA.
Unless, John, you're projecting that Cat only continues to be injury prone and he misses a boatload of games from here on out, then yes, you're right. But that's hard to project, especially that he came back, played really good basketball, not against the Nuggets, but still.
matters, doesn't it?
I don't
I'm not
think-
disagreeing.
I don't think there's a rush.
Played
We're
well
not.
against
We're not
us.
talking about.
He almost beat us single-handedly.
We're not talking about Cat and Rudy being on this team for 5
was
years.
cooking.
We're talking about giving this core 1 full year healthy. That's it.
Hopefully.
It's not.
That's the question mark.
That's
because
a
of
question.
Cat.
But you don't trade as much assets as you did to just
Give
see it
up.
for 1 year
You're right.
and then give up.
I agree.
That does not happen. I think that it's just too reactionary. Like for the Bulls, maybe it would have been a better decision for you guys to tank, right? But ultimately, AK didn't because you just got this team. You just got this core.
So let me ask you, what is the ceiling of Rudy Gobert and Karl
Trying
Anthony
to top
Towns
succeed, though.
making over $70 million in one team?
The thing that you're not understanding from our standpoint is that I really don't value Cat and Gobert. Like, you think I'm valuing them highly. I am valuing Anthony Edwards, somebody who just averaged 30 in a playoff series, who, against the Nuggets, the first seed, gave them fits. Outside of game 1, gave them fits, right? I'm not crazy to think that if Jaden McDaniels is playing in that series and guarding Jamal Murray, that series could go to 6 or 7.
Right. Joel Embiid averaged 30 against the Celtics in the bubble. He got swept. What did it take for the 76ers to become a really good team? Trading Al Horford, getting 2 shooters in Seth Curry and Danny Green that supported Embiid. I think the same thing goes here for Edwards, who is a type of player like
Wasn't
Embiid
Ben not
you
in
want to build around.
Ben
playing
Simmons
in the
didn't.
bubble?
I
Ben
promise
Simmons
you
didn't play.
that doesn't matter.
Edwards
Respect.
being
That was
built
before
around
he was
is
bad.
much
It's
gonna be
higher
a
than
5-6
those
games.
Ben
Games.
Simmons didn't play in the bubble.
It would have been
And-
5-6 games.
And also, that team,
Tobias Harris didn't play either. I'm pretty
Tobias
sure.
played. Tobias played.
So
he
what,
didn't play well.
He's always
Oh,
playing.
probably that's what it was.
That was when he was
For them to get swept though, what happened? I thought it was
Boston
just
was
Embiid.
clearly better.
starting
and
Josh
then you
Richardson.
mentioned
Okay.
this Boston analogy. The Celtics made the conference finals with Kemba Walker.
Right,
Am I
before
mistaken?
he
Or no,
was,
they were one game away
They
from
made it. They
conference.
made it.
No,
They
they
made
made
it.
the
They played the Heat.
conference finals, and he
They played
played
in the
fairly
bubble.
well in that series. It was the next year, though, in 2021, where things
Yes.
were not clicking. And then
But they
had to make
gave
the move.
Kemba like 2 years for that,
Oh,
though.
Tobias
Yeah.
played as hell.
That is true.
That's what I'm saying. Is like I'm not gonna just split this up
Kemba
right
knees
away.
also starting to just break down.
I'm not saying that eventually you're not gonna be right. I'm just saying to make that move right now this offseason when Rudy Gobert's value is at an all-time low,
Right.
Cat's value is at an all-time low.
Game one's
You might as well write it out one more year and see what they give you. Because if it is a great season, now you can trade them for more pieces. And the starting 5 when healthy is a good team, especially when you bring back Kyle Anderson. If you bring back Naz Reid, this is a good roster.
Are they gonna have money for that? To bring both of them back?
They should. They have
Nas
the
is gonna
bird rights.
demand some
Nas-
Wait, no,
back.
Kyle Anderson's
I
on
was
the
gonna
team
say,
next year.
Nas is gone.
Nas is gonna demand
Nas
some
could
back.
be gone.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
And
I hope he's
Unfortunate
not.
as hell.
And Mike is on a player option. I'm pretty sure.
Let's
Or
tell
a
No,
team.
Conley is coming back too.
Okay.
Everybody's
Well,
coming back
Conley
outside of Nas
is
Reid,
on
basically.
a partially guaranteed contract.
Cool,
I'm
cool,
looking
cool.
at it right now.
Okay, cool.
So Zay
20
Savage.
Yeah, Mike was
goes,
huge down the stretch. Mike was
He
good
was
down the
really
stretch.
good.
Yeah.
Is Westbrook for Kyrie a needle mover?
What the fuck?
What do we mean by needle mover?
How is they gonna do that?
Wait, Kyrie to the Clips.
But how would they do that?
I don't know.
They can't.
Is it a needle mover?
Sure.
Um,
They play.
Kyrie.
the Clippers,
if they play his OD, it's
Kyrie
fine.
Jonas-
PG and Kawhi is a nasty
Jonas
injury team,
Bernard.
bro.
Switch Siakam for Rando. Knicks make the finals.
Ouch.
Anthony Soprano. Katie needs 40 for them
RIP.
to win game 3.
Yeah.
Well, I think he gets 30.
We could see a KD masterclass tonight.
Caden Finch. Drew got to get on AD more. Can't be the best big man in the league having inconsistent games like last night.
It can, as long as we win
Jermichael
the
Green
series.
played better than AD. Poole over Austin Reeves.
As long as we win the series,
Pool over who?
I'm fine.
Austin Reeves.
Yeah. Never.
Oh,
in doubt.
yeah? Never in doubt?
Never in doubt.
My God.
Reeves hasn't had a good game yet.
What are you talking about? Game 1, he was fine.
Bro said fine.
He was fine.
He's making big time plays. What are you talking about?
Reeves is okay. Pool
Game-
had a
game
Pool
2.
cleared him game 1,
Okay.
and then both of them were stinky game 2. I'm winning right now.
Fair. Marginally.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Tribe won. Kyrie for Cat ? Also, Russ and Harden were 21. When you have a dog like Ant, you got to go for it. Help your star maximize his impact. Lakers in 6.
Him. Good
Well,
comment.
Russ and Harden were 21, but they traded Harden.
Bad move.
Yeah, they were
I
reactionary.
mean, inevitably. Well, didn't they go to the? They couldn't pay. No, it was they couldn't pay. It was either
couldn't go
Ibaka
to
or Harden. They had to pick one to pay. And I
Yes.
think they picked Ibaka.
yeah.
There's positional overlap. At the time, it made sense.
Yeah. They needed.
Totally.
They needed a rim protector.
Did it? I remember being young and thinking, why did they just trade
I mean,
the
they
sixth
did
man
go
of the
back
year?
to-
I remember
was
being
cool,
young
too.
and thinking that once Harden debuted with Houston and dropped
Like
consecutive.
his
40
wasn't
point
his
games.
debut. He dropped.
No, he
40?
went I
Yeah,
think
he
6,
dropped
7 games
45.
straight. He was just bugging.
Yeah.
But they did go back to the WCF a few times with
It's like,
Ibaka. So.
was it? It was for Kevin Martin or Ken?
Kevin might be.
It
good.
was
Reality
Kevin.
is Jeremy
Kevin
Lin
Martin,
walks,
Jeremy
so
Lamb,
James
Yeah.
Harden
and
could
Steven
run.
Adams.
You would think that's a good bench, you know. Kevin Martin was cool.
He was cool. He had a good shot. But it's James fucking Harden. Like, what are we doing?
They believed in Ibaka.
We give OKC all this praise. Now.
I mean, they did go to
Different
WCF
regime.
a few times.
And this is from Dehls. He says,
Yo, get the hell out of here.
Dehls
Yo,
in the
bye, Dehls.
building.
Not a super, but we had to start
Of course.
Fuck Dell's.
Whoa.
because we're.
Yo,
kind
you've
of
been
about
having
to
some
talk about
animosity
Tatum.
towards Joel. Is everything good?
Because every time he always be in my building, he don't hit me up to hang out.
Yeah, that's OD.
Disrespect.
That's OD.
Yeah.
In
Lives
your
my
building,
my
too.
building.
Yeah.
Lives in my building. I allowed him in there. Shit fake, bro. He's
Let's get on to
You're
the
on.
first topic
He's
of
a-
the
you know.
show. The Bucks fire Mike Budenholzer.
big.
He was the Bucks coach for 5 seasons, 271 and 120 record, almost a 70% win percentage, 38 and 23 playoff record, which is first amongst coaches in that time span, and he won a championship in 2021. Now, he was fired because the Bucks just lost in embarrassing fashion to the Miami Heat. They lost in 5 games. And I believe this is the first time that a top seed has lost since I think the 1968
No.
Bulls.
Spurs
No,
lost
I
to
was
the
gonna
Grizzlies.
say, okay, facts.
No, they lost in 5 games.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, 5 is, yeah. No, I was gonna say the Grizzlies came in there, whooped San Antonio's ass.
Let me ask you: the Bulls lost that year that D Rose tore his ACL.
Yes, to the
Yes.
76ers, 2012.
This the
Well,
Sports Center
injuries.
facts. This
Doesn't count.
Sports
6
Center
games.
facts. The Milwaukee Bucks are the first team to have the best NBA record during the regular season and win 0 or 1 playoff games since the 68-69 Bullets.
Yeah, see, we won 2. Joakim Noah.
That's your guy.
He got us 2.
That's a goat.
MVP.
Chicago legend.
MVP.
Is that the
Now-
best Bulls center all time?
Artist Gilmore, respect.
Yeah, you gotta
Okay,
respect
okay.
Russ.
So, do you think this firing was justified, Mike Budenholzer? And let's talk about potential replacements for Budenholzer.
Potential
yours,
replacements:
best player in the
Nick
world?
Nurse. I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind. I think that a lot of what Nick Nurse has done with Toronto was about development, and they've kind of reached their peaks as players. And now you give Nick Nurse the luxury of now playing with Giannis, Drew Holiday, Middleton, and Brook Lopez are up in the air due to contract situations. But nevertheless, Nick Nurse would come in here. I think that that's the best replacement. Now, to talk about Bud, you say the floor is mine, of course, because my opinion's on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo is, in my opinion, still the best player in the league, so long as Anthony Davis doesn't win a title. That being said, Budenholzer got fired because of his lack of adjustments. And he did win an NBA championship, and it's a funny thing that we saw Nick Nurse get fired. We saw Frank Vogel get fired.
Ty Lue.
We saw Ty Lue get fired. And these are all guys that won an NBA championship. It's a big, what have you done for me lately league, unless you're just one of those coaches that's just blindly and obviously great, like an Eric Spoelstra who overachieves year to year. Pop, of course, who's a legend to the game. But the lack of adjustments, that's really what it comes down to. Lack of offensive play calling as well, time management. But Budenholzer really has struggled with this essentially his entire tenure as the Bucks head coach. It was time for a replacement. Yes, they did win a championship, and it was a shock to see Budenholzer outcoach Monty Williams, truthfully. We thought that Monty would get the better of them, but Bud definitely did his thing there. But really, was it that Bud did his thing, or was it that CP3 clearly wasn't the guy that he was prior to the injury? Drew Holiday was a defensive beast that entire series, and Giannis Antetokounmpo went to a different world. And then you had finally Chris Middleton hitting his shots and being that closer for the Milwaukee Bucks. Everything was clicking all at once. Let me not disrespect Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis was huge in that series, but really everything was clicking all at once for the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Suns really just weren't ready for prime time. And then it was evident the 2 years prior where last year kind of got a pass, no Middleton. You did end up losing in the second round. That was a disappointment, but there's no excusing this. You lose in 5 games. Yes, Giannis did not play. I guess you could say that's an excuse, but you're still the better team. You won a game without Giannis playing. So Budenholzer, his lack of adjustments, his time management, it's just always been an issue, and it was time to move on.
It's always tough to talk about a topic like this because
100%, John.
there's so many different ways you can attack it. And one thing I do want to mention is that for Mike Budenholzer, when we do talk about him, I want to say condolences to him and his family for losing his brother, because
No doubt.
I can imagine going to work after losing one of my brothers suddenly like that. In a playoff setting, that's one thing I do want to be sensitive to in this discussion, because Mike Budenholzer is the winningest coach in the Bucks history in terms of winning percentage. He won them a championship. He built the system that allowed them to reach this level. For Brook Lopez, Brooks had a second career virtually in Milwaukee for 5 years now. He helped Giannis become an MVP. And then you look down the roster at so many different role players. He made them some of the best players, the best role players they've had in recent memory. He's a great coach. But the reason the Bucks, as you said, let go of him is because of not what he did, what he's going to bring for them long term. The Bucks are looking at this roster, and they're staring at the oldest team in the NBA that just got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. And you look at ways you can evolve and grow, and ultimately, what the defining element of Mike Budenholzer was in Milwaukee was that he did not evolve in the playoffs. And that's why they fell short.
Facts.
This year in the postseason, there was no second rebuttal, at least something that gave the front office some hope that he could make adjustments against an elite-level coach in Eric Spoelstra. As you said, Nick Nurse would be a phenomenal option, but to be honest with you, I don't know if that ownership's going to pay the big bucks for Nurse because he is a top 5 coach. I look at that coaching staff Bud has had, and a big part of being a great coach is your disciples. You look at Greg Popovich's coaching tree, it's all time. Mike Budenholzer's coaching tree is something special. He had Taylor Jenkins, Darvin Ham. He had Ben Sullivan, who's the Celtics shooting coach. He's one of the best assistants in the game. He's also got settle down.
Is Darvin better than Bud?
He's also got one
Taylor,
more
yeah.
in Charles Lee, who's been a long-time assistant. I think Charles Lee will replace Bud because they're looking for someone that's innovative, younger, and will add some jazz to this team. If you're Giannis and they bring a proven head coach who has accomplished less than Bud, it's a bad look. But if you bring in somebody that's a first-time coach and that's innovative and has to step up and bring something new to the table, I think that for these star players here, because Middleton will be back next year most likely, that's going to really get their buy-in. Someone that they have more hope in to be the difference maker that takes them to the next level. But to be honest with you guys, it does remind me a little bit of the Rockets when they let go of Mike D'Antoni. Because when Giannis looks around at this team, Brook Lopez is 35. Chris Middleton's knee issue dating back to college at 31 years old isn't looking good. And if they have to outpay him given what the market value is going to be for him this offseason, if Giannis looks at this team and he wants to win a championship, he's going to have to request a trade probably in 2 or 3 years. So whoever this coach is, make it that Steven Silas treatment where you come in expecting to coach these stars, but hell, in 2 years, you might be rebuilding this team from the ground up, and you don't have a lot of those first-round picks that are going to the Pelicans.
Is Frank Vogel an option here at all?
No.
I
I don't think Nick Nurse is an option. I'm
Really?
sorry. I think Nick Nurse is a motivational head coach, not an X's and O's head coach. He's not.
Really?
Yes. And that's from the words of Kevin Durant. You want to refute Kevin Durant?
Yes.
What does Kevin Durant know about Nick Nurse?
He lost him
He
in
faced
the
him in the
finals.
finals.
I guess he saw that boxing one on
Did he
Steph.
play
didn't
11
like it.
minutes?
I don't understand
Nick
why
Nurse-
that
Nick
has
Nurse-
any validity with me.
There's a reason why
It's
Nick
Kevin
Nurse,
Durant. That's fine. But
there's a reason why
Kevin
Nick,
Durant also hated Steve Kerr at one point.
there's a reason why Nick Nurse is out of Toronto. I think they needed a different voice. He's somebody that's very in your face. He plays his guys a lot of minutes. He's very Tom Thibodeau-esque in that regard. Nick Nurse has not done anything since getting gifted Kawhi as a coach.
what are you talking about? The year after, weren't they the 2 seed?
He won 48 games last year. What are you talking about? He took Doug
And there was
Rivers
also
Joel
a
Embiid to
situation-
Yeah,
He's
that was a
missed
tough
two
And that was
playoffs.
series.
also a
almost came back
situation that they
3-1 in the
could.
first
He's
round.
missed the playoffs twice already.
But are we going to add context to that 1 year they didn't play any home games?
No, they're in Tampa Bay. There you go.
Okay, what about
Yeah,
this
no
past
home
year?
games. Hey,
What
no
about this
excuse.
past year?
No excuse.
This
They
past
booed at
year,
home.
they had the
No
most
excuse.
tradable assets in NBA history. I'm talking about everybody on their
that goes to
team.
the coach.
They-
Yeah.
and everybody on their team is suddenly a needle mover for other teams, and they cannot
You
make
blaming
the
it on
playoffs.
Nurse though?
I think he definitely deserves blame for giving this much blame to Budenholzer. I think Nick Nurse deserves some blame.
Okay.
I mean, the adjustment, when we talk about the adjustments that Nick Nurse has made, we talk about that finals run. The Philadelphia series is an inept offensive series for everybody on the Raptors. Nick Nurse is not creative offensively. He just so happened to have a top 5 offensive player at his peak in the playoffs in Kawhi Leonard, who catapulted them to win that series. You think about
Beating Milwaukee.
the East Coast Finals, the adjustment they made was Kawhi took on Giannis. It wasn't any adjustment that Nick Nurse made. It was, listen, Kawhi, you're now guarding the best player. And in the finals, they faced an injured Golden State team.
That's
I'm not
facts.
talking about just injury to KD. I'm talking about Klay Thompson hurt, and that was,
Well,
it was
Klay Thompson played 4 games in that series.
but he got
3
hurt.
and some change.
He got hurt when they was making a
No, it was 3
run.
and some change.
He was cooking.
He left
Yeah.
one game.
Shit,
was
you're
amazing.
Right. It's
Yeah.
3.5.
He was taking
like- he let the
taking
game
over.
sit. And then
Curry
He was
came in
taking
clutch.
over, and he got hurt.
Boxing one.
So this is the thing. This thing I don't understand. When it comes to certain coaches, certain players,
There we go.
they get certain criticism
Right.
that is not, the energy is not kept for other people, other coaches in that same regard.
It's because
For
Nick
example-
Nurse didn't have Giannis Antetokounmpo in
example-
the best record.
Okay,
That's
Kawhi
why.
Leonard. But
Well, they won.
and
The 1 year he had him, they won.
Bud won with Giannis.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And then just lost in the first round.
Mike Budenholzer with the Bucks, he totally changed their culture. You look at as a coach with Jason Kidd and Joe Prunty, who they had after they fired Jason Kidd, 42 wins, 44 wins. The Bucks were a perpetual first round exit. They lost to the Celtics in 7 games. I'm talking about rookie Tatum, second year Jaylen Brown. Al Horford led them in scoring that series.
Does it go hand in hand with Giannis's development?
Giannis was great that year.
Agreed, but he didn't.
Yeah, I think that was like his startup.
He just continued to turn it
because
up.
before Mike Budenholzer got to the Bucks, Giannis had made 2 All-NBA teams already. So Giannis was an All-NBA player, and he lost to the Celtics in 7 games. I'm talking about a young, up-and-coming team.
What was it?
Chris
Celtics,
Middleton
Bulls
was there too.
Also beat him the year before.
They were a perpetual first-round
You're
exit.
right,
Mike
that was with
Budenholzer,
MCW and shit, right?
yeah, Mike Budenholzer gets there and his 50 wins, first seed, year after year after year, 70% win percentage. And for everybody that loves to talk about the playoff run, you get lucky sometimes. The Hawks Eastern Conference Finals matchup, I don't believe the Hawks were a legit conference finals team, but you get lucky sometimes. They beat them. In the finals, you face the Suns, who people have criticized as being a team that was a fluke. Okay, you beat them. I always believe, and I still believe to this day, that the Nets would have beat the Bucks had they been healthy.
I agree.
I believe
100%.
that. But sometimes you catch breaks, and sometimes you face teams without their star players in the playoffs, and you advance. That's happened to multiple teams in NBA history, so we cannot discredit Mike Budenholzer for that, because other coaches have had those same luxuries happen to them. I think Mike Budenholzer is a phenomenal head coach. I think this firing is the beginning of the end for the Bucks as we know them. Brook Lopez is an unrestricted free agent. He's not going to come back most likely. He's already old. Chris Middleton has a player option for $40 million, which you will probably accept because at this point in time, he's not a $40 million player, and he won't get that on the open market.
I think he's declining that.
I would.
This is a shitty. He's declining that.
They don't have
They
no
just
young
play
Didn't
bottom
he
talent.
line.
play well
Shit.
in game 5?
He played a good series outside
Okay.
of the ending.
The bottom line is
Second
that
half.
the Bucks are paying Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday a combined $121 million next season if Middleton does accept that option, which I think he will.
He will.
The Bucks core is not good enough to win in the playoffs anymore. And I think Giannis's offensive limitations in the playoffs also get exposed. There's a reason every single time Giannis faces the Heat, his stats are poor. In this playoff series, he did play well.
Shut up.
You talk about the bubble year,
Talk your
he
shit
got
again.
embarrassed. It's actually
I'm not saying you to shut up. I'm telling Rich.
it's actually
He's cooking.
It's actually
Grease.
it's actually
Relax.
astonishing. The bubble year when Giannis won MVP, he got embarrassed by the Heat in that first round. They actually in the second round, Chris Middleton actually got them a win. He won them a game without Giannis. The same way in this first round, they won a game without Giannis.
Right.
Even in the year they swept the Miami Heat, Giannis didn't play well in that first round series. He averaged 22 points
Wasn't that
and
good.
10 rebounds, and his
He averaged
efficiency
15
was
rebounds.
not good.
Definitely his worst.
15
playoffs.
points?
15 rebounds.
15 rebounds. When it comes to Giannis, I do think that it's hard when you're coaching this team and your best offensive player is Giannis because he doesn't have an outside game. If you look at the shot chart from this first round series, everywhere on the field, it was all inefficient shots outside of paint baskets and baskets at the top of the free throw line. Giannis doesn't have a developed offensive skill set. And because of that in the playoffs, it's very easy to scheme up for that. I think Budenholzer has done a good job in Milwaukee. Can you dissect it? And can you say he could have done better? Yes. I think we can do that with anybody. I mean,
Sure.
every single coach gets
The
held
steps
to
of
this
success, man.
microscope all the time. Steve Kerr is an all-time great coach. We got people laughing at Jermichael Green starting
I was
yesterday.
gonna say, yo, bro.
He ain't watched what I've seen this shit. I done seen some shit.
The issue with coaches and why they get fired so quickly is because when you have expectations and you fail to live up to those expectations, despite any outside factor, the coach is always going to get the bulk of the blame. And I think that's happened time and time again. Nick Nurse with the Raptors, Mike Budenholzer with the Bucks. You can even say Frank Vogel with the Lakers.
Sure.
You know,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
the list goes on and on. So I think Mike Budenholzer will bounce back from this just fine. He'll be a great coach somewhere else, and he'll be once again a coach that goes to a new team and sparks them into a great team because I think that he's that great of a coach.
He made that Hawks team a 61 squad. Like, this is one of the best regular season coaches that I want to give some flowers to because this is the second different team he's maximized, man.
That's
You look at teams around the league like the Pistons that don't have much of direction but have a ton of young talent, a ton of it. They just can't put the right pieces out.
He would be perfect
mesh
for
them.
them.
I think he'd be great for a team and
We're talking about a coach that went to Atlanta and made Al Horford, Paul Millsap, Jeff Teague, and Kyle Korver all-stars.
Respect Al Horford.
Korver was a replacement. I like I
Respect Kyle Korver.
I averaged 12 points.
He averaged 12 points and was an all-star.
Imagine Joe Harris being all-star. What would you say?
It'd be nuts.
Yeah.
The East sucked.
It wasn't that good.
It was not great.
But you give credit to the team for winning 60. I think they won 60+ games. First seed, impressive season. I think Mike Budenholzer just got fired because he just couldn't adapt and adjust in the playoffs. I think the conversation has shifted to, he's this great coach, and people are saying he's this great coach, phenomenal coach. But he was literally the conversation of him getting fired happened against the Nets. Like, people were talking about he was going to get fired if he didn't win that series. So I think it's interesting that the conversation has now shifted to he's a great coach. When they were going to fire him 2 years ago, if not for injuries. But you mentioned it, luck happens, shit happens. Whatever. But I just think he just doesn't adjust and adapt in the playoffs. He showed Jimmy Butler the same look every game. That is inexcusable. That he's cooking your best player, your best defensive player on the perimeter, and you're showing him the same exact look. Now, I don't know if it's because you don't have the proper personnel or you just trust your guy Drew Holiday. I understand Drew Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders, but Jimmy's cooking him. You have to change up, and I think that was the issue.
It happened with the Nets in the second round series against KD too.
Kevin Durant was torching. He didn't change up his look. He just let PJ Tucker die.
I think for the Heat series, it's a bit different because although on paper we look at the Heat talent and we don't think it's that great, Jimmy Butler was great that series, and every single shooter around Butler was hitting three-point shots at a crazy rate. Right. So I think even if Budenholzer started doubling Butler, and now you give Duncan Robinson these open looks, and he starts making them, now there's criticism there too. I think it was a tough decision given how hot the Heat shooters were to just say double Jimmy and now give these guys open shots.
I get what you mean, but not only was they hot, Jimmy was cooking. So now what do we?
You take
you got to take something away.
He
didn't take anything away. They were shooting the lights out, which isn't his fault, but Jimmy's cooking you. So now it's like you have two things. You have to take one away. You can't take either away. It's like you have the best guard defender, the best big man defender, a guy who was top 3 in defensive ranking this year for Defensive Player of the Year. So I think that's why he got fired. I do think in terms of the Budenholzer-Nick Nurse conversation, I think that one is just a little bit of Nick Nurse has shown that he overachieves with his teams in the regular season. People say he runs his team to the ground, but in reality, they don't have a bench, and they never have really had a bench.
One for 3 seasons.
Yeah, they haven't had, like that one team in the bubble, Toronto. That was a deep team.
Oh, yeah.
It just didn't have Kawhi. They brought these same guys back, 9-10 deep. They went to the second round. They gave Boston, if I'm not mistaken, fits. Went 7 games down to the wire. So Nick Nurse has shown the ability to overachieve as opposed to Budenholzer. He has also shown that ability, but as of recent, he's had arguably the best player in the world. So, he gets a little different case than Nick Nurse. But I do think he'll end up with another job. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's
sure.
When I say think phenomenal, I think Spo, I think Kerr, I think Pop. I just think of the top. But I think Budenholzer. Crazy. I think Budenholzer is a really good coach. He will undoubtedly get another job, especially because he did win a ring. But I do think the adjustments against the Heat really, really haunted him and ripped to his brother and stuff like that. That definitely puts a toll on you. But he's been doing this consistently, so it's like in the playoffs, his lack of adjustments, his lack of adaptment. That's tough, especially for a team who wants to win a championship. You have to be on your A game just as much as your players have to be on your A game. You can't. You got Giannis, you got Chris, you got Drew. I do think we didn't talk about Drew Holiday enough. Right. I think we need to get into that conversation.
That's funny because all I was trying to do was tell you to talk about Drew Holiday, and you fucking refused.
Can I speak? I'm talking about right now.
Also, to be fair though, they try to take the 3-point shot away. They hit 54% of their contested threes. I think we saw a series from Miami shooting wise that was an anomaly.
Game 1 it happened.
It just.
I'm talking game 1.
Listen, you try to take something away, and they just were hitting shots in your player's face. There's nothing you can do at that point. Everybody on the Heat, outside of Kyle Lowry and Bam Adebayo, shot over 40% from 3, and Kyle Lowry shot 36% from 3. Everybody.
Is Drew cooked?
Is it time to have that conversation?
He's not underrated. You can stop saying that.
But it's like we've let him slide with these dog shit offensive performances in the playoffs. Like, this has been consistent, but we let it slide because he's a great defender. You know, he gives him, and he always has this one moment in the series where he just
saying it's really Eric Bledsoe.
no, because Drew Holiday at one point in the playoff series will win you a game just off his defense.
Right.
I think Drew Holiday is a good player. He's not an all-star. He's not an all-NBA player.
So he's a glorified role player. Is that what the word
Yeah,
is?
he's a high-level role player.
The fact that Drew Holiday made the All-Star game over James Harden is ridiculous.
There we go.
It's so stupid.
It was ridiculous.
Well,
At the
he's
time,
a
it was
much
ridiculous.
better regular season performer offensively than he is in the playoffs, where his
drop
He's a,
off
he's a 19 and 7
So I have
guy
to
in the
free one
regular
with that
season.
statement.
but he's much more
Almost lost my
efficient and
mind.
consistent.
I know,
as
but
a-
he's
as
a
a lead
19 and
guard.
7 guy in the regular season.
Yeah.
He's a good, great player. He's not an all-star. He's not an all-NBA.
Is that
player.
around what he averages in the playoffs too?
Well, he shoots
Probably
like
drops off.
36% in the playoffs.
No, his efficiency is not great, but I do wonder if it's essentially the same average. It's just poor efficiency.
So this past season, Drew averaged 19 and 7 in the regular season. He averaged 18 and 8 in the playoffs.
Not ideal. And what was the efficiency?
His averages in the playoffs is basically 18 and 7. Regular season, it's 16 and 7.
Like each year, he can have monster playoff games. And like Drew is a great player. Like he's a top 15,
great
top
player.
40 guy. Saying he's not an all-star to me is a little bit
He's not.
reactionary.
All-Star
He
is 30
is.
people.
And like this man was an all-star
God,
in 2
his
separate
efficiency's-
decades too. He had like an 8-year gap not being named an all-star. I think he deserved that recognition.
He was an all-star with the Pelicans?
With
No,
the
with,
76ers, man.
Sixers.
Well,
I
that
know.
1 year with the
13.
Pelicans,
He was nice.
No, he was an all-star with the Sixers, I know. And that was
Yeah.
when people thought he was this next great up-and-coming
He was a
point
19
guard.
and 7 guy, I think, that year.
But when he got to the Pelicans, he was never an all-star. Right?
No, but he was insane in the playoffs.
he had
was
a good playoff
insane.
series.
Versus Portland,
For sure.
now.
Oh, but then against the Warriors, facts.
But
That
we
shit
talking
was
about in the
drill.
Pelicans for his first 3 years with Pelicans, 14 and 8, 15 and 7, 17 and 6. Those aren't all-star numbers. Like I think if we talk about the 2 point guards that jump into my mind that haven't been given all-star nods that you can classify as underrated are Drew Holiday and Mike Conley.
Mm.
I think Drew Holiday is better than Mike Conley.
Oh yeah.
I don't know by how much though.
I think defensively,
who?
Drew.
Mike
in the
Conley
last
and Drew
3
Holiday
years
at their
has
best.
been
I think
a
Drew.
lot
Oh,
better.
at
A
their
lot more
best. Oh,
durable,
at their
too.
best. Mike is. I think
Right
Mike
now,
can run an
Drew's better.
offense better.
But
At their
Conley's
best.
4 years older. so
Mike's the
that's
better offensive player defensively.
No, I
It's
think
not-
like as just as a playmaker, like Mike can run an offense much better than Drew Holiday. Defensively though, Drew. You know,
Yeah, Drew clears, but I
stout
think Mike
defensively.
Conley, Drew Holiday are the poster childs for
Mike ain't
haven't
bad, though.
received all-star nods, but we understand they're great point guards.
At the perimeter, as a defender, who would you rather have, Drew Holiday or Jaden McDaniels?
Jaden.
Oh, Jaden.
I think Jaden is the best defender in the NBA right now.
Wow.
Drew
Okay.
Holiday
That's
or
not. That's
Alex
not.
Caruso?
That's not.
Who,
that's
who?
not the system of a defense.
Wait, who?
Okay.
Jaden
That's
McDaniels.
an
He's
He's
important
the best
caveat.
defender.
It's a very important caveat.
You talk
Talking
about
about
just
perimeter-
bigs or
perimeter
just
defender.
perimeter? Ah, okay.
That's a good caveat.
But he also
Is he
has.
better than
He's
Jaden?
also great at rim
Excuse
protection
me.
too.
Is he better than Vanderbilt?
Yeah, he is.
Alex Caruso.
Yeah, he
Yes.
is.
No, I'm not talking McDaniels anymore. I'm saying Drew Holiday.
Yeah. You want a part
On
of
the
reason
perimeter.
He can play more minutes. That's a big part of it.
Strictly talking about
I don't
perimeter.
know, man.
defen-
Caruso is pretty
defense.
disruptive.
I was gonna say Caruso can play as many minutes as you want, and he can knock down a
Well,
shot.
I would say Caruso is the better off-ball defender, helping on like the nail. Yeah, I'd
I
probably
don't
give
know.
a
But
Caruso's
slight
even
edge
with
to
amazing.
Budenholzer, and this is where I want to be fair to him, the critiques are warranted. We can't act like Eric Bledsoe was a big issue for them when they got to the conference finals versus the Raptors. They were basically sagging off of him and he couldn't hit a shot.
Mhm.
That was a big issue. I do think Budenholzer could have adjusted it and played George Hill in those spots.
Benched him like Fred VanVleet was by Nick Nurse.
He could have, for sure. I do think that's fair, but Eric Bledsoe was a big reason why they couldn't make it far because
Right.
there was an exploitation there. And for a very long time, we cannot just have revisionist history and act like Chris Middleton has always been the stamp second guy. For a long time, Chris Middleton has been
Took him time.
you cannot win with him being your second best player. And he went on a great playoff run in the 2020 playoffs. But even on the road games, he wasn't very good. He was very good at home. Away, he wasn't that good. He was very inconsistent. And him, with his injury problems in his postseason, he wasn't very good.
Can't you
Neither
say
was
that
Drew.
about most number twos? Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving.
I trust Klay Thompson so
Anthony
much more than
Davis.
Chris Middleton.
How about Kyrie and AD? I feel like you can say that about a lot of number
I trust
twos.
all of them guys over Chris Middleton.
Like a guy only having one great run where he got super hot. That was Kyrie, but he went to a finals
I know,
and had
I
one
know.
of the greatest shots
But-
in NBA history.
But I think that Kyrie, AD, and Klay are much more consistent number two options than Chris Middleton.
Middleton did his thing
I don't
against the
agree with
Heat.
that.
boys just didn't show up.
Chris
Your
Middleton
boy.
defense was getting cooked.
Well, he was hurt, and then he also went 38 and 20 in game
13
5.
missed free throws.
Okay, he's a big man.
Oh, get the fuck. That's what you want to use.
No excuses. You can't miss that many.
So I'm saying, you have a lot of problems with the Bucks. I think it's unfair to blame it on Bud. I do think this is the beginning of a downward spiral effect. I think that Giannis, it's not crazy to say he's going to be gone from Milwaukee in a couple years. Because I don't see them next year being a championship level team.
I mean, their only young player on the roster is Marjan Buchan.
I like him. I do.
I
like Buchan.
I love the story.
It's
I like
okay.
Marcin Buchan.
We'll see. I still think that you bring back Middleton next season, of course, with the player option. Brook will probably be gone, which means more Bobby Portis minutes, which means that maybe they'll stretch the floor a little bit more, but you lose that significant rim protection.
Don't forget Connaughton and Allen are still in the roster.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I'd like to forget.
They definitely do need some better wing depth. The bench needs some help on that aspect, but I think this team will be all right.
How do you improve that, though? Because they don't have any salary cap.
They don't have no picks either, if I'm not mistaken.
They
We'll
traded
see.
the
Sign-
farm
sign-
for Drew.
You don't need to go and get a high-level
I'll be honest,
role
they traded
player.
5 second-round picks to Jay Crowder, and the picks are more valuable.
Yeah, Jay Crowder getting DMPs is crazy.
Isn't that
Like, we're
good?
looking at this current
I'm
Bucks
disagreeing.
roster. Like, this is what it's going to be. Minus
Holy
Brook
shit.
Lopez.
Yeah, they have nothing.
Holy
A lot of that is because of Drew.
The Bucks have 5 picks total in the next 7 years.
They have no way to get
shit.
better outside of internal improvement, and all their guys are
They
basically.
better find somebody in the
what they
second
are.
round. Gem.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, Maxwell Lewis.
The Bucks don't have a first until 2028, and they have 3 seconds in the next 7 years.
Well, they got their ring.
Yeah, you're right. But
Pick swap, all that means is that they still have theirs, but
They
the other
probably get
team
the
gets
worst.
the
of-
better.
Yeah, they
all
get
right,
the-
so
they
they
get the
have a
worst.
first in 2024. They don't have a
Who's
pick
the pick
this
swap
year.
with?
the
With New
Pelicans.
Orleans.
No, you're right. You're right. It's a good point. I kind of overlooked that.
Now you got to hit on the draft, though.
And 26, they do have their swaps. I'm sorry.
They have first in 24 and 26. 23,
Oh, just be the
25,
worst.
they're cooked.
On to the next topic in the show. Joel Embiid won MVP. Do you think voters will regret voting him MVP over Nikola Jokic? Because we've seen this playoffs, Joel Embiid has not been good. He's been hurt, but he's
Don't
not
do
been
that.
good.
Don't do that.
Nikola Jokic has been phenomenal these playoffs. And you know what?
It's been amazing.
As an avid Embiid guy, because I did bet on him to win the MVP when the odds were stacked against him. Feel very, very, very good about that pick.
You should.
I think that voters are going to regret voting MVP. They're going to regret voting Embiid as MVP the same way voters regretted voting Giannis in 2020 over LeBron for MVP. Despite Giannis being the better regular season player,
Was he?
LeBron won a championship that year. But in this case, as much as I love Embiid, he was dominant in the regular season. I love the story, the 3-year stretch. I do believe he ultimately deserved an MVP. But can we objectively say that he was better than Nikola Jokic in the regular season? Nikola had better stats. All advanced stats point to Nikola Jokic. You talk about record. Nuggets had a better record.
Facts.
You talk about record without the primary guys on the court. So Nuggets without Jokic and Sixers without Embiid. Sixers were 500. Nuggets were
Above
trending.
500.
Nuggets were trending as a lottery team. We saw in Game 1 without Embiid in the playoffs versus the Celtics. James Harden goes for 45. They beat them. Game 2 with Embiid, they get smoked. And we look at these playoffs. Jokic phenomenal in the first round. In the second round, with going against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, he's been the best player in the series. I look at Jokic and I say, regular season, Embiid may have won the award, but Jokic, if this is a deep playoff run and he does something special, he's the MVP. And I think right now you can say he's been the MVP thus far in this entire season because he's been better than Joel Embiid. And given this injury history and that Embiid has, it's unfortunate, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. I don't. Because Giannis versus the Hawks in this playoff run had a hyperextended knee, comes back in the finals, drops 50, closes out the Suns in 6 games. I know this is dating way far back, but Isaiah Thomas in the finals versus the Lakers in the third quarter drops 25 points on a sprained ankle. Great players find a way to make it happen. And great players don't look like Joel Embiid has looked in the playoffs. He's averaging 19 points, 9 rebounds, shooting 46% from the field. And historically, and this has been a big argument I've made throughout the course of this show and on the outside of it, is that when we compare Jokic and Embiid, I've often said I think Jokic is that Curry level at center and Embiid is more like the Dame. Because in the playoffs, Jokic elevates. Embiid does not elevate in the playoffs. We look at 18-19, the Sixers' best regular season team, with Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Tobias, the best talent they had on paper. Embiid averaged 20 points per game and shot 43% from the field in that playoff run. And in the second round, he was locked down by Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol, who was already aging, on his way out the league at that point. That year, he was good, but at that point, he was old. Embiid should have dominated. He didn't show up to the moment. Last season, he averaged 24 points per game and shot 48% from the field. Embiid has routinely not showed up in the playoffs. And Jokic, when he's been in the playoffs and has been healthy, his first playoffs takes the Blazers to 7 games in the second round, 1 game away from making the conference finals. Very next year, makes the conference finals, comes back from 2-3-1 deficits, and now this is his third year with this cast being healthy, and he's looking like he's on his way to the conference finals, if not the NBA finals. I look at Jokic, and each year with his supporting cast, he gets better, he goes further, and he plays better. With Embiid, it just has not been that story. And I just can't give these excuses to Embiid because he still struggles with similar aspects of the game that he struggled with for years now. And I'm talking about passing out of double teams. In the Nets series, he looked abysmal at that. Right. He averaged more turnovers than assists per game. Again. So I think voters will regret voting Embiid for MVP over Jokic.
You know what, though? I do think you're overanalyzing the playoffs, where Nikola Jokic has been a lot better. But in the regular season, Joel, the last 2 years, played more minutes than ever before, and that was the whole gap in 2021.
You know why I'm looking at you like this, right?
Because he's the Jokic guy.
Nikola Jokic fan, but we have to...
No, the overanalyzing the playoff part lost me.
Because, yes, the playoffs have not been good for Joel Embiid.
The most important part of the year.
One of the biggest reasons why is his injuries, right? But when we're talking about the most valuable player trophy, the last 2 years, what does everybody continue to point out with Joker? It's been the playoffs, but this is a regular season award at the end of the day. And the regular season, the Sixers were a top 8 defense, and you can make the case Joel Embiid was the most valuable defender to his team. Without him, they did not have good personnel. They're a top 5 offense. And as I made the point throughout the year, James Harden's job was made very easy, playing with the big as skilled as Joel Embiid. But there's also one last thing I just want to talk about before you guys go in. We forget Joel Embiid's origins all the time. And we had this discussion with Nikola Jokic. Joel Embiid was never supposed to get to this position. He never played a single game his first 2 years in the league with the same foot fracture twice. His third year in the league, he tears his meniscus. The story of him overcoming all of that, and in his absence, just watching YouTube clips of Dirk Nowitzki and just repeatedly doing that over and over again, that to me gives me a lot more appreciation for him getting this trophy, because I think he's reached that level where he's deserved it at this point, and this was a deserving MVP season on both ends of the floor. I think he was the best two-way player in the league, a discussion we had in February, and I jokingly said Bam Adebayo, and you guys were laughing like, no way, it is clearly Joel Embiid. And his cast was not as good as Giannis's. His cast was better than Jokic's, sure, but at the same time, he made their cast a lot better when he was on the floor.
Who was the better player in the regular season, Jokic or Embiid?
You didn't answer that.
Two-way aside, because two-way we understand.
You actually ignored that.
We're just talking about in your opinion, who had the better regular season, Jokic or Embiid, as a player totality?
Nikola Jokic. But LeBron James.
Oh, God.
Was the best player in the world from at least 2012 to 2020. In that span, he did not get 9 MVPs.
I understand.
He got 1 in 2012 and then another in 2013. So,
and they went back to back.
And I do think while you say that
you should have won Harden, MVP 5 years in a row.
The dynamic,
MJ should have won 10.
The dynamic between Harden and Embiid, I really get ticked off when you act like it's lopsided.
About
Embiid is benefiting just as much from Harden as Harden is from Embiid.
I don't know about that, man.
It's a fact.
I don't know about that.
Embiid is benefiting off of Harden, same way that Harden benefits off Embiid.
Embiid has never had a playmaker to Harden's level that has got him these easy of shots either.
Yes, it's true.
No, I agree. I think that Harden definitely benefits Embiid. One could say that Embiid is hampering James Harden.
Well, we also
could say that.
We also could say the spacing on the floor is much better, which opens up the floor more for Embiid also.
For sure, but I'm just saying, John makes it sound like, oh, James Harden's job is so easy, man. This guy's not doing much. I'm like, Man,
Yeah,
like,
John, you lose me there.
Embiid is benefiting a lot from James Harden. James Harden when Embiid's off the court per 75, he's averaging 27 points per game. James Harden's still a prolific scorer. He's taking a back seat, led the league in assists for Joel Embiid.
Well, it's because he also is not the same player he was 5 years ago.
You know,
3 years
it's funny
ago.
you say that because James Harden actually just came out and had a statement saying, you know, people say, oh, you can't win basketball like this. You can't win a basketball game like this. Him averaging that 27 to 30 points that he once did. So now he's in a new role. And now he's averaging 22, but 10 assists. And now they're saying, but you're not the James Harden that you used to be. It's like I'm adjusting to the role that I have to play for us to play winning basketball. What's going to be, where do I have to play? What do I have to do for you to respect that I can alter my game so that the others around me can continue to eat and we have team success? That's not on Harden. It's that he knows he's so great of a player that he adjusts his abilities, his role, based on what team needs.
The unfortunate truth about James Harden is that he dips from 29 to 22 and 10, and he doesn't get an all-star nod from it. Drew Holiday goes from 17 to 19 and gets an all-star nod from it for that marginal improvement. But people don't look at Harden adjusting his game. Now, I got a question for you guys.
He had to adjust.
Who benefits more from their co-star? Joel Embiid from James Harden or Jokic from Jamal Murray?
Joel Embiid.
That's a good question.
No, that's easy. It's Joel Embiid.
In the regular season, it's Joel Embiid.
Who benefits more? That's the question. Who benefits more?
From their co-star.
Joel Embiid.
Does
I think Jamal Murray benefits from Jokic.
Correct.
More than Jokic benefits
Yes.
from Murray.
Yes.
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 I'm sorry. I was yes, that one.
In the
that
regular
one.
season, Joel Embiid benefits more from his co-star, but in the playoffs, I think Jokic for years has benefited more from playing off of a guy in Jamal, personally.
Oh, so question. I think because the Nuggets have had the luxury of being healthy
Correct.
right
Oh,
now.
that's not true. This year, yeah.
No,
This year,
yeah,
that's
with
what you're
Jamal
saying.
Murray.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
so-
saying. James Harden right now is playing with a 20% Joel Embiid. Right now, you can argue Embiid's hampering the Sixers because he's playing on that.
They just got
on
blown
that
out
Monday.
too.
If Embiid was fully healthy in these playoffs, yeah, we definitely see a different Sixers team. But he's the one hampering everybody else because he's hurt, unfortunately. But it's the truth.
I just think you're kind of overlooking the fact Harden's dropped to 22 points per game. He's not the same player, Joel.
He
can't
averaged
get
20.
downhill.
I disagree
He
with
can't get
that.
to the rim
I
the way he
disagree,
once
but that's
could,
not
and you
true.
saw
He
that
just
in
had
John,
the
that's not true.
45 in
John,
game
that's
one.
not
He
true.
He
John,
just had
that's not
45
true.
in game one.
That was
Not
an anomaly.
true.
That was the best
That
playoff
was
game of
an
his career,
anomaly.
and he will
No,
not do
it's
that
not the
again this
best playoff game of
postseason.
his career.
You're
And
so
you know that's
rude.
not
In
gonna
game
happen.
3 versus the Warriors, he had 40 plus and hit the game-winning shot to steal the Warriors. What are you talking about?
Game 3. What was he?
It was game 3 when the Rockets were down 2-0 in the 2019 playoffs.
You're right.
What are you
You're
Right,
talking
he's
about?
big on game ones.
Yeah,
and game
you don't
threes.
remember nothing. Unless it's your favorite player, you don't remember none of these playoff performances.
John, I'm just going to tell you straight up. It's not true that James Harden can't attack the basket.
Not the way he could. Now, you can't finish with the way.
He's
the
not
way he
yamming
once
it
could.
with authority, sure, but he
his
still can
burst
get
is
to the
gone.
basket.
It's
That's not necessarily
gone.
true either, John.
You've seen it in Brooklyn. You've seen it this year in game 2.
Brooklyn was
In
rough.
Brooklyn, he
Bro-
averaged 26
This is
and
the
12.
same
In Brooklyn,
thing.
he
This
was
is
an
what happens
MVP
at
until he
34.
got hurt, man.
Yeah.
You get old, you lose your athleticism. It is
Bro, he
what
was
it
a
is.
top 5 MVP
I'm
candidate
here
in
defending
Brooklyn.
James Harden. I've done it all on this show.
But do you think the voters
It's
will
just-
regret voting Embiid as MVP over Jokic?
I feel, John, in the sense of that it's a regular season award, and you say take 2A aside. I can't do that. I'm a huge advocate of 2-way play. And Joel Embiid, in terms, listen, my MVP was Giannis. All right, I think that was the best
So you
2-way
were all
player
the
in
way
the
wrong,
league.
huh?
I was facts, no doubt. But there was narratives. Number one team in the NBA was the Milwaukee Bucks. They were a top 5 defense. Giannis
Brook
was one of the
Lopez.
leading scorers in the league, of course. So that was my MVP. But regardless, when it comes to 2-way play, it's undeniable. Joel Embiid's the better 2-way player. Of course, you go to advanced stats, they'll tell you that what Jokic does on the offensive side of the ball is generational. He's one of the best offensive big men that this game's ever seen because of his ability to play make. And, of course, he can still score the basketball at an unbelievably efficient rate. But you could look at the playoffs and think that, yes, Joel Embiid's struggling. But there's been so many times in NBA history where the guy who's won the MVP simply is just not the best player. And they don't regret it. It's like you look at Karl Malone winning the MVP and, of course, Jordan winning the title. It was no one ever thought that Karl Malone was better than Michael Jordan. But for the regular season, you could say that Joel Embiid was the best player, led the league in points. Of course, this team was one of the best teams in the league. Joel Embiid deserved the award. I'm not going to look at the postseason. That's a completely different animal than the regular season and think that because of the postseason that we should be tarnishing Joel Embiid's MVP legitimacy. Again, he wasn't my MVP, but he was playing unbelievable basketball and is deserving of the MVP. Just because he's playing poorly in the postseason, because of the injury, it really is not going to skew my thoughts. Am I going to hold Joel Embiid getting injured against him? Absolutely not. It's one of those things that is it's unfortunate more than anything. Injuries are a part of the game, but it does suck. More importantly, it sucks to any player. But again, when it's the star player, one of the faces of the league, it is extremely difficult to see that, especially with all the expectations that are put onto the Sixers' shoulders, primarily because of how great Joel Embiid is. So again, I'm not looking at an injury and really using it in a narrative against Joel Embiid. I'm not holding it against him. I'm not saying that it does not matter that you're on the court, you need to play well. This is a tough injury. You see the brace that he's playing with. It's one of the bulkier braces that I've seen a basketball player play with. So all in all, no, I don't think it tarnishes the legitimacy of his MVP because, again, the postseason, regular season, two different entities.
I disagree, only because I think that's what the media has always been doing. When Giannis won his MVPs, what was the narrative? Postseason, couldn't get it done, couldn't win. When the Joker was winning, what was his narrative? Oh, he keep losing in the first round, losing the second round. They kept ignoring the fact that his team is not healthy, And I think this year,
that's people's conversations.
Well, I'm just saying the media in general.
Did you agree with that?
No. Me personally,
Right?
I'm fine with Embiid winning the MVP. I just think the way the voters switched off late in the year was crazy, and I'm not going to speak on why they switched off. I'm not going to bring up what happened. I'm just saying it was a certain point in the NBA season where the Joker was running away with the MVP. He was pretty much comfortable going to win it, and then at some point, people started talking, narratives started being built, and then the Joker pretty much lost the MVP. He also wasn't playing great.
He had a bad month.
Yeah, towards the end of the year, but I never knew a MVP stretch was a month. So I think narratives, and I talked about it before. I hated the MVP race this year because it was driven on more narratives than actual play. I feel like people were making a narrative. People were trying to bring one player down to bring up their others. Embiid fans, Giannis fans were attacking Joker fans. Joker fans was attacking them. And it was like we should all just appreciate the fact that three big men are in the MVP race, and we haven't seen this in a long time. So I think Joel Embiid deserved it. He played elite, two-way, 30 points a game. He was great for his team. They were one of the best teams in the East. I do think he deserved it. Any one of those guys, I joke about Giannis and shit like that. Any one of those guys could have won that award.
For the points, it was close between Giannis and Jokic.
As it should be.
That's what I'm saying. You're saying I was all the way wrong.
No, I was trolling it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was trolling it. I think either one of those guys could have won it. All three of them. They all had an opportunity to win. I just think this year the media was driving so much bad narratives, and it tarnished a little bit of the MVP
That's
award.
fair. That's a good point, Riv.
And I think instead of the media doing that, they should just be more grateful that we get to see three bigs in the regular season play at this elite level. The postseason and the regular season are two different seasons. There should be no speaking about this. Is why the MVP should be given before the playoffs, because then you do that shit late, and then Embiid's playing like shit, and this line was like, oh, look, then more narratives start getting brought up. But I think people should understand that there's two different seasons. There's the regular season MVP, who's not technically the best player in the world. He just had one of the best seasons of the year. And then playoffs, you establish who's the best player in the world. And I think that's where the conversation needs to be. It shouldn't be on some shit like, oh, well, the Joker, his team is great.
Voter
all this voter fatigue nonsense. No, these dudes are an elite. They're going to play elite every single year. There should be no voter fatigue. If he's the best player in the world, he's the best player in the world. If he's the MVP, he's the MVP. And that's how I look at it.
It's like we had this conversation when we talk about MVPs and voter fatigue. Barry Bonds was so dominant. He won an MVP 7 times. No matter what you do, they try to look as hard as they could to find a player better than Bonds. Bonds was so undeniably better than the rest, they had to give him the 7 MVPs. I have no problem with giving the best player. Of course, me being a LeBron fan, you're not going to be surprised to hear that. But if you're the best player, like a Jokic, like a Giannis, it should not matter that you've won MVP multiple times prior. The voter fatigue is nonsense to me.
I agree. I do think that with how much the playoffs matter, maybe the MVP should be an entire season award.
That's what
Regular
finals
season
MVP
and
is
playoffs
for.
accounted for.
You make the finals, you get an MVP.
But that's like Kawhi Leonard. Would he have won MVP the year that the Raptors won?
He missed 20 games the regular season.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
why he got
where
his
it
Finals
becomes-
MVP.
But that's why it's again,
he
it's
matters.
two different entities. I like now they do the the Larry Bird Award, the Magic Johnson Award. There's the Finals MVP. Like they're starting to make those they're starting to create more accolades so that people acknowledge the postseason. But again, I understand where you're coming from. Of course, the regular season's 82 excruciating long games. There's weight that goes into that separate than the postseason.
Just announce it before the playoffs.
Correct.
You have a couple of
Correct.
days to announce the MVP.
And also, when it comes to the regular season, I like that they acknowledge players, and the more awards, the better. You know, I think there are a lot of great players that need acknowledgement. Is Pascal Siakam, is he a good finisher of the basketball?
I know,
God.
really random.
I think this year he wasn't that good.
Off the top of my head, I'm just gonna say yes.
I don't
He
think
averaged
this year. I
25?
don't think he was that good.
This year, he finished 46.5% field goal percentage on drives.
46 on drives.
Yeah,
That's not good.
46%
That's not good.
That's not great.
So this year,
Here we go.
Harden
I figured.
drove the ball 13.5 drives per game. So at Harden's peak, at his very best MVP seasons, he was driving the
Let's go.
basketball between 17 to 20 times per game. And the most was like 20 times per game. But before that, it's always teetered around 17, around
Is
there.
that what you were cooking up that whole time?
No, I was just searching it up. Harden, at his best, on average, shot 50% to 55%
As a guard, that's really good.
on drives.
That's elite.
James Harden this year, he averaged 13.5 drives per game, which is 4 less drives than MVP level Harden, where he was only worried about himself, and he shot 46% on drives.
This year?
Yeah,
That's not just shots at the rim. That's mid-rangers, short floaters, stuff along those lines.
that's good, though. I think
Yeah,
for a
it
guard,
is
that's
very
good. And, you know, when I talk about James Harden, I just feel like people don't acknowledge the adjustment he took.
I agree.
This year, he shot 38.5% from three, his best since the 11-12 season.
Yep.
He shot 41% on catch and shoot threes, and he averaged the most assists he ever had in his career.
And just look at how much fewer attempts he's taking per game as previous seasons. It's obvious
and the
he's
thing,
altered
when,
his game.
when John says Harden's not the same, the reason I don't take it as a knock is because Harden used to be a top 5 player in the NBA. Now he's top 25. You know, that's still
34.
great for any. That's a mark that most NBA players will never reach. You know, Harden has dropped off from top 5 to being top 25. He's not the same as he once was, but he's still a tremendous player. And I think if Embiid was healthy right now, the Sixers could make it to the finals, given how open the East is. But it's just unfortunate. I hope Embiid, you know, I think playing Embiid in game 2 probably wasn't the smartest decision.
Could have waited.
Could have waited until you got back home.
You stole home court already.
Coulda waited.
That was no one expected you guys to win a single game.
I think
in
Embiid,
Boston.
after winning the MVP, though, he really wanted to play, which I understand. I do understand that point.
Did you see that brace, bro? That knee
Fire.
looked bulky as hell.
Yeah, he's a big dude. 300
Yes.
pounds.
Yeah.
Is he? What is he? Close to 3?
He has to be 300.
He has to be.
It's like 7'1", bro.
They're asking us in the chat to slightly turn up our mic volumes. I don't know if my audio levels are slightly low, but they're
I
saying
was
that
gonna say
before.
I scream. So
In the chat, let us know if you guys think our mics sound low. Maybe it might be just John. I don't
Probably
know.
might just be me. Yeah.
We can see. And if anything, we'll just turn it up a little bit. Now, on to the next topic. And
Before we do, I have to piss. I won't even sit here and cap to you guys.
just go, bastard.
come on, man. This guy, River.
Have to share it.
River Brown. Come on, man.
Yeah, the government's insane.
What's wrong with you, River Brown?
No. We don't need that.
River Brown, man. Now, I just want to get on to this next topic. Tatum was supposed to be number 3, but we're going to flip-flop.
Okay.
Because I think it makes more sense.
All right.
The Brooklyn Nets. We know that they traded Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant midseason, Kyrie to the Dallas Mavericks and KD to the Suns. Given how the Maverick season went with Kyrie and how the Suns season is currently going with Kevin Durant, do you think it probably was just better if Kyrie and KD stuck it out in Brooklyn? Because I look at this Eastern Conference. I look at how wide open it is, the inconsistencies of the Celtics, the injuries on the Sixers, the Bucks being eliminated in the first round. I don't know, man. I feel like if the Nets had Kyrie and KD with Claxton and their group of role players, this was a team that maybe not the favorites to make it out the East, but they would have had a legit chance to make it out the East.
I mean, there definitely would have been conversation for them to be the favorites to make it out of the East. Of course, the injuries to Kevin Durant at the time, where that's ultimately what ended up driving everyone away from each other in terms of Kyrie having enough with the front office, wanting out, just not being able to play winning basketball for a while. Of course, that ultimately ended up being the downfall. But they had their most historic 25-game stretch in their franchise's history. They were one of the best teams in the association when you had Kevin Durant and Kyrie on the court with these guys. I think that it's not crazy by any means to say that they would have been one of the favorites, no doubt about it, but the way that they were playing. And of course, now that we live in hindsight and it's so crystal clear, 2020, you see that Kyrie Irving goes to Dallas. They didn't even make the playoffs. That's a shock in and of itself. Wow. You have the Suns, who traded essentially their entire bench and all their depth to acquire Kevin Durant, which you do. It's Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the game, of course. But now, in hindsight, again, you look at this team, it lacks depth. They have really nobody to turn to outside of Kevin and Devin Booker. And now you look at the Nets, and where I was very critical of how, hey, you're the team now responsible for trading James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. I sit back and I look and I think, if I'm the Nets, I'm pleased as long as neither of these two teams win an NBA Finals, because that was our goal. And if we were responsible for trading these guys and they were ultimately able to accomplish that mission of winning a championship, then I look at the Nets and say, hey, we made a mistake. We failed. But if neither of these two teams go on to win a championship, which I don't believe the Phoenix Suns will win an NBA championship, I don't think they'll make it past the Denver Nuggets. I look at Dallas. Is Kyrie Irving going to even be a Dallas Maverick next season? There's a lot of rumors saying that he will. I'm not sure until I see it actually happen. So I'm sure if you're Kevin and you're Kyrie, it's bittersweet. But I don't think that Kyrie ultimately would have made it work over in New York. The media, he just clearly was not a fan of it. He thought that that's what he wanted. Seemingly, that's not what it was. And Kevin, once Kyrie was out, Kevin Durant was going to get out of there also. But I'm with you. If I'm Kevin and Kyrie, I think, hey, our best chance to win a championship, at the minimum, go to the NBA Finals, would have been if we stuck it out in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you look at the landscape of the East. The Bucks are out. Boston's a bit struggling right now. Philly's banged up. The Nets definitely had an opportunity that they could have. You could have picked them as a favorite. They were a great elite defensive unit.
No doubt.
At the time. Kyrie and Kevin Durant was clicking. You had Clax. You had them boys really hooping. Cam Thomas had his resurgence a little bit. He was dropping balls.
Joe Harrison.
They were clicking, and Vaughn was a elevation for he elevated them so well. This team definitely had an opportunity. I think we talked about it when they got traded. We was kind of upset because this kind of takes a team away from the East, and it would have been a bloodbath if the Nets stayed healthy. I do think though, the Nets are cool with it. I think with the Suns possibly, they're not gonna be that great all the time. That's still another draft pick. The Nets can build. They can probably bring in another star. I think the Nets are okay with the decision they've made. I think they got back good returns. Dinwiddie's not a long-term option. Finney-Smith he's not expensive, so that's something good. Claxton, they want to keep Claxton. The Kyrie thing is interesting because they made this new rule. So I don't know if he's going to be able to go to L.A. I don't know if they're going to have the money to even get him to L.A. So the best bet is to stay with the Dallas Mavericks. You can go to Detroit, you go to San Antonio, you go to Charlotte. Now you got to wait. But I think with Dallas, you still got Luka. You got possibly a top 10 pick. You still got them guys out there. There's definitely a situation where you could look at maybe if we make a few moves here and there, we can get back into the playoffs. And I think that's the best situation for Kyrie. But ultimately, I think the Nets are fine with where they're at. They have Mikal Bridges, who is an emerging star, somebody who can come in. He can definitely be your number 2, your number 3. They just got to find that number 1. If they can find that number 1, I think they're pretty much back into the race.
They did get an absolute haul for KD because right now in Phoenix, he's not playing at the level of a guy getting traded for 4 first-round picks. And Mikal, who in 2 or 3 years, will Mikal Bridges be better than KD? I would say no, but if KD's going to be hurt every single season, and Mikal's playing 75 games a year, KD's playing 40, you're like, I'd rather have Mikal. But here's the thing. While you guys were talking, I'd rather have a guy play 75 games.
You would rather have Julius Randle over KD?
You're a big Kevon Looney guy, right?
You would rather have Julius Randle over KD? He played 70 games. You're thinking about it.
Julius Randle or Kawhi?
You're absolutely thinking about it. But the game's played. Does it matter in that situation?
Well, Kawhi coming off his torn ACL
Randle played,
still
I think,
finished
81, or he played all
he played
82.
a lot of games. KD had 50, 40, from everywhere.
Listen, I think
a
we
more
can just
versatile player than a Julius Randle.
I think we can just praise Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, exactly.
Without trying to.
That's where I was
say,
going.
He is also saying 2 to 3 years.
I don't think the Suns.
I don't agree with either. But hey, he's saying down the line.
I don't think the Suns. I don't
the
think
KD
the
name
Suns
drop is crazy.
insane. But
Well,
that's
they got
that was the
traded
main
for
piece.
one another. That's what we got to look at here. But here's what I always take away. One thing I've learned is that patience is a virtue. And as an NBA fan, I want
Amen.
things to happen quickly. My first full finals I watched was Dirk Nowitzki in his age 32 season. It took Dirk Nowitzki 11 years to get back to the finals for a second time. And the 10 years before that, it was different eliminations in the first round, getting eliminated by an 8th seed in the Golden State Warriors who were clicking at the right time, losing the finals to the Heat. It takes teams a very long time to get it to click. And this was the best year of that Nets core. It was you could, it's kind of crazy to say this, the least chaotic year in spite of them firing head coach Steve Nash. And they won 18 of 20 games at one point. That was a contender. But ultimately, Kyrie wore out his welcome. The fan base was done, and the front office was not going to pay him. He wanted to get paid like anyone would want to. So I do think in hindsight, from a basketball perspective, did they make the wrong decision? Yes. But I can't tell you what's going to make you happy. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. For Kyrie and KD, they want to go to different settings, places that they at least know the co-star they'll be alongside. Whereas in Brooklyn, there was no control. KD wanted to play with Kai, but that wasn't going to be in the cards for him given where the management and, more importantly, ownership currently was at that point. So it's always a dynamic question.
I just wonder what went behind the scenes because Kyrie leaves Brooklyn, and all Kyrie has to say is negative things about Brooklyn. Kevin Durant leaves Brooklyn, and he says they were a world-class organization. They treated me with the utmost respect. Mikal Bridges goes there. He loves it. He's loving how they're treating him right now. This just seems like a Kyrie Irving problem, man. Like, I'm sorry to say that. It just does. Because
I don't want to slander Kai.
Kevin Durant didn't have a problem with the Nets at all. Kevin Durant wanted to play in Brooklyn. He didn't want to leave. The only reason he left is because he saw the Nets team and said, we cannot compete with this team, and I want to compete. And guess what the Nets did? We'll trade you to where you want to go. The Nets treated him with the utmost respect. And Kyrie Irving, people always talk about the stipulation. Oh, but the Nets gave Kyrie a stipulation of you had to make the finals in order to get an extension, right? Well, that doesn't have any effect, right? Because Kyrie Irving was already getting his guaranteed money for this season. The Mavericks didn't give Kyrie any stipulation on whether or not he's going to be back next year. That's an unknown. Whether a team gives you an extension is always an unknown. So even if there's a stipulation in there, it's just a word of mouth stipulation of like, yeah, wishy-washy type of thing. But if I guarantee if the Nets had a phenomenal playoff run, they didn't win the championship, but Kyrie played exceptional, he would have got that extension because he played well. Yeah, so I don't believe in that stipulation talk because ultimately the goal for the team is to win a championship. That's what it is all along. And Kyrie Irving requesting a trade out of nowhere, after KD had gotten injured, they were on a 13-game win streak. I'm looking at this Nets roster, Kyrie, Royce O'Neal, Harris, Durant with Claxton, off the bench, TJ Warren, Seth Curry, and Utah. Yuta Watanabe. I do believe Cameron Thomas. I do believe that if Sean Marks had focus at the deadline of saying, let's improve this roster instead of trading our two main stars, they would have got somebody at the deadline to improve this team. This could have been a favorite in the East. But Kyrie Irving out of nowhere requested a trade. You go to Dallas, and you might not be back in Dallas. And even when it comes to the Mavericks, Luka Doncic is getting paid a lot. If you bring back Kyrie on a big-time contract, that's now 2 stars you're paying, and we're not even mentioning the Mavericks' salary that's allocated to Davis Bertans' horrible contract. Tim Hardaway is getting paid $16 to $17 million a year.
He'll probably get traded.
Reggie Bullock's getting paid $11 million a year. You're paying average guys a lot of money. So even if Kyrie Irving goes back to Dallas, the Mavericks can't get much better.
Respect Hardaway.
So are you saying what I've said, that the Mavericks should not extend Kyrie?
I don't think the Mavericks should extend Kyrie. The reason why is because if you do, you now run the risk of being an inflexible roster with your salary cap and your second star missing half of the games. It's astonishing to me how everybody loves to have Kyrie play the victim and, how can the Nets do this to Kyrie? How can they give him a stipulation when Kyrie has missed over 50% of the games?
And he's also torpedoed multiple teams now. And most importantly, he drove 2 stars out of town. He drove James Harden out of town and then Kevin Durant. I love Kyrie the player, but when you're building a team and you're paying him $150 to $200 million guaranteed, a max deal, you want to know he's going to be on the court for you, not only in the regular season to get you to a top 4 or 5 seed the way he did in Cleveland, but you also want him to be. Oh, thank you. You also want him to be available for you in the playoffs. And if he's going to be injured the way he was in 2021, I think for the Mavericks, it's not a no-brainer you extend Kyrie, because if you do, there's now the biggest concern of them all. It's that you might drive Luka Doncic out of town.
No, I don't think that would be the case. I think it should be understood at least. Kyrie Irving, when he's on the basketball court, is still one of the best basketball players in the world. I don't think that it'll be him trying to drive Luka out. If anything is driving Luka out, it's the front office because of the lack of depth and help that they've put around him.
But that will happen if they pay Kyrie Irving.
Yes and no, but listen, what you're saying about the Bertans, I think Tim Hardaway will be traded. I think that's a contract that'll be off. They'll probably get another player. They need help in multiple ways than one, but I think that you need to try your hardest to ensure, hey, Luka, we're trying. You have Kevin Durant. You have Kyrie Irving. You and Kyrie can make something happen where it didn't happen down the stretch last season, where they obviously were playing such bad basketball that they didn't make the playoffs. It's still, all right, let's not sign Kyrie Irving, but let's say, two solid role players that still they're not going to move the needle the same way that the attention will be on Kyrie Irving. And now this opens up the basketball court for also a Luka Doncic. I don't think Kyrie will be a reason why Luka will be out of town. That's not the case. I don't think that now Kyrie's going into another organization. He's going to try and make himself a target in any way or shape or form. It's been evident, or at least the way that I saw things break out in Dallas, that his focus was basketball. He played at a very high level, although it didn't translate to wins. I think that the idea that Kyrie Irving will try and draw Luka, that's not one that I'm thinking of. Luka will leave Dallas because Dallas has failed to provide talent around Luka to succeed.
Yeah, I don't think that Luka's looking at Kyrie the person and saying, I got to be out of here because of him. But ultimately, the inability to be available will be annoying to him, and that will cause them to lose games. He's
been available. All right, let me phrase this clearly. He has not been unavailable due to injury for a majority. So if he's healthy, he's playing. He played a majority of the games last year. The only reason why he missed time last year was because, of course, the anti-Semitism issues.
That's a part of it, though.
Fair, which you can't excuse, but you also can't ignore. But at the same time, he's shown to be available when he can. He missed a good portion of the year after COVID season because of the vaccine issues. In the end, it ended up being that almost every single team didn't have an issue with this because of their city laws or state laws, and that Kyrie was just one of those that was put in a position where he could not play basketball in his home court because of vaccine
it makes sense,
rules and regulations.
Because New York is one of the most populated states in the country.
No doubt.
Well, Brad Bill was able to play.
That's what I'm saying.
Washington is not as populated as New York.
But there were so many other teams.
No, I'm
that
saying
did
Brad
not
Bill was
have
able to
this
play.
issue.
Brad Bill was able to play in New York.
And the only reason why this ban got lifted was because the players on the New York Mets and the New York Yankees were not vaccinated, so they wouldn't have had a lot of star players play baseball. So that's ultimately why they ended up lifting it. And really, if you take a look at it. So, listen, yes, there's reasons to be upset at Kyrie Irving. I just can't look at Kyrie Irving, the basketball player, and say that, no, I don't want this guy on my team because he's obviously an issue on the court. That's not it. No one's saying that. It's the off the field, the off the court, which becomes an issue. But really, when he's available and able to play, he does and does at a high level.
You're making great points. So I do agree with most of your points. The COVID thing, I do agree, was an anomaly. Doesn't happen in most seasons, in any season, honestly.
Yeah, for real.
But the injury thing is a concern. Right. You're talking about a 30-year-old injury-prone star.
Has he been injury-prone recently?
Throughout his career, historically, he's dealt with a lot
It was the first year in
Got hurt in the playoffs in 2021.
That's fair. That's facts that I forgot.
Yeah.
That I forget, and you shouldn't forget that because that was one of the reasons why
First
they
year
lost.
in Brooklyn in the regular season, second year in the playoffs, third year COVID, and I think he was dealing with an injury late in the year.
Yeah, the first year he played he played 20 games and then he was out for the year.
The first year I know he was hurt for sure, and
next
then
year
he got
got hurt in
hurt.
the playoffs.
But that was a freak thing that Giannis put his
I
foot
understand.
there, and he ended up rolling his ankle. And then the year after, yes, that was the COVID year, but he still ended up coming back playing at a very high level. They just got swept.
It's just I don't know how many teams.
He was bad in the playoffs. Yes,
I don't know how many teams. Actually, I think Dallas might be the only team out of desperation that would give Kyrie $40 to $50 million for 2 to 3 years.
I'd agree.
He won.
Who?
Kyrie.
Why did he win?
If he get that back, he
Oh,
won.
No, I think he will get paid.
Yeah.
Like, given how the Lakers have looked
Look at
this
what he
year,
did this year, bro.
given how the Lakers have looked this year with not a third star, would the Lakers pay Kyrie $45
need it.
million?
Apparently, we're out of the running to bring Kyrie
Yeah, I
to
don't
our
need it.
squad. I don't think
Role
we'll bring
players,
him,
LeBron and AD.
Yep.
Move.
Hey, that's why that's my gripe. I don't know how many teams are going to pay for Kyrie services, multiple years.
So what's the better alternative to not retaining Kyrie for the Dallas Mavericks?
Well, a little preview. I don't know. If a better alternative for me is not bring back Kyrie, I'd sign role players like Josh Hart. I'd even bring in Austin Reeves to Dallas. I mean, he would be a good player next to
Not
Luka.
leaving.
Austin Reeves, Josh Hart. You sign these role player guys like Bruce Brown, those type of players.
Bruce
And
Brown, be good.
I think you trust the development of Jaden Hardy and Josh Green and the 10th overall pick you're going to draft.
I think that there's a possibility that first round pick and Tim Hardaway gets traded and they try to upgrade.
that. Oh, you said trade the 10th pick?
No. I'd keep it. And
Putting him
draft.
I'm
next
saying
to,
that.
Putting him next to Luka is tough. Unless he's a big.
I think Jaden Hardy can play next to Luka just fine, and I think Jaden Hardy will eventually develop into a really good player.
Yeah, I'm thinking more the number 10 pick because a lot of these guards, they're not good shooters. So putting another guard next to him, even some of the wings aren't good shooters, A big like Hendricks or Lively would be dope for them. Even if Whitmore falls, you bring in another wing, could defend, rebound the ball.
He's not a good playmaker, so playing off of Luka would be ideal for him.
Cuts, roll to the baskets. I like that one. Dallas is fucked,
That's what
bro.
I'm saying, bro. They're in a really tough position.
I wouldn't say they're fucked. They have a top 10 pick. That's big time.
It
What
could
if they
be.
don't
It could
get
be
it?
higher. No.
It's like confirmed to get it.
There's a 3% chance.
You're thinking about it.
Yeah. There's a 3% chance
I'll
they
be
get
honest.
number
There was
one.
a-
I think there's a better chance they get a higher pick than 10.
There was a
They fall out.
0.1% chance the Bulls got the number 1 pick to get Derrick Rose. Remember that.
0.1.
I think 0.1 is
Yeah,
cap.
they were 14th
So the
in lottery
Mavericks-
rounds.
Yeah, it was like, wow.
The Mavericks
the
have a
fuck outta here.
66%
It was just
chance of
it
staying
was
where they're at.
scripted.
It's
Derrick Rose
because
from
it is
Chicago.
rigged. That's
Scripted.
LeBron went back to Cleveland.
Yeah, scripted. Shit is scripted, bro.
The Mavs only have a
You
12%
think so?
chance
I
of
think
getting
it's
top
scripted.
pick.
I honestly do
That's-
think the draft
I've
lottery
seen
is
it
scripted.
happen.
19% chance of falling out.
Is it a coincidence that
That
the
the
Lakers?
Pelicans
top
getting
10?
number one,
Yeah,
though?
Outside top
Is it a
10.
That's a
is
big
it a
number.
coincidence that
Yeah.
the Pelicans traded AD to the Lakers and the Pelicans got the number 1 pick to draft Zion?
Bro, they have
I thought that it was crazy. Like, I was floored.
you thought it was crazy or rigged. Let's be
No,
serious.
I thought
that
it was
shit
crazy.
happened,
Like,
I
yo,
thought they
no
traded
fucking
AD.
you know
way.
the Mavericks have a 19% chance to fall out the top 10.
Technically 20.
That's a lot.
They have a 3% chance to get number one.
Correct.
20%. I'm going with that.
80% though. Is
But
a
they have a
lot.
66% chance of staying pat at 10.
They should be fucking fine. I mean, it depends on how it's rigged. Mark Cuban need to go in there. And
I've been
cook up.
doing
Correct.
Mavericks rebuilds on 2K and I fell out the top 10 once. I got the number 1 pick once too. Though.
Okay. So
I'll tell you, I would not be mad if Dallas got Victor, but
I will.
Shit.
I don't know if I would be per se happy.
I'll say
Victor
this.
and
I
Luka?
think
That'd be
Two best
OD.
prospects since LeBron.
I think
Correct?
anything outside of 1 or 10 are fucked.
that
Or two.
No, you get 3. I was gonna say Brandon Miller.
They got Brandon
They get
Miller.
3
Oh
at
my
school.
God. I think Brandon Miller
think
like Tatum.
Lock-
right now.
3 can be scooped.
The thing is, I think
And
if
I
the
don't like
Rockets are
Scoot and
2,
Luka.
let's not make this a draft thing. I think the Rockets are 2. They're going Scoot. They need to go Scoot.
No, I agree, but I think if Detroit's 2, they don't go scoop. They go Brandon.
Yeah, I agree.
But if the Rockets are really signing Harden, they're not going to draft Scoot.
I don't know about this Harden nonsense.
I think it's pretty possible.
Nonsense. What's this guy?
The Harden going back to Rockets. I don't know if there's
The
any
Rockets would be
validity.
great
Veteran point
in a
guard.
few
And if
years.
Charlotte gets 2, they're going Brandon.
Give it 2 years, the Rockets will be a great team in the West.
Great is interesting.
Great. You always stretch it.
Jalen Green, baby.
Ime Udoka.
You just say good.
All right.
Scat.
Jalen Green's gonna be nice.
I'm sure.
James Bucknight.
Hey, man, listen, we all fit.
Why you do that?
Johnny
Why you have
Davis.
to yeah, come on.
John is better than James Bucknight. bro.
No, he's
say
not.
much.
I
No, he's
disagree
not.
with that.
They're
too.
both dog shit. You know?
No, the
Bucknight's
third
better.
topic we're gonna talk about Jason Tatum.
Why?
Because I think with Jason Tatum, given that he's the under king, anytime you take an under bet on Jason Tatum, you got an 80% chance hit rate because he never goes over. And in game 2, he had 7 points. It didn't matter because the Celtics blew out the 76ers. But do you guys think Jason Tatum is a true number 1 option on a championship team, a player you can rely on game in and game out in the NBA playoffs.
It's just unbelievable, and I'm sorry, Riv, if you wanted to go. It's just unbelievable that we're having this type of conversation.
Did he not stink it up in the finals?
He didn't have his great
I don't
performance.
think number
He
one,
didn't have a
true
great
number one.
Sorry,
do that.
Dehls. Sorry.
I'm not gonna listen. This is crazy because I don't think he's this player, and it's impossible to compare the two. But listen, I understand the potential of Jayson Tatum. All right, LeBron James was
All right.
not that great.
25 points straight. Please.
He was OD.
Respect
You told me in the
LeBron.
finals, right? Sometimes you just get overmatched, and they
To
have
be
good
fair-
personnel.
okay, but to be fair, that Cavs team and people like this defensively,
They were a defensive
great.
team.
And
They
those
weren't good
games,
offensively.
were really, really close.
They were
But also, San Antonio zoned in on just LeBron.
correct.
Tatum has Jaylen Brown.
But what
and
did
others.
what did the Golden State Warriors do? They said, we're going to throw Wiggins at you, but we're going to make it impossible for you to drive to the basket without feeling any type of presence.
He also couldn't hit a mid-range
And he
jumper to
could-
save his life.
exactly. So listen, I've said this. I think that their most consistent player is Jaylen Brown. That's not a knock to Tatum. That's a praising to Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum, at his best, is clearly better than Jaylen Brown. He's a better scorer, better rebounder. Defense, it's close. They're both really good defenders at their best. Can he be a number one? Absolutely. He was a number one for them last year. Game 6, on the road in Milwaukee. Giannis
Best player
still
in the
gives
world.
him 40.
Yeah, yeah.
He gives him 40. What does Tatum do?
Give him 40 back.
Matches it and wins the game in Milwaukee, goes home Game 7, closes it
That's what
out
best
in
players
a
do.
wipeout
Best
fashion.
player in the world. That's what they do.
You need to stop. All right? You need to stop. Because Jokic, we're gonna wait and see. He's eating right now, but we're gonna wait and see because you don't even have Steph Curry as your best player in the world. You have Nikola Jokic. So relax.
Yeah,
All right, you can't even take that victory
He
lap
will
with
be
Steph
vindicated.
Curry. Who?
Riv.
All right, we'll see.
Because Jokic is going to do his thing.
We'll see. I don't dis.
I would be vindicated.
Vindicate is the word.
Nah, yeah, but why'd you say that? Like, what
Because
you
you
mean?
think that Nikola Jokic, he's saying that Nikola Jokic is going to dog.
But I think the Joker's the best player in the world. Though.
That's what he's saying.
No,
That's why vindicated
means that
you'll be right.
Your opinion will be
You
right.
will be right. Yes.
You'll be proven right.
I thought you vindicated just sounds like
It's a good word.
You'll be
No.
Yeah, strike
I
down.
know it doesn't because you
Sounds
hear
evil.
Yeah, no, it's a really positive word.
Liddy.
So yes, Jayson Tatum can be one. He's shown moments of that he can lead a team to the NBA Finals, that he can be the best player on the court with other players that are marginally better than he is. He had a performance where he had 7 points in 19 minutes because he got put in foul trouble. The team still won by 30 points. And we're talking about this as a knock to Jayson Tatum.
Testament to his team.
Why? Why are we doing this?
She's had stinkers.
Because he
listen,
has the lowest floor of any
game
scorer in the
two,
NBA.
game 2, 7 points. I'm not using that as a knock to Tatum. I'm using what I've seen all year long in big time games where Tatum usually is not showing up. In the finals, he didn't have a great offensive performance. If he does have it, they win the championship that year.
They probably did.
And also, Riv, vindicate, show or to prove to be right, reasonable, or justified.
Vibes.
Is a great word to use.
It is.
So this thing
I'm
about
gonna use
Tatum.
that shit in school. My
Finals.
after school program.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, you'll be vindicated.
Jayson Tatum at his best, no doubt, can be the best player, number one option on a championship team that can win the championship. I should say that can win the championship. This year, the Celtics, I think of all the remaining teams in the playoffs, they have the best roster. My caution for the Celtics in picking them right now is what Jayson Tatum am I going to get, which version am I going to get, and Joe Mazzulla has a tendency to make decisions that I don't fully agree with. But those are the two things. Jaylen Brown has been consistent. Jayson Tatum,
Just him.
and I said this after last year's NBA Finals, I posed this question. Is Jayson Tatum going to be Kawhi level best forward on the finals team, or is he more so Paul George, where Paul George has his moments where he looks like he can be that guy, but he also has those moments like in the bubble where he's going to cost your team, he's not going to show up in the biggest moments, but Paul George as a young player took LeBron James to 7 games in the conference finals. Paul George was looking like that guy, but Paul George even admitted that I am a number 2 on that type of team. To me, Jayson Tatum falls in the middle. He can look like a number 2 sometimes. He can look like a number 1. And I think this playoff run is going to prove which one he's going to be.
And I'm sorry, guys, because I know I spoke a lot. Does he ever prove to be a number 2? Does it ever look like, hey, I'm going to pass off to Jaylen Brown?
Yes.
It more so is he's not hitting. So it's not that he looks like a number 2. He just doesn't look like he's...
Half of the time, it looks like Jaylen Brown is the better player amongst the two.
but I don't know if that's the way to describe it. The way to describe it is when Jaylen Brown when Jayson Tatum is not hitting, he just does not look like the superstar all-star that we know he is. Sometimes he looks like he's one of the worst basketball players on the court when he's cold. When he's hot, which is a majority of the time, there's never a time where you look at Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum and think, yeah, when this guy's on, we don't look at Jaylen Brown like he's the one. No, it's always Tatum's the one. It's either he's the one or he looks like the one who does not belong. It's never that he's a 2.
I mean,
That's bad funny.
You understand what I'm trying to say? Like
I know what you're trying to say. When Jayson Tatum's
That was like
playing,
Paul George.
when Tatum,
but Paul George in like OKC. You understand what
No,
I'm
that sounds like Paul George's career.
But not with the
The one that can
Clippers,
show
because
you
he was
the
always-
one
he was
or
always
not
2.
be the one at all.
Because in the Clippers, he's always 2.
I
In
agree.
OKC, he was the one that you were
in
relying
the Clippers, he's always 2, but he led the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals when Kawhi got hurt in the
on.
playoffs.
He did.
And he looked like that guy.
He did.
So for me, Jayson Tatum at his best, yes, he's better than Jaylen Brown. But oftentimes, it looks like Jaylen Brown's playing at the level of his expectations, while Tatum is either above it or way below it.
Agreed.
He's not playing at his expectations.
I agree.
Most of the
I
time.
agree with
or
that.
as often as Jaylen Brown is.
I think we're saying the same thing, but it's just the cleanup of the number 2 to, he just is just not being what we're all expecting.
But that's my reservations with the Celtics right now. It's Tatum's inconsistency. I think it's a huge problem for them.
I do think there's
understand.
levels to this number 1 shit. You know,
Fair.
I do think there is the league is so talented.
How many ones are there?
That's what I'm about to say. The league
Alright,
is so
hot.
talented. You got to start breaking shit down, like for real. I
Talk
think
to me.
Giannis is number 1. I think Steph is a number 1.
Of course.
I think the Joker is a number 1.
Luka.
Luka's a number 1.
Durant.
KD is number 1.
So then Booker's not a 1.
Let's
that-
continue with the top 10 guys.
Booker's
first.
like a tier 2 1.
So let's continue. Joel Embiid,
I think he's a tier 2 1.
Kawhi Leonard,
Can be a 1, but it's never healthy.
Jimmy Butler,
Tier 2 1.
Jayson Tatum.
Probably like the highest of the tier 2 ones.
How can you say Jimmy Butler's a tier 2-1 though when he has inferior teams and still always overachieves? Let me not say always, but he overachieves more often than not.
I think in that
Because he's had superior teams and not achieved.
No, I think what it is for
One
me.
time?
Philadelphia.
That's what I'm saying.
I think what it is for me is that bubble run. He wasn't always the best player on his team in the
It's a
series.
Mickey Mouse bounce.
No, I'm talking about like second round, third round. He wasn't always the best player. At one point, Tyler Hero was their best player
He
in the
was
series.
the best player on that team.
You're saying
Brown
the
dropped-
bubble?
No, he was the. I'm saying he was the best
You're
player.
saying the
but
bubble?
in series, it
In the
looked like
finals, he
Tyler
was the
Hero
best
was the best player.
Easy.
In the finals, he was the best player.
Jimmy does all of the extras,
I
all
agree.
the ancillary things. So he doesn't have to put up 29 points, 35 to make his
He put up
mark.
like 16 one time.
Exactly. And he'll do defensively, he'll be one of the best off ball players in the game.
Yeah.
He'll push it in transition, one of the best playmakers, and late in games you always trust him to make the big play. Right?
Tyler
I
Hero
think
was
he's-
taking games over, Brody.
I know, but Jimmy
the
Butler was
bubble,
the guy.
though.
Jimmy was
That's
the guy.
it. That's
that
his only
inspired
time
belief
going
in
to the
his teammates.
finals.
I think Jimmy's one of those.
But last year he was
superstars or at least
fantastic.
Stars that you can't
He
always
lost.
look at the box score.
No, I don't disagree with you. Butler could be a 1 depending on the talent on the team.
He is a 1.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think he is a 1.
I
So
don't-
you're
I don't
saying
know if he- I
depending
don't know
if
if-
there's better players?
I don't know if he's a 1, like a number 1 1.
Philadelphia has not went to level they're at with him. That was one shot away from the conference finals.
It was a
And we
bad
don't know if he
bounce
will.
away
He
from.
didn't play well in that series, though.
Joel Embiid also played like dog shit.
No, they all played like a good
And
portion
Kawhi
of these guys.
significantly
Kawhi Leonard
outperformed
did
him.
it. Kawhi Leonard, a top 3 player at his peak, one of the greatest.
But that's
peak
a true
performers.
But
number one.
you just called him a
That's
true number
one.
one, and a number
That's an
one just
all-time
exposed.
player.
It's like it's the same thing we do with Steph and Tatum. The difference between Steph and Tatum is that one is a real legit number one. That's why he looks like that in the finals, and the other is not a real number one yet.
Jimmy
That's
Butler
why he looks
went
like
to the
that.
finals,
It did also
lost in
take-
6 games
Correct.
with his
Yeah.
best defender and Bam Hardley playing, and his best scorer. Everyone
I-
likes to talk about,
I
Goran
agree.
Dragic was second.
Jimmy
in scoring,
turned
but
into
Goran
one in
didn't play a
Miami.
single game
Was he?
healthy
He
in
was the third best player in that
finals.
finals, though.
Goran?
Jimmy.
I'm asking.
Well, Goran and Bam were both
Talking about
injured and didn't play.
Nah,
the
he's saying
superstars.
LeBron, AD, him.
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, it's tough.
Sure.
I can't
Butler
say
is definitely
otherwise.
not on the Kawhi level.
Oh, I agree.
No, but can we not agree that Jimmy Butler became a certified 1 when he went to Miami?
Yeah, but
He wasn't a 1 in.
Anybody
I
can be
wouldn't
a
say
1
he was
when
a
they're the
1
best player in the team.
Would you
we
say he was a
forget
1 in
that
Minnesota?
Miami team hadn't made the playoffs in multiple years, 3-4 years.
But Riv said he's a
Large.
tier 2 1.
But that's what I'm saying. Now I think he's a tier 1.
How?
He's on the level of Kawhi 2019 Raptors.
But we're
You put
talking
him on a
about
level
right
with Steph,
now.
Giannis, Joe. I'm not.
Listen, we can say that these guys are better than he is,
I don't think he's in that tier with them.
but the way
They're
that he
significantly
plays-
better than him.
I was wrong.
What?
They did make the playoffs in 2018 in the Heat, but
There's Steph,
But I
Joker,
just have
Giannis are
difficulty.
significantly better than him.
They are.
This is just true. Where do you don't have Jimmy Butler as the top 7 player in the world.
I have him as a top 8.
No, he's a top 10 player though.
He's top
The
8.
the gap between 10 and 3 is
I get it, but you don't have to be like you could
the gap between where you have Tatum
so
ranked?
hard.
You have him
Okay.
like
I
8,
have
right?
Tatum at 9.
And the gap between Tatum and
9.
Steph is
All
pretty.
right.
It's a comfortable
I'll
amount.
Steph
secede.
is top
I'll
2.
secede.
The
You're
gap
right.
I think between
Who's 3 for you, Giannis?
I have Jokic number 3.
Okay, the gap between Joker and Tatum is still a good amount.
But I think the cutoff point to me, it's tough because Jayson Tatum has a phenomenal supporting cast. I mean, the
Yeah.
backcourt play, he has played with 3 all-league defenders. A guy that won Defensive Player of the Year, and his teammate Robert Williams could won the award last year.
Yeah.
And Jaylen Brown's probably the best number 2 in the game, at least up there. He's had really good coaches: Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla. You've got Grant Williams, who's one of the best reserves. He was not even in the rotation a week ago. That Boston team is fantastic. I think Jimmy Butler's a way higher floor raiser for all of his teams. He's way more consistent. So that's why, for me, when I look at that 3 through 8
So he's
range,
an elite floor
Butler's
raiser.
8, but Butler's been to the finals. He was a game away from a game 7. Jokic, my favorite player, a guy I have in the top 3, has not been to the finals, and his deficiencies as a defender will never pop up. with
He's
Jimmy
also had
Butler.
a good team in the playoffs one time.
Riv,
Oh, I agree.
I'll say
but
this.
Jimmy Butler's deficiencies as a defender that pop up with Jokic and Embiid offensively, they do not exist.
The
He's a more
reason
versatile
why-
player than those big
For argument's
days,
sake,
day in.
you break it
This is
into
a wings
tiers.
league.
I can't say you're wrong.
The reason why I don't like the argument of one guy made the finals, one guy didn't. Jokic lost to the team that went to the finals.
But his deficiencies, this is coming from a guy that's defended him. His deficiencies have held his teams back perennially in the playoffs
Not this
on
year.
the defensive ends.
He looks really damn
was
good.
I haven't
LeBron
seen
and
anyone
AD.
that's on that.
Yeah, that's
it was LeBron
Right.
and AD with great role players. LeBron at his full strength healthy, AD at his full strength healthy. That's the Heat were not beating that despite whoever was healthy.
Well, they could
that
have
was not
They could have
happening.
made the series a lot more competitive.
What was the
Without a
Heat?
doubt.
6 games, won 6.
What was the Heat's playoff run
How
that
more
year?
competitive do you need it to get? 6 games.
Nah, but Game 6 was ugly. A good portion of those games were ugly.
The
Game
Heat
5,
beat
Jimmy
the-
Butler had to go
The Heat
into
beat
a
the
different
who?
world.
The Celtics in the conference finals in the
in
bubble that
7.
year.
In 7.
Am I crazy to say that Jokic could have did the same thing?
They beat the Celtics in 6. They actually
The thing
swept
is,
the
like,
Pacers, who would have been a 15
I just don't. I don't agree with saying one guy made the finals, one guy didn't. When it's 2 different conferences we're putting these guys
Right.
in.
But Jimmy did beat Giannis, the MVP, in 5
Forgetting the year
games,
Jimmy
right?
got swept,
Giannis
he
got
averaged
hurt.
15
That's
Giannis
points.
didn't win a single game versus Jimmy. Again, that's 2 times now.
It's
If
nasty.
Giannis is
It's
the
like,
best
that's
player,
why-
hold up, wait a second here.
But,
So
I'm,
Giannis
but
is the
John, I
best
was
player
on
in
your
the
side,
world.
and then it broke it down really simple to me where you have Curry, Giannis, Jokic. Of course, you're throwing Kevin. It's just that you look at Jimmy, as great as he has been, it's just fair. If you're breaking it into tiers, Jimmy's just not on that tier.
But Jimmy in the playoffs
He can still be
twice now
acknowledged that he's a
had-
GOAT. He's amazing. He's dumb nice in the
Right.
playoffs, but he's just not those 4. So how, in our argument, right, where we're saying that he's one of the best playoff performers of our generation, that's a firm statement. Without still saying that he's better than Steph in the playoffs, that he's better than Kawhi, LeBron. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I understand that. Giannis is a clearly better player than Jimmy. But what does it say if Giannis is the best player in the world if in 2 separate playoff series he got 0 wins on Jimmy Butler when he was on the floor?
Because
Giannis
his
swept him.
ass. Giannis
Right.
swept
And
his
Jimmy
ass in
averaged
the same
15
run
points.
And that was
But
the
it was a
shortest
box. It was a
offseason in
boxing
NBA
one
history.
with, and that
That was
too.
an anomaly of a
That
season.
was the same. That was like the
Right.
same roster. Jimmy Butler went with.
No,
the
you're
very
not.
next
You're not
conference
listening to me. That was the shortest offseason in NBA history. They were
'Cause they-
dealing with
okay,
injuries
so-
and fatigue. The
okay,
human
they
body
were-
cannot
they were-
withstand that for a 72 game year after.
No, what he's
Okay.
saying is fair.
I get
Don't
what you- I get what you
just,
mean. I get what you mean. I
don't
get
just,
what you mean.
What
the
he's
Bucks-
saying
the
is
Bucks
fair,
got
but
a month
still.
earlier.
But still, one guy in Giannis swept him. Butler had a horrible series.
But fatigue was the reason why. Butler came back, and 2 years later, he swept him again, 3-0 when Giannis was on the floor.
Because with that series, Jimmy Butler was Brent Forbes outscored him in that
Yeah,
series.
Brent Forbes was averaging
The human
15,
body
right?
can only physically.
The human body can
handle
only
so
physically
much.
withstand. How much did Butler average in that year, in that season? In the regular season, how much did he average?
Probably 21.
Okay,
19,
so
20.
he was able to average 21 for the entire regular season, but in the playoffs,
how many games did
Brent
he play?
Forbes outscores him.
Is the regular season the same as the
talking about?
playoffs? Yes.
Bro,
What are you saying?
if he was able to do it for the entire regular season, I'm not going to use fatigue as an excuse in the playoffs.
But maybe
when he
the
stunk it up.
playoffs are the extra add-on, and when you get to that level and that type of crucible, it's going to be harder to play.
So when that-
72 game season was the 2020-2021 season, correct?
Yep.
So in 72 games, he missed 20 games.
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler, 20 games.
That entire team was beat up, big time. That
Okay, the entire team was beat up. That does not excuse Butler's performance.
It does, absolutely. He
Why
went to
does
the
it
finals.
excuse his
Because
performance?
of the
Because
fact
then
he
the year
bounced
after he
Giannis's
was
ass
really
in the
good.
first
The
round
year
or
prior
second
he
round
was
two years
really good,
before.
and then now this year he's been
So let me-
very
Bro,
good.
if he was good for the entire regular season, playing at a great
So can
level,
I ask a
I'm
question?
not going to excuse him in the playoffs because he played like shit.
It's not how it works.
What do you mean it's not how you are
Because
playing
he-
his
John,
Aaron is
John,
teams that
John,
position.
John,
They do not get to
statistically,
the playoffs.
statistically, right? Because
the
I don't want to be
statistics.
statistic guy, but hey, this is what we're going to do right now. Statistically, he was slightly better in the regular season.
But the regular season is that's where you get.
He went from 58 games in the bubble year to 52. He only missed 6 more games.
But he had the 2-month off season, then the regular season.
I'm
that
not
shit
disagreeing
season.
with you.
Then you get to the playoffs in that type of setting.
So can I actually?
Wait, hold
Versus
on, hold
two
on. Does that
games in,
also?
You don't have that 2-month hiatus you just did have.
I'm with you.
in
Listen,
that
my team lost in
off-season
the first round
coming
too
in.
because we were tired and Anthony
Exactly.
Davis got hurt, and it is what it is.
Can I ask a
But
question?
when Anthony Davis played in that series, he was great.
He was by far the best player on
Oh
the
yeah,
court.
so fatigue didn't limit him. That's the most brittle guy in the league.
Well, you got
accordingly.
injured in 3 games, my friend. What are you
Talk to
talking
me.
about?
Talk to me, Riv.
So
Fatigue's part
if
of
Jimmy
injury.
Butler is this tier 1 guy to you, John, why do you never pick the Heat to go to ECF or the finals?
He did
Because
today. He
they're
did this. He did this year.
He didn't pick them over the Bucks.
He picked the Heat. Well, that's not fair.
I have them being the Knicks.
Last year, I don't think you picked them to go to the ECF.
Did
or
you
the
see?
finals.
Did you
You
see?
had anybody be in the Knicks.
I
It's
had
not that
I had the
crazy.
Heat going to the ECF last year.
You did?
Yes.
Did you
I
have
had
them
the
go
Heat going
finals?
to the ECF also.
I want to make sure
In
you stay
2021
consistent.
as well, I did have them making it out. I guess that's not true. I didn't have them being the Bucks, but I did have them making it to the second round, taking care of Indiana. So I've always been higher on them.
But did you see Giannis getting hurt, missing 2 3/4?
Mhm.
Did you see? Like no one could
Oh, I'm
predict
sorry.
that
No, no.
Giannis.
But I don't think nobody's seen Jimmy doing this again.
I mean,
He
he's
could. I mean, he's playing his best
He did it
basketball at
last
33,
year.
my friend.
not. He was
We
kind
say this every
against the
year with him.
Celtics. He was hurt. That's why he had games
But
that
I
he
think
wasn't that
what it
great.
is-
But
He shows you illusions of the regular season, so you think he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to do it again. But I do think you have to split these top 10 players up.
That's
'Cause
fine.
in no
You're
form
right.
or fashion is Tatum, Jimmy Butler.
you're right.
Even respect to Devin Booker, he's a great player. Those guys are on the top 3-4 players.
You're right.
It's just they're not.
That's
It's,
a good
I
it's
thought that was
okay.
pretty clear. I mean,
No,
you
that's
said
right.
you said tier 1, number 1 guys.
Mhm.
Then you said tier 2. John agreed with your tier 2 guys, and it turned into a Jimmy Butler not being a tier 1 guy.
That was my
I
fault.
don't know
no,
what the hell
that
he's
was
talking
no, that was my fault.
It's Jimmy's this guy.
No, and it's not on John. That was me because I disagreed.
just
But then
put
you
on
broke
my
it down, and you're 100%
Wait, hold on.
right. I'm willing
just-
to say that.
I'm just still on this. Why are we excusing 14 points in 4 games in the playoffs? Why are we excusing
I
that?
just told you before, and you didn't listen.
That's
to me.
not an excuse though to me.
Fatigue
He
is a
shot
good
30%
excuse.
from the field.
You know how long a typical NBA offseason is, right? It's 4 months long for some teams. It's 5 or 6 months.
And they still
Okay.
play 72.
And they
Okay,
had
yes.
52
You
day
played a
off
long season, but in that regular season, you were still productive. Like, I understand if his entire season was down. Okay,
He was slightly better.
in his entire season, he was having a down season because of fatigue. Then he got to the playoffs, and it's understandable. In a regular season, you were good. And in the playoffs, you drop off.
We're never going to see that again from
Like,
Jimmy
I don't-
Butler. So
I
that's
don't-
an anomaly.
Why? How do you know that?
Because there's
'Cause
not
in
going to
3
be
or
a
4
fucking
years-
pandemic
But
spread
hey,
to the
your
United
entire-
States
your-
and
your-
ending the NBA
your
entire-
season.
three of
your
4
entire take
years
is
schedule
a
for the
future.
next
It's
2
based
years.
on
But that's not
projection.
true.
His
That's
entire
not
take is
true.
based on
That's
projection.
not true. Because 3 of 4 years, he's been unbelievable in the playoffs. 3 of 4 years, he's been unbelievable. Is that wrong?
No, you're right.
Well,
3
we
of 4
cannot-
years,
we
he's
cannot-
been really good.
We cannot make a take based on this is what he's going to be next year and 2
But
years
that's
from
why
now.
he's saying it's an anomaly.
Jimmy
because-
Butler could very well have a bad series next year in the playoffs.
Again, yes, that's fine, but he's going off what's
That's not
already.
a real
But
take.
he's already going off what's happened. He's going off 2020.
Okay, no, I get what
He's
you mean.
going off 2022.
Jimmy has one stinker
He's
too,
going
yeah.
off 2023. That's what John is talking about.
And there's not going to be
It's not
another
that, Joel,
worldwide
honestly.
pandemic ruining the NBA schedule to where NBA players' off season is completely ruined. And as we see, these guys are built off habits and routines. After playing the league for 12, 13 years, when that pattern is disrupted, then it compromises your body. And for Jimmy Butler, he was fatigued in the second half of that year, as was his entire team. As was the entire Los Angeles Lakers, a team that didn't in the bubble. Whereas the Bucks, who got bounced a month before, had a fucking month to sit on their couches, an extra month to rest, which allowed them to go to a higher
We're talking
level
about a
with
Lakers
better
team who LeBron, going into the playoffs, he was injured.
He got hurt.
He got injured. He's
Fatigue
30. How old
leads
was
to
he?
injuries, my guy.
That
Okay,
was 2
I'm not
years
talking
ago,
about the Lakers right now.
36.
How old was LeBron
He's
at the time?
36.
He was 36. Jimmy Butler was 28, 29 at the time. You're giving an excuse to a
This
29-year-old.
was 2 years ago. He's 31 years old.
That's why he's
How
saying.
old
That's
is he
why
right
he's saying.
now?
That's what he's saying. That's what he's
How
saying.
old is he right
That's what he's
now?
saying.
He's 33.
Listen, yes.
Oh no, he's 33 now.
Sorry,
Alright, so he's
31.
31.
So when is your
Difference.
prime? When is your prime?
27
26
to like
yeah, I
32,
was gonna- yeah,
33.
yeah, for sure.
Probably a little longer because
Jimmy Butler's last 4 games in the regular season of that season, he had 25, 26, 13, and 21 points.
Weren't they AFC? He probably had to will them in.
And then the last 2 games he did not dress, so he rested for
Yeah,
the last 2
Miami
games.
wasn't
going
that
to
good that
playoffs,
year.
and he stunk.
Because Tyler Hero took a strong regression from the
He's
bubble
stunk.
to
Bro,
this.
I'm not like it's not crazy. Listen, what you're saying is valid as the reasons why the Heat weren't good that year. I'm not excusing Butler's performance in that series.
Well, it was a boxing one, and the rest of the guys were
Well, get a
poop.
jumper.
Agreed, but he has.
Yeah, but
He has.
Well, it ultimately
Bucks
comes
also
down
didn't play
to
box one ever again.
Yeah.
great players respond, and Jimmy Butler's responded in the last 2 years.
the same way Trae Young responded in this playoff series.
He didn't go anywhere.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm just
Don't do that. Listen,
Guys,
is
that's
Joel
what
wrong?
I want.
Is Joel wrong, John?
He's not.
Bro,
No.
I'm just
But
saying,
it's
bro,
unnecessary.
Trae Young come-
Bro, I'm just saying, for every player,
No, Trae
regular
Young
se-
responded.
bro.
Oh, he did.
Bro,
Garland did.
for every player, regular season does not mean shit. In the playoffs, it matters the most. For Jimmy Butler, his bad playoff series,
He's having
it's
beef with
what
Trae Young or
wrong.
something?
He does.
Okay.
He
Yeah, but
does.
No, Trae Young responded in
Bro,
high
bro
fashion.
is sweeping Butler's worst playoff series under the rug. Like, what are we
Well,
talking about
I
here?
did have the Hawks going to 6 games, and they went to 6 games.
Trae Young was amazing.
Oh, he played
He bounced
awesome.
back.
But they couldn't go
Yeah,
6
big
games
time.
with Trae Young not being Trae Young.
Agreed.
This is a fact.
So then what was
I
the six-
saying
They
he
also-
made him
yeah.
play better, and he stepped up and played better.
So he proved you wrong.
So Garland
Yeah,
or Trae
sure.
Young?
I would take Trae Young. I don't know.
Mr.
I don't know.
I'm not
I
gonna
don't
lie.
know.
We're dead right now. We're dead in the water.
Bro, I'm like,
Don't even answer. Don't even answer. Don't even answer. If I was you, I wouldn't personally answer that question. I wouldn't answer.
I had to think about it.
Don't think about it. Stop saying stuff like
bro,
we're dead
if
in the
you're-
water
all I'm
right
saying,
now.
If you're a playoff guy, be a playoff guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just be like, oh, because Butler had a bad series now, it's regular season
No,
oriented.
I think Garland still
I'm
hasn't reached his
dead.
peak, but Young has. So I don't know.
Young has reached his peak.
I think so.
So Jimmy is a top what player to you?
Top 8.
Top 8. Who's your top 8? Shoot me that real quick.
Steph Curry number 1 for now. Jokic and Giannis 2 and 3. You're still
Okay.
gonna kick out of that. Number 4, I'd probably have. This is where it gets controversial because Kevin Durant's not played well offensively. But
Neither
I'd
has
have-
Embiid.
I would
Where's
have
Anthony?
Kevin Durant.
Where's
at
Anthony?
4.
Anthony?
I would have Luca at 5.
Okay.
I would have.
Fuck is Anthony?
Okay.
He's not top 6. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think.
okay,
I would
In
have,
the playoffs, he elevates.
No, we're talking about generally.
I would
In
have
the playoffs, he elevates.
Kawhi.
He hasn't elevated in a minute.
Kawhi and Embiid 6 and 7. And I
His
honestly
defense is
think.
amazing.
I honestly think
11 points.
4 through
Fuck you.
7, Kawhi, Durant, Luca, and Embiid. All 4 of those guys are right on top of each other, so it can easily swing, and you're really just nitpicking. Number 8, I will go Jimmy Butler. 9 would be LeBron, AD, Tatum. That tier of guys. And I'm not trying
No
to.
D-Book?
I'm not trying to disrespect the Lakers.
So you think
guys.
Tatum's over D-Book?
Slightly.
I
Very
trust.
slightly.
I'll be honest. I think Tatum on average is better than D-Book. I
Right.
trust D-Book in those big time games a little more.
His
Because
guys-
his overall game is nasty.
I am in Dell's chair. I do got to point out Tatum on, I think it was clutch shots, is 13 of 26 last couple of years. He has hit big time shots, so I do want to give Tatum that.
He took
respect.
one against the big 3 Nets.
His in-between game is
Yeah.
fire, too.
50.
Who,
Nah, he
Tatum?
did.
50
He
ball.
had a 40 and
Booker.
50 ball.
I was
Not
going to
Tatum.
say, yeah, Tatum's
Booker's in-between game
games
is
cooked. Talk
nuts.
about being cooked.
Not Tatum. No.
In the playoffs, Booker averages more points, more assists, more steals.
He's better.
Booker?
He's better.
Can you fucking
Than Jayson
relax?
It's close.
It's not-
No,
it's
this
not-
is this is the narrative you want to push. I seen you've
It's
been
not a-
chatting this shit on Twitter. Talk to me,
It's
please.
not a bad take.
It's
I don't
close.
think-
Devin
I
Booker in
don't-
his first final.
No, go ahead, talk about it.
What did I say on Twitter?
I don't know.
I just
You
put
tell
up a
me.
poll and I put
You tell me.
question mark.
You tell
I
me.
didn't answer the question.
I know you had an ulterior motive.
Nah, because I saw John's tweet talking about what's the difference between them. So I was like, fuck it, let me just do a poll real quick.
Talk to me. Because
About what?
defensively, who's better?
I think Tatum is better, but Book has shown strides defensively.
Absolutely.
Book
And Tatum
is a
has
great
3
defender
all
now.
defensive
Is he
players.
When it
Is-
matters.
Is
What
he
if
ta-
you put Derek? What if you put Derek White? Robert Williams,
Don't do
and
this.
Marcus
I don't want
Smart
to do
next
that.
Devin
That's
Booker?
unfair. I don't want to do that. I don't
Because
want to do that.
Tatum is a unique fit. He's a great fit in Boston. But if he had the same type of load and responsibilities Devin Booker had, then his defensive performance might drop off the way it does for Devin Booker. But
his
Devin
offense
Booker
would improve.
Has had monster games defensively.
Devin Booker with the Celtics supporting cast. We talking about JB as number 2 could win a championship.
He could have won. He could have won with this one.
pretty
Though.
comfortably, I think.
The same shit with Jayson Tatum.
I just think defense, a lot of it is your energy and your stamina, and Tatum has more of a supporting cast.
I'm gonna pretend like
And
the
in the
Suns
finals-
didn't lose the finals.
They
He
lost
was
the
amazing.
finals.
He was
not 'cause of
amazing.
D-Book.
But also, are we not gonna pretend like he didn't get outscored by Cam Johnson last year in a Game 7?
That shit was ugly.
That was a nasty
What
walk
was
off.
uglier?
I'm not.
Devin
I'm not
Booker
like. I
going
hate that
out
we have
versus
conversations like
Mavericks
this because then you
or
force me to shit talk
Tatum's
Devin
fine.
Booker.
You
I don't
know
want
what?
to do that.
Tatum's
But
final
hold on,
generally was
but
ugly.
the thing,
That Game 7 was
the,
nasty.
what I'm gonna combat that
was
with is
worse.
that when the Suns lost the NBA Finals, I don't look at D-Book and
I
say
don't.
that's why they
I don't.
lost.
I don't
I look
either.
at DeAndre
I don't.
Ayton. How'd you get 50 dropped on you?
Let's
Well,
find out.
He got 50 dropped on. Giannis, who has he done that
No, I'm
to?
screaming.
It's just been Ayton.
See, let's look at the finals.
Chris Paul.
He had 240 balls in the finals. Devin Booker.
Chris Paul was not very good in those finals. He was efficient, but you look at him play, he was not very good.
Shot 36%. It had
Ooh.
19 points in that Game
Ooh.
6. Booker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
He had a
6
20.
was
What
He
about
had,
Game 5?
he had a 21%
That's
game.
at home. That's at home.
Yeah, he had a 21% game too. He had 10 points. So he had 19 points, 40 points, 42 points back to back. That's tough.
Yeah, he went
But
crazy.
then he had 10 points. Then he had 31, 27. So he had two stinkers.
We can all agree.
He averaged
Tatum is
28 in
better
that
than
finals.
Booker.
Yeah, yeah.
No, he was great.
Just two stinkers. That's
He was
all.
great.
Nothing crazy.
He had great moments, I should say, but there were moments that weren't so high.
Mikal Bridges averaged 12 points in that series.
Mikal Bridges, we knew who
He wasn't
at that
he
time.
wasn't
That's
that
not
guy
who he
yet.
was. Correct.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, you cannot stop the paint. I don't think that's on Devin Booker. The Game 7 versus the Mavericks, I understand that, but I also look at Chris Paul dropping off a
Johnson.
cliff.
Cam Johnson.
But Chris Paul dropped off
outscored
a
him.
cliff after Game 4.
Chris Paul's done this 2 postseasons in a row now.
But Chris
Three,
Paul,
if you
Chris
really
Paul
wanna
was
count the
really
finals.
horrendously
Nah,
bad
that whole
after.
team gets the blame for that Game 7.
The whole
Come
team.
on.
Whole team gets the blame. I think D-Book and Tatum is a bigger. It's a conversation. I was still leaning Tatum,
Okay, thank you.
but it's a conversation. We got to acting like Tatum is just above and beyond these young players.
Devin Booker's a savage.
Yeah, he's not.
Devin Booker's unbelievably great.
And Tatum and D-Book in the playoffs, like when he got there, he been on a different level. So I don't know.
So D-Book fringe top 7 in the league.
no,
Top 10.
I'm
Fringe
asking.
Top 10.
I think he's a top 10 player.
Okay.
Fringe. He's not better than
There's so
Anthony
many great
Davis.
players.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
like
you're
top
saying
12.
that. You just told me that Book is better than Tatum.
No, I said Tatum's better than Book, but it's close. I said it's a conversation. They're both tier 2 guys to me, regardless. So
I hope the chat blows up telling me if Riv just flipped right here.
No,
So I was just doing some research. I want to see how the Heat players played in that series. Dragic,
Here we go.
Kill me, bro. No, that's Joel. Congratulations.
Dragic led the Heat in scoring with 16 a game, 43% field, 36% from 3.
Wait, this
Serious.
against the Bucks?
Yeah, in the first round series where Butler averaged 14.
Uh-huh.
And Dragic played as many games as Butler that year as well. And he played in the bubble too
But Dragic did get hurt in the bubble.
for the finals. But
Correct.
he was there for all 3 series before
Okay.
that. So he also had a shortened offseason and he managed to play
But
well.
did
in
you
that
also
series.
see what the Bucks offensive players were doing?
They weren't that great.
Bryn averaged 15, Brook averaged 15,
Oh, yeah,
Middleton averaged 20,
It was a
Drew
team-
averaged
yeah, yeah.
15, Giannis averaged 22.
Yeah, but that
It's
doesn't.
like-
What they're doing offensively does not take away what you can do as to to respond.
You're
to
right.
that.
You're
Goran
right.
Dragic played well, and Bam Adebayo played at his usual level, like 15 and 9. The 2 players that dropped off were Jimmy and Tyler Hero. They dropped off dramatically.
Tyler Hero was really, really
he was horrible.
disappointing.
But I'm saying if Dragic can play efficiently, why is it so much ass with Butler? That's
Well,
all
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
one has a lot more responsibility.
14 points is 14 points, bro.
Unfortunately, it is, John. You know, just take it. Hey, he was bad, but the 3 of the 4 years, other than that, when he's been a
You're not
dog.
excusing James Harden for carrying mid rosters in Houston, making the playoffs, and he didn't play well because he was gassed.
Shout out to Q Bigavelli. Top 9 to 16 is fluid. I agree with him. I think the Anthony Davis to James Harden, Paul George, Zion tier is pretty interchangeable.
James Harden tier. I personally don't think he's like.
I don't think Harden's top 20.
certain guys in there
No,
aren't
I
fluid.
think he could be top 20 for
He's
sure.
at 18 for me currently. I'm
Certain guys in there aren't fluid. They're pretty much in there.
Wait, you said Harden's
Well,
at 18 for you?
That mix
Like
of
Donovan-
7 or 8 players is interchangeable. So it's
Donovan,
all-
Ja, all these guys, like there's
but it's
a
the
lot of
same
great
core
players.
of players. We
All
can
right.
have an idea.
Next topic. Dillon Brooks. Is he being scapegoated? There was a report that came out that the Grizzlies won't bring him back under any circumstances. His agent combated that and said, you know what, this is, it was foolishness. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here. And you had a lot of people respond. JJ had a passionate response to this. Under any circumstances probably is a bit crude language, I will say. Dillon Brooks, offensively, he's horrid. He's an elite defensive player. I do think he is an elite defensive player. He is an elite defensive wing,
Elite on
for
ball.
sure. Yes, perimeter defender. I do think Dillon Brooks
Fouls like shit.
is kind of being scapegoated here. I think the Grizzlies have more problems than just his offensive ineptitude. You look at the playoff series that we just witnessed. Brooks was horrible.
Guy.
I'm actually starving. I haven't eaten a solid meal today. I needed this.
6
Athletic
o'clock.
Greens. Athletic Greens.
Yeah, bro, I folded. I didn't have my normal routine today.
David Roddy shot 30% from three this series, and we're not expecting much from David Roddy. Tyus Jones, the best backup point guard in the NBA, averaged 5 points, 4 assists, shot 30% from the field and 16% from three. Jaren Jackson Jr. averaged 18. He shot 28% from three. Desmond Bane, a usual sharpshooter, shot 32% from three, but he averaged 23.5 points per game. I'll excuse it.
He was also really good games 5 and 6.
And John Morant,
4 and 5.
he shot
5 and
40%
6.
from three in a series. But you look at John Morant, in game 3, he shot 6% from three. Every other game combined, he shot 7 for 21, 33%. Game 3, he hit a flurry of threes that just went in, but they were leaving him wide open.
That was some out of body shit.
We're saying Ja, I'm sorry?
Ja,
Yeah, no, he did shoot the ball well. He did.
one game, game
One
3.
half.
Their biggest issue is what I've been saying all year long. They have a bottom 20 half court offense, and when you have a non-shooter like Dillon Brooks on your team, surrounded by 2 other non-shooters and John Morant, usually Steven Adams or Xavier Tillman, and Jaren Jackson is like a half a shooter because he's very inconsistent, it's going to make for some ugly offensive basketball. And Dillon Brooks just so happens to be the worst shooter among all these guys that takes the most shots. So he's the one that gets the most blame in this. I do think that he talked too much. He poked the bear. But that was a culture the Grizzlies have been setting. John Morant saying we're fine in the West. Their star player coming out and saying early, putting the West on notice early for them to have a target on their back. Desmond Bane guaranteeing a win. I think this team just likes to trash talk. And Dillon Brooks being a part of it, fed into it, probably the leader of it. But this is who he is. This is the chip he has on his shoulder. And just like when we had the Embiid and Jokic topic, and you talked about Embiid's origins and where he came from, we also got to acknowledge that with Dillon Brooks. This is somebody that he has a short wingspan, a wingspan shorter than his height. He's he was the 45th pick in the NBA draft in 2017. He was not supposed to be starting on one of the best teams in any conference, and he's been able to make it this far because of his competitive edge. I do think that what he's realized in all of this is that when you really try to become the villain and fully embrace a heel-like role, very quickly you will learn to understand that that's not what you really want to do. I think Dillon Brooks is going to learn from this, and I'm going to bank on his work ethic that's taken him up to this point to continue to shine, and I think he will get an opportunity within the team, and he'll be more calm offensively. I think it's going to take the right coach to make him more calm offensively. If he can pick his spots and know when to pass, know when to shoot, and not be so trigger happy, he can be one of the better productive glue guys we have in this league.
I think what you're getting at is that Dillon Brooks crossed the line. But now, I don't think it was Taylor Jenkins enabling him to jack up 12 shots a game. It was the Grizzlies' offense. You started this off by saying they have a lot of issues, and what it starts is the roster construction. Zach Kleiman, the front office, is not a team that's going to take a lot of big-time moves. They didn't make a big-time swing for KD. They're not going to part ways with a lot of these really good young players because they're trying to accumulate as much young talent as they can. So moving on from Dillon Brooks is a way for them to reset and find a starting small forward who gives them that elite at least strong, reliable two-way player they can count on. Dillon Brooks got to a point where he was more damaging than helpful in the playoffs, and that's a second straight year. Now, at 27 years old, he's still a good player. He's still one of the most versatile players in the league. Not guarding LeBron James, but generally speaking, at 27, he's going to be better. 2 years ago in the playoffs, the guy dropped 25 points in a 5-game series versus Utah. When he gets hot offensively, which is rare, but he can knock down shots at an average rate. He is a pretty valuable offensive player. And more importantly, he's a culture piece, right? The Grizzlies extended that grit and grind dogma with Dillon Brooks being at the forefront as that connector that got these young guys to develop. And he inspired the belief in a team that became a 56-win squad in the regular season. He's a huge player. But the problem in Memphis is that, like I said before, they need to find some complementary players to play off of Ja. I think what makes Ja Moran a top 5 point guard is him overcoming their lack of spacing, right? And they can muddy things up with elite defensive and offensive rebounding. But ultimately, in the playoff crucible, when the game slows down, Steven Adams has gained this PCL injury. You need more spacing. Guys that are going to be able to complement him, taking some of the onus off of his plate to create constantly. Because he's a player with a play style that's not going to age well. So when you look at this squad, I feel like what's held back many teams in the past, these hyper-athletic guards, Russell Westbrook's a great example, you need to find the number 2. Desmond Bane on a great regular season team is a fine number 2. But in the playoffs, he's more of a third wheel. Jaren Jackson is a defensive player of the year, and a rightful one at that. But Jaren Jackson, much like Bam Adebayo, is not a 2A. He's a 3A. And I think if you can find yourself that number 2, sort of what the Bulls got in Jimmy Butler, which is much easier said than done, everything opens up for this Memphis team. But until they find that number 2, they're going to run into the same exact issue. I think the end game here, what they have to attack, is one of these drafts and really go out and swing with one of these young prospects. They tried that with Zaire Williams. He didn't play this year. He was injured most of the year. So now next year, Zaire is going to be a 21-year-old sophomore with really no experience, and he's a 27% three-point shooter. Is that the starting small forward you're going to bank on? Probably not, though you invested a top 10 pick into him.
It was a horrible pick.
It was not a horrible pick. I don't know.
At the time, it was a horrible pick.
It was a reach in the draft.
It was a big reach.
It was.
He was
a
horrible. He
first-round
was
talent.
horrible at Stanford. They
Yes.
banked on his high school resume more so than college, because college he was shit.
But he was a top 20 prospect in the class.
He was a top 20 prospect, but I remember me and Rev talking about it. Zaire Williams had the potential, but he was a high school player. In college, he was garbage. He wasn't a consistent shooter. He was a bad defender. He was a complete negative player in college.
It was a
You know
reach.
what?
I had my small forward rankings that year, and I had guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones clear over him.
Yeah, I agree with Trey Murphy. But here's the thing.
And they could have got Trey Murphy if they didn't trade up to the pick.
Don't say that. They need to take a swing on this year's draft. And I've looked at a couple of different wins. We can get into this in a
Here
different
comes
discussion.
your Maxwell Lewis agenda.
No, I'm not
for
going to
shit.
do it here. But they do need to find this young wing fast. Because Ja, I consider this a Ja Morant fan, peaked earlier than most players. And like I said before, until he develops a mid-range game like a De'Aaron Fox, when he is reliant and more so hell-bent on attacking the rim, he's going to have that reckless abandon for his body. So they need to pick this thing up quicker than we all expect. Because I don't think this window for the Grizzlies is as wide and large as everybody's made out to.
Put your
It's not.
fucking chocolate back on, bro.
But it's also
Your feet are kicking my ass. They're kicking my ass. I'm looking under the table. I'm like, bro, whose shoes are off right now? You're punching me,
My
bro.
shoes been off, bro.
Nah, bro. I'm just getting punched nonstop. Thank you.
Should have passed
shoes
it back.
over
I look
there.
at the Grizzlies though. You had Adams. You had Adams and Clark injured for the playoff series.
Don't fucking touch me. Don't.
But what we don't talk about enough is how the Grizzlies let DeAnthony Melton walk
Facts.
and Kyle Anderson. Talk about Kyle Anderson, who was a great player for the Timberwolves this year, and DeAnthony Melton, who has been a great player for the Sixers. You know, you have Melton and Kyle Anderson on the Grizzlies. It's a different team, and you can roll out different lineups. And not keeping those two was a huge loss.
Think so though? It was
I
still
do.
top 3 seed.
Wasn't a huge loss.
It was a huge loss.
Well, Melton obviously was a great defender.
Melton
for
wasn't playing that
Philadelphia.
You know
much.
what? Melton's shooting.
That's because they had 2 guards
I
already.
think-
But
I
in the
think
playoffs, the year
Grizzlies-
before, Melton was not shooting well.
I think Grizzlies would have benefited a lot instead of having Aldama minutes had Kyle Anderson minutes.
It's okay.
You don't think so? Instead of Tyus Jones minutes, let's throw out Melton out there because Tyus Jones was shit in this.
Aldama was one of the few that was actually
Wait,
knocking down
Melton
shots.
wasn't that good
He was wide
against
open.
Minnesota, if I'm
No.
not mistaken. He wasn't that good
Nah,
against
he
Minnesota.
wasn't. But Melton's been good for the Sixers, and he's
Exactly, in a new
he's a
foundation.
defensive
Where he's
player.
more
He's a
needed.
defensive pest. That's what he is.
He
I
is
just
more
think-
needed with them because they don't have that many guards.
Slow-mo, too, was a better fit serving the Timberwolves.
He was great with the Grizzlies too, though.
He was good.
He's better. He's better.
Taylor
for
Jenkins
Minnesota.
cut down his minutes, and Taylor Jenkins is also somebody who has not adjusted in the playoffs. You talk about Budenholzer. Taylor Jenkins does not adjust in the playoffs either.
I think that's more because of his team. Like,
I do think they definitely missed Slow-mo as a leader, though. They missed, like, he could have been.
I
in
think
that
a lot
locker
of
room. He was a
Memphis's
huge part of
Memphis's
culture.
issues is internal. In terms of the Dillon Brooks things, I don't feel bad because he kind of put it on himself. You know, calling LeBron old, talking shit. You know, being that kind of villain throughout the season, and then playing victim.
Till they give me 4.
I don't know. I don't really. I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, he's a great defender, but that defense does not offset his bad offensive play. He's not good offensively. He cannot play make. He's not a good ball handler. He cannot shoot. He takes horrible shots that kind of stop the offense. The great defense does not equate. Like, it does not offset that. So I think They do need to upgrade at the 3. I think we've all known that. Draymond Green was right yet again, unfortunately.
Dynasty starts after you.
Yep, and he's cooking. I do think a 3 would be huge. I wish they would have pulled the trigger on Mikal Bridges or OG. That would have been a perfect wing for them. But internally, Ja, Bane, Jaren, they got to get better. Do they have to bring another prospect in? Absolutely, 100%. But those 3 guys got to get better. Steven Adams is a guy who is good for them throughout the regular season, but that's a playoff guy that they need to move. He's a big contract. Not big, but he's a good contract. That's somebody they need to start moving away from. They need to get more shooters. That's the main issue. But I think the big 3 of Jaren, Bane, and Ja just has to get better internally. You know, Ja has to work on his jumper, start from the paint outwards. Desmond Bane has to continue to work on his creation, continue to work on his shot. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep working. Jaren also has to work on his creation, be more of a ready shooter, be more of a elite shooter. And if they keep doing that, then they can be able to build the proper necessary pieces around them. But right now, they kind of have a stagnant offense because Ja can't shoot outside the paint. You know, Jaren Jackson is not a great three-point shooter. You know, we had him coming out the draft. We thought he was going to be able to stretch the floor at a great rate, 40%, three-point shooter, 39. He's inconsistent with that. And then Desmond Bane sometimes looks streaky. So I think you have Dillon Brooks out there. You have Steven Adams, 2 non-shooters. That's 3 to 4 non-shooters. Jaren on a good day, yeah. But Jaren on a bad day, that's 4 non-shooters on the court at the same time. So
Jaren can kind of stroke it.
Yeah, that's what I said, on a bad day.
Yeah.
So he's inconsistent with it. So the construction of the roster is great for the regular season. But their point is, in the playoffs, we have to push this pace. We have to get far. They made it to the second round. They've made consistent improvement. But then this year, they reached a stop. They played LeBron and AD, who's an awful matchup for them, and they ended up losing in 6 games. Realistically, 5. That game 6 doesn't count. But I think realistically, they just have to continue to build this roster.
40-ball race is a W that they got?
Yes.
So Jaren Jackson last 3 seasons, this past season 36% from 3, 35.5 rounded up 36. Last season 32%. The year before that 28% from 3.
Kind of stroke it, like I said.
Not ideal. 28 is nasty business.
Getting to 35, 36 is impressive,
But in
though.
his first 2 seasons, it was at 36% and 39%.
Oh, so he's falling off.
So he's up and down.
Uh-huh. I guess it's my turn.
It
So
is
regardless,
definitely
Dillon Brooks and a scapegoat. I think that I don't know if everyone's pointing blame at Dillon Brooks. That's the main reason that they lost. That's definitely not what I'm doing. I'm definitely looking at Dillon Brooks in, you know, obviously I'm not an NBA player. I'm not the athlete that they are, but I'm pointing to Dillon Brooks and laughing at Dillon Brooks because, of course, he's the one that was the most vocal of all the Grizzlies players. Of course, everyone knows the quote. He's old. I poke bears. I don't respect nobody until they give me 40. So, of course, when the Lakers go and they close you out, winning by 40 points flat, of course people are going to point and make fun of you. Say, hey, you have fun over there overseas playing basketball. You know, you're not a player that people are going to want on their NBA rosters. You look at every fan base that they're rumored to go and have and acquire Dillon Brooks or be in conversations to potentially have a landing spot for Dillon Brooks. These fans don't want Dillon Brooks near their teams because they don't want that headache. They don't want that extra chatter, that noise that comes with having Dillon Brooks on your team. But I definitely don't look at Dillon Brooks being scapegoated as the reason why the Grizzlies lost this series. Sure, you might have given the Lakers more motivation than they're already playing with. You could look to that being a reason why, sure, but in the grand scheme of things, they don't have shooting, they lack size, and defensively, they played really great defensively. That's the one thing you could look at this series and say, hey, that was their strong point. But offensively, that's been an issue all season long. If Ja wasn't getting it going, who was already hampered with a hand injury too, that's not something that people really bring up all too often. He played the entire series very visibly injured. Desmond Bane, who had his moments of being really good, had his moments of being an all right basketball player, and Jaren Jackson, who was supposed to be, quote-unquote, the best defensive player in this series because he won Defensive Player of the Year, got outmatched in his own game, where Anthony Davis was simply just better than him defensively. So it's clear that just the Grizzlies have deficiencies. They need some extra depth. They need it to be healthy, really, because, of course, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark getting injured and not being able to play in the postseason put them at a deficit, especially against Anthony Davis, who just was in a different mode. And as good as Xavier Tillman showed to be in this series, it's not enough. You needed more guys. You needed to be able to, for sure. You need to be able to stretch the floor. You don't have that luxury right now. So that needs to be your primary goal. Space the floor. Surround Ja with with weapons that he doesn't have to be Superman, high flying, this acrobat that's going to potentially put him in harm's way in the future. Supply him with assets that actually is going to be beneficial to his game that you can allow him to have some longevity.
There are 2 playoff level teams I think Dillon Brooks can help out immediately. And there are 3 young teams that I think would be good fits for him. Today it was rumored that the Pistons are suitors for Dillon Brooks. I
They
think
need
that would
more
be a great
non-shooters.
fit for Dillon Brooks. I think with Cade, Ivy, Duran, Brooks, the spacing doesn't sound amazing.
Sounds like dog shit.
It doesn't sound amazing, but the Grizzlies have gone without spacing and they've been fine.
Who's the Pistons' best shooter in that lineup?
If you're the Bucks, are you taking Dillon Brooks?
Fuck it.
Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
I guess so.
If you're
Bogdanovich,
the Bucks,
Ivy,
are you taking Dillon Brooks?
No.
they can't afford
I only
him.
say that because they can't. Fair. But is he going to be getting paid like that?
I think
No.
he'll get a reasonable contract, 10 to 15 million a year.
He's not getting 15. No way.
think
I
he'll
only
get a
say that
reasonable
because
contract.
what we looked from the Bucks was that they needed wing defense. They have the offensive firepower; they could score. It's just the wing defenders weren't there. I just look. Dillon Brooks can give you some solid
score.
minutes, right?
It's also spacing, though. I think that's just with him and Giannis is just too much.
Okay.
But I think the Pistons, they could benefit from because they need a culture setter, and I think Dillon Brooks is a culture setter for them. I understand Cade has not been the shooter.
Culture setter.
He is a culture
It's a
setter.
strong word.
He is.
It's a strong
Dillon
word.
Brooks.
He is.
Did he set the culture for
know.
Memphis?
I think
don't
he's
see him
definitely
like that.
somebody that
He
jump
helped.
started it.
I don't know if
I'm
he
gonna
started.
say John Morant was the culture starter.
No, he was the star of it all for
Brooks
sure.
was
No,
there
I
before
think he
Ja.
also.
Dillon Brooks was there before
Yeah.
Ja,
That's what he
I
was
understand.
before.
and he's been there through everything with them.
I understand.
And in the bubble, he averaged 26 points.
I think
per
the
game
culture is going to
versus
be
the
fine
Jazz.
without him. So I don't think I can't.
That's
I
the
can't
argument.
say he's
I
a
look at.
culture
I
setter.
also look at Indiana. I think Indiana would be a great team for him too. I think with Tyrese.
I think the team that needs him the most is a team in need of a veteran spark, someone that needs toughness, integrity.
Miami.
And I think the Rockets would be the right team because let's be honest, they have a lot of pampered young players that need someone that's going to be physical and teach them what it's like to win a little bit in the league. And
Listen,
I
I
think
I would love to get a
defensively,
full
he'll be
video
huge.
of them
Brooks,
in the locker
but
room. with him.
let's
Yeah,
go.
that'd be
Dillon
interesting.
Brooks can help a young team, but he can help also teams that want to win. Like I don't think that
Can he start on
he's
those
a
teams?
losing player. He can definitely start. He's a starting forward in his league. I think I wouldn't be so reactionary to say he's not.
He's not that
He
good,
is.
bro.
Okay, all
No,
right.
he's
I
really
mean,
not that
for His
good.
career
He isn't
high,
that good,
His
man.
career
Not
high
good.
from in true shooting is like 52%. 52%. 53%.
Dillon Brooks fan or something,
Bro, I think
Fake
Dillon
it.
Brooks is a good
Fake
player.
it. No, bro.
He's Dillon Brooks,
Very,
that's what it
very
is.
quietly for
He was
a couple
legitimately
months now.
upset when we said
Since
he's
I
not
was
that
in
good.
Florida,
Look at this.
he's been talking to us about how
His
Dillon Brooks is
career high in true shooting
underappreciated.
is 53%.
Look at Vandos. What's Vandos?
Vanto doesn't jack up 12 shots a game.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. If
He
Dillon
was
Brooks
letting
can
way too many
hone
shots
that
go
down,
last night.
He's about
he's a starter, bro.
Do you think he's capable of doing
He's an
that?
elite.
He's
you
a starter on a playoff
You
team?
can't name 5 perimeter defenders better than Dillon Brooks right now.
All right, here we go.
That
Let's
is
try.
No,
down to
no. It's not that. It's, we can
Jared
name
Vanderbilt,
perimeter
Caruso.
defenders that can score.
Vanderbilt's not a better perimeter defender than Dillon Brooks.
I would take him for his size.
Let's
correct.
try it.
I would.
Jaden McDaniels,
Mhm.
OG Anunoby.
That's
He
a
can
toss-up.
score.
What do you mean?
He can hit the 3 ball.
And OG can
Perimeter
play more
defenders?
minutes.
That is a
Part
toss
of
up.
being the better defender is that you can play more minutes so you can close games. OG's less foul prone. And he's a better offensive player. He also isn't reckless at times, too. So you can rely on him a little bit.
All right.
I don't
just
know about
get-
that last
those
one.
Just get to
Two are easy.
Caruso.
He's a little reckless.
Get to Caruso.
OG?
Yeah, OG's a little reckless.
Yeah.
He's a little
I
reckless.
see him attacking a closeout or two.
Yeah, but sometimes, yeah.
Offensively, it's different than Dillon Brooks.
But let's stop
you know.
acting like Dillon Brooks can't help a team win. Like I don't understand
No,
why
let's
we
continue
As
that.
a bench
I
player,
think
yeah.
Dillon Brooks.
There have been players in the NBA before that have been great defenders that offensively don't shoot well.
Talk about
and
Tony
it's-
Allen.
I'm not just Tony Allen. I'm just other players too.
Like who?
That are, Andre
Is he
Robinson
starting-
started for the Thunder
is he-
a lot of years.
Honest question.
Yeah, that wasn't good, but yeah, I
Honest
go with
question:
you.
how many teams is Dillon Brooks starting on in?
A playoff
NBA.
atmosphere. I don't care about the role play.
He can start on the Mavericks right now. He can start on the Kings right now.
That's because they don't have it.
Kings?
The
I think
Kings?
Dillon Brooks is a better player than Harrison Barnes.
Ooh,
But is that what you want though?
They needed a perimeter guy, a perimeter stopper.
That can score too, though.
But no, they needed defense more.
But
But
now
they
they're
need a
playing
guy that
4
can
and
hit the
5 in
three.
some playoff series with Dillon
Yes,
starting.
but if there's any coach that can get the best out of Dillon Brooks, I think it's Mike Brown.
But what if Dillon Brooks is literally just being on guard in the quarter and is
Just tell me
jacking
that
up 12
Jenkins
uncontested threes?
like,
and
is
making
one of the
two
best
them?
coaches in the game.
I don't know. I
Jenkins
feel like
can't do
Brooks is in his
who?
own mind. I don't know if I don't know. He really can't. It's the offense is a big problem.
He's one of
Can
the
he start
most
on the Cavs?
destructive offensive players I've seen in my life.
He, by default,
Oscar
yeah.
Crow is way better than him. I mean,
No,
no,
he's
Dillon Brooks is way better.
But
than
that's by
Oscar Crow.
default. They don't have a wing. That's just by default.
All right.
No, but
All right,
we're
he
saying
could.
Who can he start on?
He can start on the Cavs. 100%. He can start on the
The Cavs, the Knicks,
No.
No. You wouldn't start him
Nets.
over RJ. No.
Fuck
No.
no.
the Hawks.
No.
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 The Heat.
DeAndre Hunter's
Jimmy's the
no,
three.
a little better.
No.
You're not
The
starting him.
Heat?
You're not starting him on the Heat.
Okay. No.
Say it
no,
one more
no,
time,
no,
interrupt
no.
you.
The
You
Heat.
said the Heat. You're not starting on the Heat.
Over Max Strus.
No.
No.
Max Strus spaces the floor.
I was
They
gonna say,
want that
Kevin-
around
Kevin
He
Jimmy.
Love
shot
starts
33% this year in regular
But
season.
you
Yeah, but
can't,
you respect
can't
his
put
jumper,
around
though.
Jimmy and Bam a
You
third.
really respect Max Strus's jumper.
You do.
Why are you doing that?
I was
Come
gonna say
on, bro.
Max Strus
You don't
last year.
You respect
tied-
Max Strus jumper.
I think this year him and Tyler Hero were tied, or Tyler Hero just slightly edged him out for most 3-pointers made.
Dillon Brooks, I think, has a chance to start on the Heat. I don't think
You
it's like
can't
set
put a
in stone.
third non-shooter in that lineup.
They do it. all
Don't they
the
have
time.
Caleb Martin?
Caleb Martin hit shots.
Caleb Martin's not better than Dillon
But
Brooks.
Caleb Martin
He
has
shot
been hitting
40%
shots.
from
He's at the
three.
4.
He's been hitting shots.
Yeah.
And he's
the
also
Bulls.
No,
No.
He's better than Pat Will, bro.
Pat Will doesn't start no more.
he doesn't.
Got him.
What's your starting lineup?
Caruso,
Facts.
Pat Bev, Zach, DeMar, Vooch. Got him.
Well, Vooch is now gone.
Now you want to play that card.
Come on, Caruso and Pat Bev starting. That's fucking ugly.
It worked. We were,
Respect
we were
Caruso.
top 5. We were top 5
I'd rather have
defense.
Caruso come off the bench.
No.
Caruso clears Dylan Brooks.
He
It's
does
not
not
even a question.
clear.
No.
No, he
It's a
clears.
fucking clearing.
No, he does
It's
not.
a fu-
You have
He
to stop.
doesn't, bro. I'm sorry. He doesn't.
cleared
the
it.
Pacers.
I'll take Caruso
He
on my
could
team 10 times out of fucking.
We said
Okay,
playoff
so
teams. We said
really?
playoff teams. We said playoff teams.
You said playoff teams?
Yeah. We were naming playoff teams. Don't name the Pacers.
NBA champion. NBA champion Alex Caruso.
The Kings. He can start on the Kings.
Maybe.
The
Harrison
Suns.
Barnes stinks.
The Suns.
No.
No.
Bro, they're starting Torrey Craig.
Torrey Craig's a better offensive player.
Get the hell out of here.
Here's the
can
issue.
space the
Dillon Brooks
floor.
is better than Torrey Craig.
He is
You're
a lot
forgetting
more
that he
disruptive
stops
offensively.
offenses
Bro,
with his
like,
shot
he
take.
can start on the
if
Suns,
you're
bro.
-5 offensively and Torrey Craig's a +2,
goodness.
I'm taking the +2.
And he
Take
can
the hell out of
defend.
this. Why the hell are we doing this? Enough.
He's a
Bro,
Dillon
he
Brooks
would
fan.
start on the Suns, bro.
I don't
Let's
know.
just stop playing.
Yeah, probably by
Maybe.
default.
Bro, Chris Paul,
With
Dillon
no
Brooks,
Chris Paul,
KD, D
if Chris
Book, and
Paul's
Ant.
out, sure, he could be the 6th man on the Suns.
Bro, he's better than Torrey Craig. Let's stop it.
I'd rather have
Kobe
Torrey
started
Craig.
over Torrey Craig just this past game.
And that was the wrong decision.
And Dillon Brooks is better than
Respectfully.
Kobe.
Well, Torrey Craig should have been starting.
Bro, there was a stretch of games where Kobe was starting over Torrey Craig. Monty Williams had him starting
Cool,
over
that's
him.
Monty Williams'
So
decision.
Dillon Brooks was starting on the Suns. Let's stop making
Let me
this.
look at
let's not
Dylan
make this
Brooks' numbers
hard.
real quick because you losing your mind over here.
This shit made me throw up. Where is his? Oh, I left it. It's Dillon Brooks' efficiency for his career. And it's,
Can he start on the
league
Thunder?
average true shooting is 57%.
No.
No.
Definitely not. Not even close.
They got
Jazz,
Dortz coming off the bench.
the
No, that's
Trailblazers.
cap.
The
Because
Trailblazers.
it's Giddy, it's
49%
SGA,
true
it's Dortz,
Dortz,
it's
J-Dub,
J-Dub, and
whoever's at the
the other,
five.
they,
Bro,
the
the
other J-Dub.
Trailblazers.
Probably.
Yeah, he
Jeremy
could.
Grant's gone?
No, he's a 4.
Okay.
They were starting
I think
Matisse
Dillon
Thybulle and
Brooks
Cam
could
Reddish.
start at the 3, yeah. Over Matisse, yeah.
Listen, I'm not saying
He shot 39% from the field this year.
Brooks is his world beater, bro. I'm saying he's an
Bro, he
elite
shot 13.
defensive player, and if he plays his role,
He fouls way too much.
if he plays his role,
He is an
he
elite
can be
defender.
impactful to teams.
he
bro.
fouls like hell.
We don't disagree with you, but we think
I
how
am.
destructive an offensive player he has been in the playoff crucible is why most of these teams would sign him on a mid-level deal and have him come off the bench.
Well, yes, offensively he hurts your
And he's
team. There's
also
no
a
doubt.
shit rebounder
But
too.
since
for a 6'7"
in the past
wing.
in
He
the
doesn't
past
get on
3
the glass.
seasons, he's been a positive for them net rating wise.
I don't
He's-
give a shit
they're-
about
they're
that.
better.
It starts with John Morant, Desmond Bain, and Jared Jackson.
There are there's minutes. His on and off numbers are great though. They're positive. What do you mean? Sometimes he's not on the floor with Ja, bro. What are you talking about?
But that's one of the deepest teams in the league, and the reality is,
Not this year.
when you
Regular
watch
season,
him
yeah.
play in the playoffs, he has literally had his team playing 4
They have when he's on the court, they have 102 offensive rating.
102 offensive rating.
They can't win the playoffs playing 4 and 5.
Listen, I'm saying he's helpful to a team, bro. We're not gonna lie, he's
we're not
helpful to a
saying
team.
we're not disagreeing, but you're talking about starting.
Bro, he's a starting level.
By
forward,
default,
bro.
bro.
yes.
It's
Oh
by
my-
default.
What do you mean by default?
Memphis didn't have
As
anything
Russell
else.
says in the chat, his role is in Shanghai. Well, it's not.
Well, of course, because everybody
joke.
hates Dillon Brooks, so this is gonna be jokes.
he does
now.
it to himself.
No, I'm not saying he doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he doesn't do it to himself. Look, I'm not excusing Dillon Brooks for nothing he did. He
good.
deserves all these jokes that are coming his way. But people have a hard time separating jokes from reality and what is actually true.
What's
The
true?
Grizzlies are playing 4
Tho-
and 5
tho-
offensively, and they're starting small for a
those
shot 30%.
jokes are not what are actually true about Dillon
They
Brooks,
subbed-
the
What's
player.
true? What's true,
Dillon Brooks
Terrell?
is a good NBA player.
They subbed
bro.
out Brooks and
He's
put
not
Kennard in it 'cause he was
overseas level
better.
NBA player.
I think
Dillon
Kennard
Brooks
got
is
hurt
a
and
good
it was
NBA
fucking
They
player.
fucked.
lucky.
We understand that, but he's a destructive one.
Hold on.
And he's
Who
one
was
of the
more
better
beneficial for
defenders
the
in
Grizzlies?
the
They were
NBA.
Kennard
subbing
or
out
Dillon
Brooks for Kennard because
Dillon
he was.
Brooks.
This series against the Lakers.
Luke Kennard, bro.
Oh,
were
what the fuck? No,
You didn't watch
fuck
that.
that.
You didn't
Luke
watch it.
Kennard
He's
is
a
as
plus minus guy.
destructive.
Yeah.
He's a plus minus
Luke
guy.
Kennard-
And Luke Kennard, the best
Bro, you're
plus
the
minus
king of
in the
analytics. What
Grizzlies.
are you talking about? King of analytics. You read books on analytics, bro.
I
What are you
do.
talking about?
Do you really?
No, I've never been Taylor Swift. I was gonna think of basketball.
I'm crying on the
guys
Luke.
go
Bro, you
analytics.
dreaming sleep math equations.
Maybe I do, but the best plus minus was Luke Kennard this year on the Grizzlies in the playoffs. In that 6-game series, he was like a plus
Because he could space the
42.
floor.
Now Luke
And
Kennard was
Dillon
letting that
Brooks
thing
In
go,
limited
too.
ass minutes, bro. He's not on the quickest game play fucking defense. That's why the Clippers was not playing him at all. He's getting
It's a fact.
Well, now he's playing at the defensive player of the year, so helps.
Okay, Luke Kennard, bro. Dillon Brooks is a better player than Luke Kennard. Let's stop the
I
fucking
asked you
bullshit.
who was more impactful.
In the series.
Correct.
Okay.
You
Luke
said
Kennard-
Dillon Brooks.
Luke Kennard had a better.
You're a
I
coach.
thought you said as a player.
Okay,
who's
okay,
a-
okay. All right.
In the series, okay.
In the series,
Dillon
relax.
Brooks
The most important
was
thing.
garbage in the Lakers. Nobody's saying he wasn't garbage.
He was
I'm
dog shit against
saying
the Warriors too.
for a team, if I'm picking up, if I'm picking up a player between Brooks and Kennard, it's not a fucking question who I'm picking, bro.
Yeah.
It's Dillon Brooks.
I
Stop
think the
acting like-
Grizzlies in game
All right, so here we
6
go.
would've took
Dillon
Luke
Brooks.
Kennard.
Dillon Brooks against the Lakers shot 31% from the field, 23% from the three-point line, and averaged 10
We're
points.
being rude. We're being rude.
Fucking deserves it. Go on the
He
playoffs.
averaged 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He sucks, bro. He's not that good.
What if she gets the Warriors? Go to last year's series.
Listen, if you're gonna do anything to destroy this guy's reputation, because you want to excuse Ja from anything, bro.
Oh my!
He's a Grizzlies
I
guy.
have tears in my
This
eyes.
guy's a Grizzlies
I
guy.
have tears in my eyes.
hell?
Riv, why did you do that?
Over under 34% last year versus the Warriors. I'm gonna go the under.
Okay, so here we go. Against the Warriors, he shot 31% again
There you go.
from the field. He
That's
shot
starting small
32%
for
from the three-point line. Okay, improvement. He shot 50% from the free throw line. Yo, he's dog
How
shit.
many rebounds? 2?
He scored. He had 12 points.
How many
He
rebounds?
had 3 rebounds. a
There you
game.
go. 3 fucking
Yeah, bro.
rebounds.
I'm
He's 6'7".
sorry.
I hope
You have
the-
to get off this
I
train,
hope-
bro.
I hope
I'm
the-
begging you, bro.
Bro, I hope the apologies is out as disrespect.
I
No
have
one's
tears
gonna be
in my
I
eyes.
hope
apologizing.
the apologies is as loud as the disrespect.
Oh
We
my
think
That's
he's
all I'm
a
saying.
quality He's a great
No,
defender.
no, no. Listen,
Great
I'm
defender.
done hearing
Quality
from you.
player.
I'm done hearing from you guys. I hope the apology is as loud as a disrespect. I hope so. Because next year, he's going to get signed by a team, and he's going to make a huge impact to that team. And I hope that apology is as loud as that disrespect.
You know the Grizzlies won more games without him last year?
Yo, bro, those are all
How
free
many free throws
shots.
did he take, bro?
The Grizzlies
You
in
want
the
me to go
regular
back?
season last year won more games without him.
He takes two free
Dillon
he takes 2 free throws.
missed 15
Which means he
games
misses
last
the
year,
other.
And the Grizzlies won more games when he was in.
Yo. You heard this guy?
What did this guy say? What'd you say?
Last year, Dillon Brooks played 37 games, 2022, and the Grizzlies, winning 56 games, were better without him.
Well, what was the
regular
record
season?
without Ja, bro?
Yeah, come on. What are we doing?
They were better without Ja, too, statistically.
Right,
were.
but
Lost
John Moran
record.
didn't shoot then 31% in the
No, no,
playoffs.
they're-
yeah,
they're-
but we
they're-
lost it.
that was
Well,
an
unguarded,
agenda pushing
30%.
stat. That was an agenda push stat. We caught you.
But it was confirmed by the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, but that was an agenda pushing stat. I got to go with you on
It's
this.
much
We caught
different
you.
with the role player versus superstar. Much
They
different.
fit.
Yeah, they
fit-
should lose with the superstar.
No, yeah,
they should lose when they don't have the superstar.
Right.
You got caught.
They-
They didn't.
they fucking
Not
win
even
without
close. They were whipping ass actually without Ja.
The role player wasn't essential.
Actually, even
in
I think this year
56
also
games.
they were winning games without Ja. They're just built for their regular season. It's just what it is. Like no matter who's in and out, Dillon Brooks sucks.
He's the same energy.
No, there's
You would
energy.
love him on the Cavaliers.
So how many eggs do you have in Dillon Brooks'
That'd be
basket?
nasty. That'd be
Shoot up fucking bricks. I wouldn't want that. We wouldn't win that game.
How many eggs do you have in Dillon Brooks' basket?
Wait until he gets signed, and I'll tell you.
Oh, depending on the team.
I want to see what team he goes to, and I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
He's waiting on the team. I get it. I
I'll
respect
tell
that.
Lord.
You better hope he doesn't team up with Luca. Oh, that's
I don't think
dangerous.
Luca wants him to team up with Luca.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Cut the cap.
Oh, that's dangerous. Now we're gonna skip this topic of previewing free agents from this NBA's class. We'll do it next episode.
Would we rather do that than NFL? Honest question.
I'd rather do NFL.
All right.
I'd rather do NFL.
All right.
So NFL, we're on to the NFL portion of the podcast, and this is just reacting to players whose fifth-year options were and weren't picked up.
Facts.
And listen, I think most of this is fine and dandy. Which players had their fifth-year option picked up?
Here we go.
Joe Burrow, that's
Hey.
an obvious selection. Andrew Thomas, another obvious selection.
Love you, boy.
Most of these will be obvious. Tua, Justin
Obvious.
Herbert, Derek Brown from the Panthers, Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs, Jerry
Lot of linemen.
Jeudy, maybe a little bit of a surprise.
No, that was fine.
Decline.
Hasn't lived up to his hype.
We needed the receiver. I think Cortland's going to be the one that gets the cut, unfortunately. Not cut, but you know what I mean. It's just not going to be on our team.
AJ Terrell, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson,
That was a
and
shock.
Brennan Ayuk.
League is
So-
in great hands.
They are, bro.
2020
A lot of great players here, bro.
2020 draft class was very strong.
Amazing.
It was very strong.
And there were some surprises of who got their options declined,
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
for sure.
So, which players had their fifth-year option
Here we
decline?
go.
Number one, Chase Young.
I was shocked.
That caught me off guard.
I get it, but I was shocked.
Why? Why do you say that?
I get it because he's been injured, and
He's still nice
but the,
as shit.
but the defense has still been nice without
But
him.
think about it. If you decline his option now, if he has an elite season, you have to pay him
That's
more
where
money.
you're cooked.
It's true.
That's where you're cooked.
I'll say
should've
this
banked
about
on
Chase
it.
Young. Chase Young was an elite level prospect. I might even say great prospect.
Right.
He was compared to Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. He's not that player in the NFL.
Year one, he was unbelievable.
was
he,
great.
he won
He
Defense
didn't
Rookie of the Year.
develop before the torn ACL.
But year
Chase
one, he
Young,
was
Chase
amazing.
Young as a rookie was great. I wouldn't say he was at elite level. He was great for a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Young is just not an elite player. He's not a
just
great
been
player.
hurt. That's what it's
Montez
been.
Sweat is a better player than him. And Montez Sweat
He's also
was
more seasoned.
the 15th pick in the previous year's draft in 2019. Chase Young, there's no reason to pay him top money. He's injury prone. He's not an elite level player.
That's what it
he's
is. He's
more
injury prone.
he's more name brand than he is actually.
Now, what if he
great
breaks out,
NFL
has an
edge
elite
rusher.
year? Then
Then Washington will pay him.
fucked.
But that's the risk you
Are you
take.
basing that
But
assumption
you could have took that. You could have took that option. That's not a risk.
prospect is much better
It's
off the
not.
player
It's not, but if
solely
he doesn't
off
play,
what he was
you're gonna
showing
be
the
sick.
lack of development.
Because that's
with
you're
his
not
pass
just
rushing
playing
moves
this year.
in year
That's
two.
already locked. It's the
Was year two?
following year.
Yeah,
after.
I'm
Still
saying
cheap though.
in
A lot
in
better.
9 games in 2021 in 9 games, Chase Young had 1.5 sacks in 9 games.
That's not.
It's not good.
I get it. Yeah.
I think Chase Young was hyped up to be this great
He
elite
was
level
great coming
guy,
out of college.
but
No
he
doubt.
just wasn't that.
It's just in year one, he just showed what he could be, and it was lit, and then it just has not replicated.
Another
unfortunately.
player who was hyped up was Isaiah Simmons, and the Cardinals declined his option as well.
that was understandable.
Yeah, Isaiah Simmons, he has all the tools to be elite. I will say this. He's another guy who was an elite level prospect. The Cardinals did play him all over the field, in the box, slot,
They might
outside
have
corner.
messed up his development, honestly.
They played him everywhere.
Yeah.
But to this point, he hasn't been good in coverage. He's been an average tackler. He's somebody, though, that I think if he goes to a different situation, he could thrive if the
Dallas?
defensive coordinator understands how to use him.
He goes to Dallas. That's scary.
Dallas would be a good fit. I think there's a lot of teams will be a
There
good
are
fit.
good. I mean, I just look at Dallas. They have their answers already on the line. I just think that you add Isaiah, make him a linebacker full time. That's hot.
C.J. Henderson,
Okay.
understandable.
Yeah, not good.
Mekhi Becton.
That's also understandable.
Because of injuries, same
This
thing.
is solely off of injury.
Yeah,
I was disappointed personally. I would have liked to see you guys put that faith and trust in him because he's clearly shown this offseason that he's working. And I would have liked to see it reciprocated by the Jets, but I get it. He's been injured almost every single season since coming into the league. When he's on the field, he's damn good. But the issue is you
Pro
got to be
Bowler.
there. That's what I'm saying.
He's a Pro Bowl level tackle.
He lost a lot of weight, right?
Yeah.
He's
He
ready
looks
for
like
this
them.
year. He's locked in.
Oh.
But that's one of those, if you're the Jets, that might bite you in the ass. Because
What
the
was
whole
this?
point is to have this offensive line boasted up for Aaron Rodgers. And you're already allocating money in a lot of different locations. You're going to have to pay Sauce in the future, which is not in the near future. But, of course, you want Sauce on your team long term. If Makai's one of those that has an unbelievable season, let's just live in this hypothetical that he's an all-pro type tackle. Right? There's a lot of good tackles, but let's just live in that hypothetical. Now you're paying him upwards of 80 to 90 million, and now you're putting
deserved.
yourself
I
handcuffing
don't
yourself.
think any team would give him that type of contract.
I
given
only
his
say
injury
if
history.
he's all pro. That's the only reason why I say 80, 90. But
all
yes,
pro is crazy though.
of course,
Pro Bowler maybe.
Of course, I said let's live in this hypothetical.
So
Fuck your hypothetical.
Okay. No, I'm with you. I don't think he's an all pro level tackle. I just think that I understand. Yes, Pro Bowl level. He could be very good when he's healthy. Has shown that.
what was more risky, declining Chase Young's fifth-year option or Mekhi Becton's?
I think that it's more risky to decline.
They're both injury prone.
I would
But one
say
has
it's
been
more-
elite
it's
when he
Chase.
does play.
Right.
I would say Chase personally.
I think it's Becton because the Jets didn't take that tackle early on.
Well, they got screwed.
They did.
That if we had it this week in the
Shout out
NFL,
Bill.
I
Shout out
think
Bill.
that's understandable. Becton, because Becton is a Pro Bowl level tackle, and the Jets don't have replacements for him.
uh-huh.
Chase Young, the Washington, they have Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat
Right.
is their pass rusher. He's great. He's He's one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. Chase Young, I don't think is, at this point in time with how many edge rushers we have in the NFL, I don't think he's a Pro Bowl edge rusher. I don't think so.
If he balls out this season,
see.
he's going to get paid.
It's been 3 years from Mekhi, too, so we'll see.
Javon Kinlaw, that was understandable to me.
Uh-huh.
He hasn't lived up to his hype at all.
Dog
And
shit.
he got bullied in the NFC Championship game.
I thought you was gonna say bullied in high school.
Austin
Like, how
Jackson,
the fuck did
Yeah,
you know that?
I don't know what. Like, let's
Dolphins
just move on,
offensive
please.
line. Kalavion Chason.
He's not good.
Kalavion Chason from the Jaguars. He was supposed to be a speed
Wasn't he
rusher
like
coming out
really,
of
really
college.
hyped coming out?
He was.
Talk about really, really hype. This next name.
Jalen Rager.
There it is.
You know,
Talk to me.
I could cry.
It's amazing.
I remember.
got
And I have to
jealous.
bring up the
You got
story.
fucking jealous.
I remember when he tried to convince me that Rager was the good pick.
That he's better than Jettis.
No, not better. He was just like, no, this is a good pick, Riff. Relax. You're fine. Jettis was there, but Rager's a good pick. He's a good receiver. So I'm like, he knows his shit. So I'm like, you know what? He knows more NFL college. I'm going to believe him.
Ouch.
That shit died.
Is that
so
why
fast.
you love Justin
Yes.
Jefferson as much as you
It's
do?
a shame Carson Wentz was his quarterback for the first couple of years.
Blame it
No,
on
no, it's just a
blame it
terrible
on,
pick.
blame it
God.
on the. Okay, I see what's going on.
Hey.
Blame it on Wentz.
It's a shame, man, Wentz. Kenneth Murray, linebacker for the Chargers.
We'd have had
Understandable.
Jettis and
You know, the
Devonta.
Chargers are one of the few teams that take positions that aren't valuable high. Kenneth Murray, linebacker, was this pick. He was supposed to be good.
It was supposed to be good. Never really got to that level.
Cesar Ruiz. He was a shocker to me. I think he's a good level guard.
I was gonna say, especially for our offensive line, you need to continue to protect that. So that's why, John. Well, you made a lot of sense about the Mekhi Becton point. So similar here, you need to just continue to have good offensive line, unless they're terribly injury prone.
And 3 linebackers actually got the 5th-year option
Come on.
con. Patrick Queen.
Yep.
That was tough. I
Who
always
he's also
edit.
somebody that was hyped up. But
I always
never
edit
lived
him
up to it.
in Madden, making like a 95. He just looks cool.
And Jordan Brooks.
Talk to me.
Surprise.
Talk to me.
I'm surprised.
Talk to me.
This
Oh,
past
shit.
season was never
No,
good
just
for
talk
him.
to me, please.
About what?
Talk. I think
Bobby
you
Wagner
know what.
just got
John,
cut
who
for
is
$5
that?
million, bro.
Okay, talk
Cam
to me
Thomas?
though. They bring back Bobby, and now they're declining. Brooks.
Bobby in
Why?
the
I thought Brooks was better.
in the 2021 season he was a better player
Wait,
than
Brooks
Bobby
was supposed to be
Wagner.
better.
better last
What
year?
happened?
Last year.
Bobby.
Bobby was better. Jordan Brooks had a bad season last
I'm
year.
just curious. I was told that
were
Bobby
getting
Wagner
cooked.
was
Why did
washed.
No, you were
Bobby
getting
No, he
Wagner
made
is
it. He
washed.
made it a point of emphasis to try and
Did he make
clown
the
me
Pro Bowl?
repeatedly.
All pros is based off name.
Okay.
Like this guy, how do you discredit an All Pro?
CJ
Would you
Mosley
ever
made it.
would you ever discredit an All NBA?
Never.
All NBA is not the same as All Pro.
No, I'm talking about Pro Bowl. I'm talking about the Pro Bowl.
Oh no, Pro Bowl. I don't care about.
Wait,
that.
All NBA is not the same as All Pro.
Stop it.
Is it? I thought it
not.
is.
Also,
Kinda,
Mahomes
sorta.
making
Football-
All Pro. Who cares?
But of those
Of course you wouldn't
positions,
do that.
because look, of those positions, it's easy. Like wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, it's easy to tell who is the best at those positions because the stats tell you things. When it comes to linebacker, tackles don't tell you who is the best linebacker. It's very hard to gauge linebacker play just off face value stats. Tackles don't show you that. Bobby Wagner was not good this past season.
Really?
No, he
Oh
wasn't.
my God, Joel.
He wasn't.
Stop it. Stop, Joel.
And the
Stop.
Rams were dog shit as a team.
That's
Bryce
different.
Young won't start right away.
Good.
They're starting Andy Dalton.
Good.
I could name so many other linebackers that are better than Bobby Wagner this past season. So many others.
Fred Warner,
Fred Warner was way
Matt
better.
Milano.
Matt Milano's way better than him.
Dog.
Who? Tell me.
Bobby Okereke was better than him. Giants do. Giants do. David Long Jr. on the Titans was better than him this past season. There's a lot of linebackers that
John,
are
this
better
is where
than
he's
Bobby
losing
Wagner this past season.
Why didn't the Titans bring him back?
Tennessee. He's a beast.
You're a Steelers fan.
Now Noah Igbenogany, cornerback for the
Yeah,
Dolphins.
Yeah, rightfully so.
And
that
that's
he's not
crazy.
brought back.
2 first-round picks from the
Again,
Dolphins.
they were folding hard.
And then
Who
Clyde
actually
Edwards-Helaire.
killed you guys in the Minka Fitzpatrick trade.
Who's you guys? It's me and Tua.
With respect.
You're a Waddle guy.
No, I know. I like a lot of the players on the Dolphins. I can't lie. I like
You're a
the
Miami
Dolphins.
guy. Cut it out.
I know. I try
Tried to
to.
run
I
from
try
that.
to, but I
Lane
can't.
Lane Vander Esch is better than Bobby Wagner. this
No,
past
he's
season.
not.
Yes, he was. He was way better than him.
I don't care what you say.
He's way better than him.
And you mentioned Clyde.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah,
got
that
option
that
to
shit's crazy because it should be Jonathan Taylor. That right there should
That
be
pick?
Jonathan Taylor.
Was that because of Isaiah Pacheco?
No, he got drafted. No,
No, I'm saying why he got his.
no, because he's not that good.
He
But
showed
also-
out in the Super Bowl. Nick Bolton was better than Bobby Wagner this past season. He is not an All-Pro. Nick Bolton's way better than him.
So
washed.
Again, I say that because Jonathan Taylor was the obvious best running back in the
And they
class.
went with Clyde.
So they selected Clyde because Clyde had an unbelievable season at LSU. Give him his credit. He was unbelievable in the college playoffs, throughout the entire regular season. He was OD. He was supposed to be a really good pass catcher also. That never translated. And Jonathan Taylor is a dog in general.
Fucking 3,000 yards.
Bro, he
seasons
has the
in Big
record.
Ten.
Yeah, bro. Wisconsin, I think.
That's why I watch college football because that's fucking nuts. The stats is.
Yeah, no,
why do you
no,
have
no.
3,000 yard seasons?
Now, what they do is ridiculous.
I don't even understand how that
Spills
go.
a lot.
Like
Monty
that.
Ball was running back for the Broncos. He got drafted to us. It was Eddie Lacy and then Monty Ball. Monty Ball just broke the record for, I think he has the record for yards in a career. I think something crazy in college
Is it
football.
10K?
I could be wrong. Something ridiculous. I thought he was gonna be a dog. Comes to us,
Dog shit.
buns.
Yeah. Typically happens with Denver.
Drafted him in the second round too. He just was not good.
I'm
All right,
still not
so it's
over
him.
I'm still not over the fact that Bobby Wagner has stolen all pro votes for the last 2 years,
Keep it
man.
quiet. Monty Ball 19th all time in terms of yards.
Who's number one?
Number one is Ron Dane.
Out of
Name me
Wisconsin,
somebody
too.
I know. Like keep going.
Tony Dorsett.
Okay.
Ricky Will.
Ricky
How many
Williams.
he has?
Jonathan Taylor, number 6 all time.
What number? What's the number?
Ricky?
No, 20. John Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor had 61-74.
So he's 6 all time. Tony Dorsett second. And then,
Wisconsin's RBU.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's RBU.
Remember when they had what's that? Remember Amir Abdullah in college?
What school did he go to? I'm blanking.
He was at Detroit.
No, I know he played with Detroit.
Supposed to be a beast.
He's on the Vikings also.
Remember Tavon Austin?
I do.
All right.
No, I don't think he made all pro this year, bro.
Who, Bobby?
It was Fred Warner and Rokon Smith.
That made sense. Bobby did not make it.
Yeah.
Mid.
No,
That
Bobby
Rams
was all
defense-
pro.
That Rams defense was a fucking disaster.
Maybe last year.
No.
Pardon my French.
He was
I'm
named
looking.
second team all pro.
Second team. I'm looking
That's
at
what I
first
said.
team. Second team.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
Because he was nice.
No, he wasn't, bro.
That Rams defense
Wake
was a
up!
train wreck.
Stop
wasn't.
living in this fairy tale just to believe and hold
It's
on
not
to
a
the fact that
fairy
you were
tale,
right.
bro.
Crying
It's-
at
You're
fairy tale.
wrong. You told me he was
Thanks,
washed.
Johnny.
That
He
was
is
wrong.
washed. He's washed. He's
Oh
very
my
washed.
god.
It's on 7, bro.
He's very washed.
Oh, wasn't
All right, are we
No, it is.
gonna
Oh,
go?
okay.
Are we gonna? Do you want me to keep talking about player options declined, or are we just reacting?
Well, we'll just talk about it in a bit. So, bro, C.J. Mosley and Bobby Wagner made it, bro. It's a fucking retirement home.
CJ Mosley was really good this year.
Bro, he was average. As a Jets fan, I watched him every down.
understand.
He was average.
I thought he was solid though.
Nick Bolton got robbed. Nick Bolton's way better than both of them.
Nick Bolton's a good ball player for
And he
sure.
showed it in the Super Bowl, too.
He was okay.
In the Super Bowl?
He was all right. Yeah.
Bolton?
Are we gonna pretend like the Eagles didn't go absolutely crazy on offense?
Nick Bolton was amazing.
He was solid.
They stopped
Oh
their
wait,
entire run game.
was he the no? Who was the player that had the
Bolton?
fumble recovery? It was him, Bolton. Facts.
When
It
Jerry
was
Sneed
him.
knocked it out. Bolton.
That's who
recovered
I'm
and
thinking of.
scored it.
Sneed. That's who I'm
Yeah.
thinking of.
But Bolton stopped their entire run game.
Mhm.
He was fucking amazing.
Even though Jalen Hurts ran rampant.
Ran rapids off of QB scrambles, not off of design
No,
runs.
for sure. No, there were design runs.
He ran one off a design run, but
Not one.
the running game, the running backs, it was like what?
Oh no, the running backs were poor.
Yeah, they stopped their running
was
game.
crazy.
They
The
sold
Chiefs-
out on the run.
Chiefs averaged
And
six.
they
I think
succeeded.
6 yards a carry in the
The
Super Bowl.
the Eagles torched the Chiefs passing wise because they really just sold out to stop the run, and that left a lot of wide open guys. Jalen Hurts made a ton of great throws, but the running game was not effective at all. If the running game was effective, then
Jalen Hurts
Eagles
had
would have won the
3
game.
rushing touchdowns. They were on the goal line.
2
a lot of
QB
them.
sneaks. Come on, bro.
Vibes,
That's not,
vibes,
come on.
vibes,
That's
vibes,
not,
vibes.
that's not dominant, prolific rushing.
What did Jalen
offense.
Hurts have rushing? 80-something yards, almost 90.
That doesn't mean that
guessing?
they had a great rushing day though.
He
They
did.
weren't successful
He did.
on the ground. They
Jalen
weren't.
did. No, Miles Sanders and company were not.
But the Chiefs stopped their run game.
Well, Jalen Hurts is the run game. Did they stop him?
He's not the run game. He's a huge cog in it, and that frees up everybody else.
Okay.
If everybody else is not running the ball effectively, the run game will stop.
Okay.
Yes,
But he was running effectively. Was he not?
off of QB
You
scrambles.
guys are arguing a mute point.
No. I
Yeah.
got, say it one more time.
Jalen
You
Hurts.
guys are arguing a mute point.
Jalen Hurts had one big time
agree.
run that inflated his rushing stats, and then everything else it was
Oh, just
negative
one.
gains. Yeah, just one.
Oh, interesting.
Just one. Look at it back. Look at
Oh,
look at the tape
God.
back.
I remember it pretty vividly.
No, I don't think you do.
Because, again, one of my biggest points prior to the Super Bowl starting was that Jalen Hurts was going to run a lot.
And you
He had
have
a-
the,
he had
one of your
11
biggest points
he had
too.
11
is-
rushes.
Next topic.
He had
One of your
11
big-
rushes in the first half.
One of your biggest points was them winning the game.
I know.
fucking
One of my
lost.
biggest points was that they were the better
He
team.
cooked.
That was what it was.
He cooked.
Offensively, they came to play. Defensively was what they were supposed to excel at, and they were mid. Oh, got it. Appreciate that.
I'm looking. His longest run was 28 yards. He had 70 yards rushing.
Okay.
He had 15 attempts, 70 yards.
Nice.
15 attempts, 70 yards is not good, bro.
What's up?
4.5
Nice.
a carry?
Do you think that's 4.5 a carry?
I'm just going to guess off the top of my head. Tell me.
It'd be fire if you get that right.
It
See.
would be
Let's cook.
4.6.
Oh, fuck. Even better.
One of them being 28 yards.
Mhm.
So
And he had
70
3
minus
rushing
28.
touchdowns. He had
So
a great
have
rushing
to
game.
take-
42 divided by 14,
Yeah, yep.
3 yards per carry the rest of
That
the
cooks.
way.
Did I hit 3
Well,
rushing
one of them were
touchdowns?
QB sneaks though, so you got to take those away too.
Yeah, I could take those away. How many do you think?
Was it 2 QB
wanna be
sneaks?
Nah, he had a
generous?
bunch.
It's still gonna be fucked, but you know,
I think
I
right
he had
now
3.
he had 3.
Yeah, 3
So
QB sneaks.
I'll do
Well, are we counting at the goal line where he scored?
Yeah, that's a QB sneak, isn't it?
But there was multiple times where it was third and short, fourth and short. They went
Oh,
through
then
the
his
QBs.
numbers are
So-
fucked.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
ultimately they stopped the run, bro. The Chiefs stopped the run. Like I think if you watch the game, that's a
I
takeaway
did.
come with.
I did. Listen, the passing game was OD. Jalen Hurts went
I just want
crazy.
you to miss me a little when I'm gone.
We're gonna give our top 10 NFL rosters heading into
Should we
2023
go like 10 and then
NFL
9,
season.
and then-
I like that.
I like that too.
I like that
You
too.
know what? I think instead of going like 10, 10, 10, I think we should just go 10, 5 or 10, 6, 5, 1.
I don't know. I
That's
feel
what
like
you
that
wanna
creates
do.
better conversation. We go 10, 10, 10. It's like, oh, who you have who you have who.
No, I think I don't know. It just makes it.
So let's go 2
longer.
apiece.
Let's just go 5 apiece.
3.
And just do two rounds.
This is what's gonna happen. We're gonna go 10-6. We're all gonna talk a lot.
That's a lot of yapping.
That's okay.
A lot of listening. All right, whatever.
So this is number 10, and these are honorable mentions I have that did not make it.
I
The
have honorable mentions,
Jaguars,
too. I have
hate
honorable
both of
mentions.
the Chargers,
You like
the
it.
Seahawks, and the Broncos. I want to mention as that.
Hot.
Number 10, I have the Browns. Number
Yes,
9, I
Joel.
have the Bills. Number 8, I have the
Dude, the honorable
Cowboys.
mention.
Number 7, I have the Bengals. And number 6, I have the Ravens.
So I guess I'll go next.
Bengals over Bengals over the Cowboys.
I think they're a better roster.
So number 10 for me, I have Miami. Number 9, I have Cleveland. Number 8, I have Buffalo. Number 7, I have the Ravens. Number 6, I have the Jets.
Okay. All right, John, do you have your top 10 or?
I do. You want to go?
I can go, sure. Number 10, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Number 9, I have the Buffalo Bills. Number 8, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 7, I have the Dallas Cowboys. And number 6, the Baltimore Ravens.
The Seahawks are tough. That's a tough pick.
They're dumb good.
Really good team.
They're dumb good.
And this conversation is pretty weird because I just value quarterbacks so much more. So I feel like the Chiefs, Bengals teams with top 3 quarterbacks to me, like they should be higher even if the roster is slightly worse because the positional advantage. But number 10 for me, I have the Chargers. Number 9, the Dolphins. Number 8, the Browns. I had the Dolphins a little bit higher than most. And then 7, the Bengals. Actually, fuck that. I'm going to switch them.
He says he values the quarterback and then puts the Bengals at 6.
I'm going to put the Jets at 7 and the Bengals at 6. This is all fluid for me. And then number 5.
Well, that's where we stop.
Okay,
It's 10-6.
got you.
So what's your 10-6? Recap it.
This guy lost me. Dolphins where?
We're about to
9.
find out again. Go. I had him at
10
10.
Chargers.
So the
9
Dolphins at
Dolphins.
9 because Tua, you don't think he's that great of a quarterback.
I think Tua is really good, but he's also injury prone. But I look at the offensive line, which is still limited. Teron Armstead is not going to play a full season, so that's been
That's
holding him
him.
back. Well, he's not going to finish the year, and when he's
How do
not,
you
know
the
that?
offensive line's going
Teron
to
Armstead
in
hasn't
years.
It
finished
doesn't
the year.
matter.
Wow.
He's still when
It
he's on the
does matter.
field. He's
I'm at 10.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm a 9.
They're a really good team.
You
though.
have the
think that's pretty
Dolphins
good.
at 10?
You didn't listen to me at
Dude,
all.
I folded. I'm sorry. 10?
You're a fake piece of shit.
I'm sorry. All right, what's your 10-6? I apologize.
have to
I want to
repeat
apologize.
myself.
I do. I apologize. I
I have
apologize.
Miami at 10,
You lost me.
Cleveland at 9, Buffalo at 8,
Okay.
Baltimore at 7, the Jets at 6.
Okay. You lost me. Joel, I'm sorry. You and I are going to be the only ones that have respect on this table.
Listen, I'm not mad at them having the Dolphins where they have them.
All right.
I
glad
understand
you feel that way.
because the Dolphins, I do think the Jalen Ramsey, David Long addition,
Good-
they were great
good
additions.
additions.
Big time.
But when you look at the Dolphins, the offensive line is still a huge question mark.
And
Your running
Tua.
back position, you don't have a premier guy at that position. They did draft
They
A.
did.
Shane
I
in
was
the
going to say a
draft.
Shane.
He's 5'8", though. You know,
Tua.
how good is he going to be? I'm not sure.
He's fast as shit.
And
Brother
their
can run.
defense, although I love the David Long addition, he does have injury concerns. And their secondary, I like a lot. Their defense is
about
going to
it.
be much improved for sure. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And I do think they're a top 5 roster in the NFL. For me, I have them at 5. Number 4 is 49ers. I understand the quarterback position is a mystery, but the 49ers have shown that it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Number 3, I have the Jets. I think we're a top 3 roster.
It was your 5 and 4.
Niners 4, Dolphins 5.
Okay.
Number 2, the Eagles, and number 1, the Chiefs, Super Bowl champions. And I think the Chiefs, they just find ways. And everybody overlooked this roster going to Super Bowl, and they won.
That's because Mahomes is fucking crazy.
So I guess
And a large part to their defense, too. Their defense stepped up in that game.
I'll go next. I got the Bengals at 5.
Okay.
I got Dallas at 4. I think the additions they made this
I respect
offseason
that.
was really, really huge. I got the Niners at 3 because you can never count them out.
Fine
And
with that.
I think Brock Purdy, even if he starts, or Trey Lance if he starts, Shanahan will have him ready. I have the Chiefs at 2. They did win the Super Bowl, but the additions that the Eagles made in the draft, ace in the draft, and then bringing back key pieces we thought they would lose. I have the Eagles at 1. I think they're the best team in the league.
Okay,
Again,
I like that a lot. I have the Jets number 5, of course. I think their defense is already one of the best, top 5 minimum in the league. I think now they have a quarterback, you see them maybe potentially take that leap to top 2, maybe 1. Who knows? The Niners defense is amazing, so we'll see if that's going to come into fruition. Number 4, I have the Miami Dolphins. I think offensively, I get it where you're talking about your concerns on the offensive line, fine, but I think that healthy Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt.
Miami's winning the division.
I personally think that they definitely could. I think that the Bills, you look at it, their offense, they have Josh Allen.
been running
He's
it
going to
for
be a
some
dog.
time.
He's going to be a dog. But now you have Damian Harris, you have James Cook, who I think James Cook will be a very significant piece to that offense. We saw it late in the season, but of course they had to pay the respect to Devin Singletary. They are still looking for that true number 2. That's a concern for me. Their offensive line is not the best, although you do bring in Kincaid, who's now going to potentially be a blocking, receiving option for you. Dawson Knox, similar in that role. The defense, though, it's good, but then come postseason time, we see it kind of
see what
come
Von Miller
down.
looks like.
That's another one. Him coming back.
And
Hopefully
Trey
he
White.
gets back healthy. Trey White did not look in his normal self. Now he
Full
has a
year
full
low,
off season.
yep, full
That's a
offseason.
fact. So hopefully, if they're healthy, of course.
And the Christian, I think his name is Ben Ford. He was really good last year.
And,
For
and
them.
this is also just based off rosters.
Yeah, no,
who I
I'm
think
with
is
you.
the best roster.
I'm
And
with
I
you.
Not
think
rankings, because these are much different.
it's
my rankings.
It is different. It is different. But I think roster-wise, you look at offensively, there's very few offenses with as much talent as the
I would
Miami
love to hear
Dolphins.
your top 3.
So number 3, I have the Niners. Number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs, and number 1, Philadelphia.
I think Dallas has a better roster than Miami. I think top to
I
bottom,
think
You can
offense.
make an argument.
You could. I
especially with what they just got.
listen. I have
Brandon
I have
Cooks,
Dallas
CeeDee
7.
Lamb.
I have Dallas 7 to have Miami 4.
And I
understand.
like their cornerback duo better than Miami's.
Right. This is tough.
Like
Oh, I
Gilmore and
definitely
Diggs.
do.
It's
I like
definitely
it.
close.
You talk all the time about Xavier Howard last year taking.
He was dog shit, but I think he could bounce back.
He was, but that's also the opposite of him was
That's fair.
who?
I mean, Ramsey
think
and him are
coaching's
coming
gonna
off for
play a role in
bad
being
years.
better.
The secondary as a whole for Miami was not that great.
Holland's tough, though.
Holland,
I'm
yes,
counting
but
on the Cowboys defense to be better than the Dolphins defense this year.
which
And they have
I
Michael
get,
Parsons.
I get now. Micah, of course, now going
And
to a
DeMarcus Lawrence.
full-time DN. Of
Leighton
course,
is back too, right?
Lane is back, yep.
and then they just drafted Mozzie. I mean, the defensive line is
Where
going to
was
be very
Baltimore on
solid.
your list?
Baltimore was 6.
I mean, the Cowboys' offensive line is better. Their receivers with
I'll take
Gallup,
Miami's better.
CD, and Cooks.
I do have concerns about Dallas's offensive line just for age purposes, health purposes.
I
Like
don't
I
think it's an
said,
elite group, but
Teron, Connor, and Robert Hunt.
Connor McGovern,
Connor Williams.
Connor Williams, Zach Martin is better than him.
Jack Martin's
but
great.
Connor,
Like a clear
Connor
one.
plays center.
But the Cowboys have Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and Tyler Smith, and Terrence Steele.
Correct, but again, Tyron Smith, that's a TBD. He's been injured.
That's the same with Teron Armstead, though.
Troy Pollard also clears. if he's
Teron
healthy.
has played more games than Smith has. Last season, Teron missed a bunch of time that Tyler was forced to play left tackle, and Tyler did play well, but and then Jason Peters got signed by them because they were so low at tackle.
That's true,
the
but they have
Cowboys' biggest
Terrence
need is
Steele,
D-tackle.
who's their right tackle, is one of the better right tackles in the league.
I think adding Mozzie Smith and them is going to be huge.
That
And
was-
the wide receiver and corner. I was sleeping on the Bengals, playing them at 5 to 6, because the more I look at them relative to the 49ers and the Cowboys, and like the Bengals upgrading their offensive line. I mean, Jonah Williams was awful last year.
Yeah.
And then more importantly, you add to that defensive front, Miles Murphy. That was a great pick. So I'm going to leave the Bengals at 6 for now.
Just lost
but-
Jesse Bates and Von Bell.
I know, but I think Lou Anarumo, the coaching will make these players better, right? It will make this roster appear
Fair.
better.
It
And
should.
they have Cam Taylor-Britt as well, cornerback, Dax Hill. They drafted those guys last year to step into these types of roles for them. But at number 5, I'm going to have the 49ers. They add in Javon Hargrave. But I think by losing D'Amico Ryans, players like Talanoa Ufanga last year that were so much better, they might take a step back. Steve Wilkes is a really good coach. Don't know if he's as good as D'Amico Ryans. Number 4 for me, I do have the Cowboys. Like I said before, Brennan Cook, Stephon Gilmore, Mozzie Smith. You have multiple tight ends, Jake Ferguson, and then Luke Schoonmaker. I do think, obviously, the offensive line, we need to see that sort itself out. Number 3, I have the Chiefs. I look at the receiver, and then
Ooh.
I do have them at 3.
Okay.
Look at the receiving core, and then left tackle, losing Orlando Brown, Donovan
This
Smith
guy
last
better
year
not have the
struggled big
Steelers
time.
too.
Oh, I have them too. Now I'm fine. Number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like one of their
Respect.
biggest needs was cornerback.
They
too,
got
by
Jawan
losing-
Teller though. The Chiefs did.
Right tackle.
He's playing left tackle.
They
with
said
them.
he's playing left tackle. You're right about that.
No, you got
you are
the
right.
way he got paid. He's
Yeah,
playing
he's
left.
Playing
left.
left tackle.
Question,
I'm
John.
wrong. I'm wrong about that.
Donovan's probably like just a depth piece. I
Probably
think
pick
I
right.
understand with the Chiefs because the wide receiver core is iffy.
Donovan's a right.
The thing with that is though, Baltimore probably has the names, but
Bless you.
I think the Chiefs wide receivers have shown if they have Mahomes, they'll be more reliable. And Kelsey is still the best tight end by far in the league.
The Ravens' defense is
Yeah.
crazy.
Adding in
Yeah.
Roquan with Kyle Hamilton developing as well, I thought Rock Ya-Sin will be fine for $6 million. That was one of their biggest needs, cornerback too.
Yeah, Ravens gonna
So
be tough.
you're right. Thank
The
you for making that
offense-
point, the Chiefs. Because I'm looking at
Offensive
ESPN.
line's OD.
They don't have Juwan Taylor
Offensive
at
line
right
for the
tackle.
Chiefs is OD too though.
It is, but I think the Ravens were statistically they were already one of the best offensive lines. Now the issue was skill positions. Mark Andrews now doesn't have to worry about having number 1 coverage because you have Odell,
Question
which
mark.
is a TBD, and Zay Flowers, who's
Question mark.
also a TBD. Joel, I'm not as high on Zay Flowers as Joel is. Joel has
Now he
him-
sold me.
No, I'm in on Zay Flowers. I'm just giving Joel that credit of him. That's his guy. But Zay Flowers, I still think that he can be a very dynamic piece for them. It's just a matter of, is it going to happen rookie season? Or is it going to happen in his sophomore year? Rookie season, if you're expecting that, then for them really to take this top 2 leap, I just automatically have to put in my head that Zay Flowers needs to be a top 30, top 35 guy,
Yeah.
in my
He has
opinion.
to be a 1K guy.
Am I
You know what I mean? Like, we've seen
But I
rookies
think
break
Travis
out, but
could-
those are the ones that really put themselves
Travis
in
could
the elite group.
outperform 2 of them together.
He can.
Am
He
I
can.
crazy for thinking with this Ravens defense, they're top 2?
No, I don't think
No,
you're
it
crazy.
Not
I
at
was
all.
just asking. I'm just
No,
asking
listen,
questions.
I'm not calling you crazy for
I didn't
that.
call you
I'm
crazy
only
either.
saying that on paper, in terms of rosters, it's the skill position players that's holding me back from putting them there. Listen, I have them 6. I believe in
also
it.
have them 6. I'm
I
good
have
with you.
them. I believe in this team.
So
I
the
do
defense
believe-
is
I'll be honest, when it
nasty.
comes to the Cowboys, I understand Tyron Smith being injured is a concern, but if he's healthy, this is one of the better offensive lines in the league.
Okay.
Terrence Steele is really good at right tackle. Tyron Smith, we know when healthy, is one of the better left tackles in the league.
No doubt.
Tyler Smith at guard now is a game changer,
too.
and Zach Martin, who's an All-Pro. The only questionable one
center.
is Tyler Biadish at center.
No,
But
Travis
he's
Frederick
okay.
screwed the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Retiring at 29
It's
really
unfortunate
did
for
put them
him
in a
with
bad
his-
place.
with
Happens.
his health position.
Unfortunately.
But this Ravens
I
defense,
respect it for sure.
They have David Ajabo coming back with
Oh, yeah,
Tyus
I'm with you. I
Tyus
was
Bowser,
just
and they also got Trent Simpson as
So
well.
who's your number
and
one?
third
asking
round.
questions, buddy.
Number 1 for me is the Eagles. I mean, that roster is
They're
as close
OD.
to flawless as
They're
it's
OD.
gonna come.
They're just
So-
they're just
And
perfect.
they just continue to
We'll
add
run
more
on the table
depth
again.
to it.
Your
I
offensive
value
line,
depth.
amazing.
So.
You bring in DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts, Savage, Devonta Smith,
coming.
AJ Brown, Dogs.
Literally
Defensively, Darius Slay, James Bradbury. You do
Busting.
lose your safeties. That's really was
Painful.
kind of an issue, no doubt.
Marcus
Will be
Epps.
fine.
But your front set, Epps solid.
No, I'm saying, yeah. We lost
Yeah,
Marcus Epps.
of facts. That's a
Lost
fact.
TJ
And
Edwards.
Maddox is going to be your one of your
Slot.
safeties. Is that what it
He
is,
can
or is
play
he going to
both.
play
He
corner?
can. He can play both.
I
We
just
have
said it
Greedy,
because
too.
you need.
A slot converted safety.
Okay,
Greedy is like a 4th.
okay, but then you bring in Javon Carter.
Oh.
You have Jalen Carter. I apologize.
Javon.
I know. Who am I thinking of?
Javon.
Javon. Oh, facts.
Javon. Shout out to
Facts.
the Bucks.
Shout out to
The best
P.
player
Shout
in
out to
the
Javon.
I think Keely Ringo could play safety too for them. That was a good pick.
Nolan Smith, man.
So
I'm coming.
I
Yeah,
forgot
your
to mention
defensive
Isaiah
line's already
Likely.
one of the best
That
in the
Ravens,
league.
that Ravens weapon room is so underrated.
This is year
We
3,
see-
Devonta.
We see year 2,
ready,
Isaiah
dog.
Likely, and
Yeah.
then Rashad Bateman being healthy.
I think
That's
they are
gonna be-
underrated. OBJ, you can at least get a half healthy season from him.
Yep.
That'll be good. Zay Flowers is going to be great. Rashad Bateman is a great deep threat. Then you have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. This team is going to be really, really good. And Tom Monken is going to really give Lamar
He
Jackson
wants
his
to throw for
best pass season.
6K. I'm here for it.
He'll throw for 4,000 over for sure.
Okay.
He's never thrown over 3,100 passing yards in his career.
Who, Lamar?
Lamar.
Really?
He would throw for 4,000.
He's never thrown over 3,000?
I think he'll be closer to 5,000 and 4,000.
He's been hurt back-to-back years, though, right? Yeah.
He'll be closer to 5,000 than 4,000.
Yes.
Big year,
Yes.
big arm.
He'll be like 4,600.
Big arm Lamar year?
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
So no.
In fact, with no injuries, for sure.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
so I don't want to hear you call him no arm Lamar if he
Yes,
struggles.
enough is
You
that.
can't shit talk him if he doesn't do it.
I haven't called him no Lamar.
I don't want to hear no more. Come on, Lamar. Then.
Well, come on, Lamar is him making stupid decisions late. It's not about his arm, about just.
It's like you have a
decision-making.
love-hate relationship with Lamar.
No, I think Lamar's a great quarterback for
You
sure.
lose me. You lose me.
I think he's a great
If
quarterback.
Joel was here, he'd be having a field day.
That's because Dehls don't know. He be flipping the side all the time. He don't know.
That's your protege.
He don't know
You
what.
taught him the
happening.
ropes. John fell off.
He's just mad that I gave the Lamar Jackson passing stats before him. He was mad. He ain't have them. And I said, listen, he's a great passer. And Dell's like, that was supposed to be me. So ever since then, he's been jealous of me praising Lamar Jackson.
I'm sure he would not like to hear this at all.
Chris Bass. They won in spite of Budenholzer. He is the Mike McCarthy of the NBA. He did the same thing in Atlanta. Deserved.
That's disrespectful.
Damn.
Deco, what do you guys think about Mike D'Antoni to the Bucks? I think the Bucks will be fine defensively. It's the offense that hurts them. Find a more offensive-minded coach. He used Amari well in New York. Could help Giannis.
I'll tell you what, if you bring in D'Antoni, maybe we start to see an increase in Drew Holiday and his performance on the offensive side of the ball. But I think I'd rather Nick Nurse for entirety of the team as opposed to just the point guard.
Aiden Ramirez. What's up, fellas? San Diego's pick-a-side ambassador has a question for y'all that will knock your socks off.
Hot.
Which franchise can benefit the most from winning a championship this year? All love, compadres.
Lakers have the most titles all time.
The Nuggets.
I look at
Nuggets,
the teams.
Good answer.
I would say the Nuggets.
Knicks,
Or the Knicks.
of course.
Knicks.
I mean, come on.
76ers haven't won a title since 83.
It'll only mean
OKC
it'll,
hasn't won a title technically since the 70s.
it'll only mean a lot for the Lakers winning if we play the Celtics in the finals.
But OKC doesn't. They're not in the playoffs.
Huh?
OKC's not left in the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
I look at the teams that their franchise would benefit, but also the players. I think it has to be the Sixers with Harden and Embiid, the
Okay.
City. I think I'll take that into
It
account.
would mean a lot to Philly for sure.
Definitely a legacy series for PJ Tucker.
The Tribe. Giannis in like year 10. He doesn't have a bag. We know. They didn't double Jimmy over 10 times in that series. Bud had to go. T's and P's to him and the fam.
Like, what do we mean he doesn't have a bag? He's a big man.
Who?
Giannis.
He is a
He
wing.
also indeed does not have a bag, though, to be fair.
Embiid
Why-
does.
Plays
Embiid
wing
has a
role.
bag.
That's
Embiid
the
is
thing.
Jokic?
Nah.
Like, so what the
Embiid
fuck?
has a bag,
Giannis
though.
is an
has
initiator and
handle,
a
though.
wing.
Well, how
player.
about Giannis's Euro? We don't talk about his Euro.
That's a good
He
move.
travels. His walk.
No,
All
it's
the time.
not.
Every time
Sometimes.
it's a
He's
travel.
got the longest strides in the NBA.
Let's not be disrespectful. Come on.
No, it's because they added the new
the guy.
gather.
step.
Yeah, it's a
The
wall.
Tribe goes, the gap offensively in Jokic's
Harden walks,
favor
oftentimes.
is wider than the gap
20 years
defensively in
ago, it's a walk.
Embiid's favor. Harden doesn't get to the rim like he used to. Still great, though.
That's completely facts.
Now, this Eli,
Jokic is the best
misfit.
offensive big in NBA history.
Heat in 6. Jalen trash, man. Bum J. Barrett, Lando.
Don't do this. Don't do
Appreciate
this.
Eli.
It's insane
Sean
work.
Courtney. Shout out, Sean, for the great content. Warriors in 6.
Lost me.
Also, everyone give the stream a like.
Hey, listen to the man.
If you're listening right now, make sure you like this stream. You give the podcast 5 stars. It helps us a lot. Now, this from RJ to God. Is Tatum the worst number 1 option left in the playoffs? I personally don't like the Knicks, but at least Brunson has been showing up when they need him most.
No, that's cap.
That's wild.
Yeah, Tatum's
Not the
better
worst.
number
Second
1
worst?
option.
Yeah,
than
second
Brunson.
worst?
People
I
just
think
get so rude.
Probably. Are you still playing LeBron over?
No.
It's like when you say like it's tough for LeBron, you can't say no.
I would have Tatum above LeBron, but it's not disrespectful. Okay.
Now, Q Boogavelli goes Chase to Chicago. I'm assuming.
He's been pushing Chase Young. He's been
Chase
pushing that for a
Young.
long
That'd
time.
be
Lit.
I would love that. They need edge rushers. They didn't really target that in the draft, right?
they need everything.
No, they don't need
They
everything.
should have drafted Jalen Carter.
Chase
me.
Young in Chicago would be perfect, I think, for Eberflus.
It's cold out there.
Who gives a shit?
And that's going to do it for episode 278
Food
of
is
the
fire.
Pick Aside Podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pick Aside Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick Aside Podcast. And if you guys want to buy Pick Aside merchandise, you can at pickasidepodcast.com. We have a bunch of hoodies, different colors, and shirts. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys give this stream a like. Give this podcast 5 stars. You rate it. Thank you for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time.